After the wealthy young heiress fainted, she discovered she could hear the inner thoughts of everyone around her. She looked toward her white moonlight, who was trembling as he wept. But in her ears, his inner grumbling echoed, "Faking these tears is absolutely exhausting. Why hasn't Lin Wanwan come over to comfort me yet? If it were like before, with me looking like this, she would have been worried sick about me by now. 5 years away from this country. Could she really have developed feelings for Mu Chen while I was gone? I must make her divorce Mu Chen as soon as possible. Only I can be the son-in-law of the Lin family. I must become the most powerful man in this city." Lin Wanwan's pupils constricted in pure shock. She couldn't believe these were Zhou Zimo's true thoughts. They had known each other for over a decade. He had always acted like someone indifferent to wealth and fame, who knew his heart was so full of such schemes. She felt this mind-reading ability was simply absurd. It must be an illusion from my head injury. But immediately after, another voice rang out. Even if Lin Wanwan and Mu Chen are legally married, she still only has eyes for me in her heart. All my efforts over the years haven't been in vain. I can't afford to ruin the plan now that I've returned, no matter what I ask for. Lin Wanwan will obediently follow along. Money, status, and even her identity, everything she owns will eventually be mine. Lin Wanwan squeezed her eyes shut. Zhou Zimo's greedy inner voice was crystal clear in her ears, leaving her unable to deceive herself any longer. The blood in her veins seemed to freeze with cold dread. The man she had loved so deeply for years was plotting against her. Lin Wanwan snapped her eyes open in a fit of rage, her cold gaze fixed intensely on Zhou Zimo. Zhou Zimo recoiled, terrified by that unfamiliar look. A flicker of panic flashed through his mind. He grabbed her arm, asking softly with concern, "Lin Wanwan, what's wrong?" Lin Wanwan didn't even acknowledge him. The unease in Zhou Zimo's heart grew more intense. Just as he was about to press further, the doctor standing nearby spoke up just in time. "The patient needs absolute peace and quiet right now. Family members, please be mindful." As soon as the doctor finished speaking, Wen Shuzhen brushed Zhou Zimo's hand away. With a look of pure disgust, she pushed him aside. Suppressing his anger, Zhou Zimo spoke gently. "Auntie Wen, I want to stay here and take care of Lin Wanwan." At that moment, I stepped forward with a calm expression. I looked at him and asked coldly in return, "By what right do you think you can stay and care for her? I am Lin Wanwan's lawful husband. It is my duty to look after my wife. As for you, an outsider, what do you count for?" Though I've already decided to divorce her and distance myself from this messy drama, but before I officially process the paperwork and leave, I must vent the pent-up resentment from my past life. Zhou Zimo bit his lip in frustration. He turned to Lin Wanwan with a pitiable expression. In my fixed memory, whenever Zhou Zimo put on this martyred look, Lin Wanwan would never let his bully off the hook. But this time, Lin Wanwan remained completely expressionless. She didn't even bother to give him a single glance. Zhou Zimo anxiously gripped the hem of his shirt. Tears began to well up in his eyes. Lin Wanwan. Lin Wanwan finally spoke her first words since waking. "I need some peace and quiet to rest. Everyone, get out." She completely ignored Zhou Zimo's display of weakness. She even unceremoniously kicked everyone out. Zhou Zimo's face turned pale in an instant. He couldn't fathom why Lin Wanwan had become so cold. He could clearly sense her anticipation before he returned, but now was clearly not the time to dig for answers. Zhou Zimo wiped away a tear. He forced a bitter smile. His eyes were clouded with deep melancholy. "Then please rest well and take care of your health. I'll visit you again tomorrow." But internally, he was viciously plotting while I was abroad. That insidious Mu Chen must have taken the chance to usurp my place. I knew he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Always clinging to Lin Wanwan like a leech, he is absolutely repulsive. Only I can be Lin Wanwan's husband, only by successfully entering the Lin family. Can I shed this mediocre background of mine? Lin Wanwan truly couldn't stand listening to these schemes any longer. She gritted her teeth. Suppressing her rage, she roared, "Everyone, get the hell out!" Zhou Zimo sniffled in grievance. He had no choice but to quietly leave the room. His back looked incredibly lonely and desolate. When Shuzhen tucked the blanket in for Lin Wanwan and whispered, "Lin Wanwan, rest assured on your hospital bed. Your father and I will be waiting right outside the door. Call me anytime if you need anything." Lin Wanwan nodded tiredly. She closed her eyes tightly. "That's exactly what I was hoping for. I was just about to make a quick exit, but the moment I moved to turn away, Lin Wanwan snapped her eyes open from the bed. "You, stay here." I lowered my gaze. A mocking smile played on my lips. I slowly walked toward her bedside. Only Lin Wanwan and I remained in the room. Once the noisy, calculating inner voices vanished from her ears, Lin Wanwan's taut nerves finally began to relax. Nyingsu Tuzianne like Haotelmo Vende. A bone-deep pain began to radiate throughout her body. I looked at her with a neutral expression and asked, "Does it hurt anywhere?" Lin Wanwan bit her lip and said nothing. I arched an eyebrow. Then I sat down in the chair by the bed. If anything feels wrong, it's best not to hide it from the doctor. Lin Wanwan's gaze grew sharp, as if she were scrutinizing me. A faint, thin smile touched the corners of my mouth. I didn't utter a word, but internally, I sighed. After all, we were husband and wife for 3 years. How could I possibly not see through these little thoughts of yours? Lin Wanwan frowned slightly. Her mind was filled with confusion. Husband and wife for 3 years? Is he talking about the two of us? But we only just had our wedding yesterday. Do you want some water? Lin Wanwan gave a very slight nod. I stood up and headed toward the water dispenser. I stared at the flowing water, slowly drifting into a hazy train of thought. I've finally done it. To be able to face Lin Wanwan as calmly as a still lake. Does this mean I've completely let her go? To cast off all the shackles of the past and try to embrace a completely new life. Honestly, thinking about it clearly now, there's no one in this world you can't live without. Nor is there any love that never fades. It's time for me to look ahead. I must not carry this obsession with Lin Wanwan into this hard-won new life. I reached out and turned off the tap. I returned to the bed with the water and a cotton swab. Your condition is quite specific right now, so you can't drink much water. Let me use this swab to moisten your lips. She observed me with a calm gaze, although my thoughts seemed full of oddities to her. Nungkoe kunkate kamnyan ra rang rang, toda tung ukoe rut sodum. This completely overturned everything she had previously believed. She was always certain that I married her, only because the Mew family had fallen from grace and wanted to use the Line family to climb higher without a single ounce of sincerity or affection. Thinking of my status-seeking parents, a flicker of repulsion involuntarily crossed her eyes. She was convinced such a family couldn't raise anyone decent, but the reality before her slapped her hard. The man she trusted implicitly to love her was actually full of schemes behind her back, while the one she guarded against as being manipulative had actually loved her with all his heart and soul. How ironic. I placed the water on the nightstand and sat down. After a while, I really didn't want to face her anymore. Let me go find a caregiver to look after you. Lin Wanwan's face darkened instantly. No, I'm not used to strangers attending to me. I widened my eyes slightly in surprise. I seriously wondered if her brain had been damaged in the crash. After a long silence, I had no choice but to sit down again. I've already discussed it with Auntie Wen. I'll take responsibility for you until you're discharged. Once you're out, we will proceed with the divorce. Having uttered the word divorce so casually, my tense shoulders relaxed immediately. I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. It was as if all the gloom of my past life had completely vanished. Lin Wanwan maintained her same expressionless face. The word divorce didn't seem to cause a single ripple in her emotions. I lowered my head, quietly staring at the hospital floor. A self-deprecating smile flashed briefly in my eyes. I really was pathetically stupid back then. In my last life, I naively thought sincerity alone, and staying by her side without hidden motives could win her over. She was clearly cold and heartless to her very core. The tiny bit of pity she was capable of giving was never much to begin with, and she had long since exhausted it all on Joe Zemo. Where would she find any leftover emotion for anyone else? Events of a past life. Lin Wanwan began to realize something very strange. It seemed as if he had lived through a future no one else knew about. This was completely beyond her previous understanding. If it were before, she would have certainly scoffed at such a thing. Nyungjode Sauki Tu Min Trangim. She felt that nothing was impossible. She didn't look away, fixing her eyes on me. We only just held our wedding yesterday. And now you're already so impatient for a divorce? What will people say? Have you considered the consequences? I kept my head down, not meeting her gaze. Thus, I missed the complex emotions flickering across her face. We can choose to keep it quiet for now and not announce it. But no wall in this world is airtight. What on earth did she mean by that? I'm the one initiating the divorce, ending our relationship. Shouldn't she be overjoyed and agree immediately? Doesn't she hate being forced into things the most? Being forced to marry me had already made her loathe me. Because of that, she rejected me even more. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to dispel the terrible memories swarming in my head. I looked up at her in confusion and asked back, "Don't you want to divorce me right away?" Lin Wanwan awkwardly avoided my gaze. It's not that I don't want a divorce, it's just that at such a sensitive time. Divorcing right now isn't very appropriate. It would cause trouble for my work and personal life. I understood and nodded slightly. Fine, I understand your concerns. Lin Wanwan frowned, perplexed. What exactly does he understand? She was eager to pry into my thoughts, but my heart was perfectly serene right now. Not a single ripple, naturally. She couldn't find the answer she was looking for. Try to get some more sleep. When you wake up, we'll prepare something for you to eat. I stood up. Lin Wanwan asked hurriedly. Where are you going? Is my presence here disturbing your rest? I looked at her with total astonishment. Lin Wanwan coughed lightly and turned her head away. You're not disturbing me. If I wasn't mistaken, it seemed as though she was feeling shy. That truly felt a bit strange. Lin Wanwan's expression shifted as she looked toward me. It startled me quite suddenly. I tilted my head, full of questions. Is something wrong? She pursed her lips and said nothing. I sat back down nonchalantly to check my phone. Being injured, Lin Wanwan's energy was severely depleted. Before long, she had drifted off to sleep. Looking at her with a fleeting sense of hostility made my heart feel incredibly heavy. I stood up to leave and went into the restroom. After coming out of the restroom, I saw Joe Zemo leaning against the wall. I wasn't surprised in the slightest. Joe Zemo was the first to speak. Did you just go and snitch on me to Lin Wanwan? Whenever he faced me, Joe Zemo never deigned to look me in the eye, as if he were inherently superior to everyone else. There was always a hint of contempt in his eyes. That was the confidence Lin Wanwan had instilled in him. I tossed my hair and said with a smile, "Why don't you try guessing for yourself?" Joe Zemo lost his cool a bit. "Mu Chen, you should take a good look at the situation. I don't want to say anything too harsh. Lin Wanwan and I are childhood sweethearts. If it hadn't been for Grandpa Lin's interference, refusing to cancel that engagement, then we would have probably been married long ago." I looked directly into his smoldering eyes and replied with a smile, "So what? What use is being childhood sweethearts? In the end, I'm the one who married her. No matter how jealous you get, it's futile. You can only stand there and watch us be intimate. Objectively speaking, besides Joe Zemo himself, I am probably the person who knows him best, and I knew exactly how to push his buttons." Sure enough, his breathing quickened instantly. "Mu Chen, how dare you say that? Do you think Lin Wanwan will truly stay with you? You really ought to take a good look in the mirror. Lin Wanwan hates you with a passion. Are you really this stupid, or are you just acting? Of course I understand clearly in my heart. I saw through all of this a long time ago, when Lin Wanwan and I first met. We were both still just children. I thought she was truly beautiful, and I wanted to approach her to get to know her. Nunkicheko koe lai lung vasakat, radiating a do-not-approach vibe to everyone. It made me never dare to get close to her. From then on, we didn't see each other again. Until the year we finished high school entrance exams, Grandpa Lin invited me to the Lin family home. I knew she was my fiancée. My young, adolescent heart simply fell completely for her, and I also understood that she didn't like me at all. She even absolutely loathed me, seeing me silent and not responding. Joe Zemo felt much more relieved. He flashed a triumphant smile. "Lin Wanwan is naturally ruthless toward people she hates. I'm only saying this for your own good. I advise you to get a divorce as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll be the one suffering later." Even though his goal was for us to divorce, honestly, his words weren't wrong at all. I suppressed the urge to nod in agreement, and I uttered words of disdain. "Don't think so highly of yourself. In the 5 years you were abroad with your parents, everyone changes. Wasn't it just now in the hospital room that you felt her coldness yourself? You must be starting to panic inside, aren't you?" Immediately after I finished speaking, Joe Zemo's face turned pale in an instant. How could he not be panicking? Because Lin Wanwan had never treated him so coldly before. I saw through it and spoke sarcastically. "No foundation is so solid it can't be undermined. I've put a lot of heart into this over the last 5 years. Where on earth do you get the confidence to believe she must belong to you and will always loathe me?" Joe Zemo opened his mouth to argue back, but even after a long while, he couldn't utter a word. Seeing him so internally tormented meant my goal was as good as achieved. I started to walk away. Lin Wanwan has loved me for many years. She will surely love me for the rest of her life. I stopped and tilted my head, whispering, "Then let me wait and see how long that delusional confidence of yours can last. I will definitely make Lin Wanwan leave you." Joe Zemo clenched his fists tightly. His expression looked absolutely hideous. I let out a cold laugh, then I strode away without looking back as I reached Lin Wanwan's hospital room door. I didn't rush inside immediately. Instead, I suddenly recalled Joe Zemo's past attacks. He and Lin Wanwan had joined forces to suppress me, throwing me completely into the depths of despair, forcing me to endure excruciating pain, making me taste every bitterness life had to offer. Now that I have the chance to start over, of course, I can't just let it go. But how exactly should I strike back? If I were to cause a direct conflict with them, it wouldn't really be a very wise choice. I don't want to because of those two. Ruin my own life all over again. Heaven gave me the chance to start anew, not to repeat the mistakes of the past, making them lose everything they have, using their own methods to pay them back in kind so that he too knows the feeling of hitting rock bottom. Not to mention whether I even have the ability to do so. But even if I did, I fear that my entire life would revolve around nothing but revenge. Besides such extreme methods of revenge, there is actually another option for me, which is to find a way to destroy the feelings between them. Yet just thinking about that process makes me feel truly suffocated and breathless. Facing and acting before those I hate every single day would truly be horrific torture for me. After thinking it through carefully, I think it's better to bury those grievances deep in my heart, to cherish this golden opportunity to restart my life and open a completely fresh chapter for myself. Wouldn't it be better to live a comfortable and peaceful life? I reassured and convinced myself once again. With an expressionless face, I pushed the door into the room. At this moment, Lin Wanwan was still deep in sleep. I went into the bathroom to wash my face briefly. Then I came out and lay down on the caregiver's bed, preparing to have a good sleep. I've been swamped with work all day today, so I haven't had a proper moment to rest. Thus, sleep came to me very deeply and peacefully. By the time I opened my eyes once more, the sky outside the window was completely shrouded in darkness. I reached for my phone to check the time and couldn't help but gape in shock. It was already 5 o'clock in the morning. Have you rested enough? A woman's gentle voice rang out right in my ear. I looked up toward her. I'm doing fine now. Lin Wanwan said nothing more. The original silence once again enveloped the hospital room. Are you hungry? My stomach is starting to feel a bit hungry. We both spoke almost in unison. After speaking, we fell into silence once again. A hint of irritation flickered across my face. I threw off the blanket and got out of bed. Let me go find something for you to eat. Currently, you can only eat thin porridge. When I bring it back, you're not allowed to be picky. I thought I needed to clarify everything from the start. Otherwise, if I were to bring the porridge back later, and Lin Wanwan showed me that unpleasant face again, then it truly would be useless and entirely unnecessary. Lin Wanwan nodded very nonchalantly. I understood that very well. I put on my shoes and walked quickly toward the door. I pushed the door open and stepped into the hallway, and encountered Su Jiaqi leaning right next to the window. A bright smile instinctively broke out on my face. Assistant Shu, so you were here. Su Jiaqi clearly froze for a second, then she lowered her head slightly with embarrassment. Hello, sir. In an instant, I suddenly remembered something. At this point in time, Su Jiaqi didn't know who I was at all. The smile on my face gradually faded and then vanished. A faint sense of regret welled up in my heart. Su Jiaqi was Lin Wanwan's right-hand assistant. In my last life, after I officially married Lin Wanwan, I gradually became very close to her. Su Jiaqi truly was an exceptionally kind person. She always had a deep sense of empathy for me, and often helped and cared for me a lot in life. In the depths of my soul, I truly felt incredibly grateful to her and always wanted to find a way to thank her. However, now that everything has started over, I fear I'll never have the chance to be friends with her again, so I can only quietly bury this gratitude deep within my heart. I gestured slightly toward Lin Wanwan's room. Lin Wanwan said she's starting to feel hungry. Su Jiaqi nodded very politely. Yes, I'll go get the porridge and bring it over right away. After Su Jiaqi had turned and walked a distance away, I casually took out my phone and turned it on and saw a new message sent from Lu Subai. How is Lin Wanwan's condition right now? My friend, are you doing okay right now? Lu Subai was my close friend of many years now. Having this precious chance to restart my life, I had to restrain myself and didn't dare to contact him first. It was because I was terrified that after talking to him, all my pent-up emotions would completely burst forth. When a person is standing right on the brink of a breakdown and faces a friend they trust with all their heart, they'll immediately drop all their masks and defenses to instantly become incredibly soft and fragile, just exactly like me at this very moment. My nose stung with tears I couldn't stop. I took a deep breath to regain my composure, then I quickly typed a reply to his message. Lin Wanwan's condition is no longer a concern. I'm also doing very well myself right now. So, don't worry too much about me. Let's talk more tomorrow when I'm at the university, okay? What? You're saying you're coming to the university? You finally thought it through at last, even through the screen. I could clearly feel his extreme excitement. I only let out a faint, gentle smile and didn't continue messaging him back. I was originally a medical student at the university. If it hadn't been to marry Lin Wanwan and being forced to drop out by Wen Xiuzhen's unreasonable demands, then by now, I would have likely been on the verge of becoming a real doctor and living a life that, though perhaps not bathed in glory, but it is certainly a rich and meaningful life. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. Leaning against the cold wall, I let my mind wander. Su Jiaqi returned and saw me lost in thought. She really didn't want to speak up and disturb me, but she was worried that Lin Yuanyuan might be hungry and grew anxious. She still stepped forward. Mr. Mu, I've brought the porridge back. I immediately snapped back to reality. I took the thermos from her hands. I smiled gently and asked, was this brought from home? Yes, the madam cooked this porridge herself. It has been kept at the nurse's station until now. She told me to bring it in once the young lady woke up. Su Jiaqi spoke with a bit of restraint. She truly considers me to be Yuan Yuan's husband now. Thinking back to when I was still at the Lin family home, the only person who actually respected me, the one who could treat me like a normal human being, was only Su Jiaqi. I held the thermos in my hand. I didn't rush into the hospital room. Instead, I looked at Su Jiaqi and asked kindly, what time did you get here? Around 7 p.m. last night. I came here right after finishing my work. Well, it's enough with me looking after her here. You should go and get a good night's sleep. Faced with my sudden concern, Su Jiaqi frowned slightly. Clearly, she felt a bit awkward, but she still replied very respectfully. Thank you for your kindness, sir. The old madam told me to stay here on duty. I can't go to rest just yet. I noticed the expression on her face. I realized this was putting pressure on her, so I could only nod helplessly. All right then, I'm heading in. With that, I turned and entered the hospital room. The room's door didn't have very good soundproofing. Lin Yuanyuan inside the room must have overheard the conversation just now. I pushed the door open and walked in. Lin Yuanyuan looked at me, her expression shifting slightly. I didn't notice it at the time. I walked over and placed the container on the nightstand. I opened the lid and poured the porridge into a bowl. Then I calmly sat down on the chair. preparing to feed the porridge to Lin Yuanyuan. I brought the spoonful of porridge close to Lin Yuanyuan's mouth, but she pursed her lips tightly, refusing to open them. My eyes were filled with confusion. You don't want to eat? Did you and Shu Jiaqi know each other from before? Lin Yuanyuan's eyes wavered slightly. I pursed my lips lightly, then I answered indifferently. We don't know each other. Lin Yuanyuan's sharp eyes narrowed slightly. She looked like a storm was about to break. Seeing her make this face, there was nothing unfamiliar about it to me anymore. I placed the spoon back in the bowl. I asked in a calm tone, did she do something that displeased you? I really don't want to serve you anymore. Lin Yuanyuan opened her mouth slightly, but then she pursed it tightly again. She knew that if she said anything more, I would definitely put the bowl down and leave immediately, and it would be the kind of departure where I never look back. Before she could figure everything out, she didn't want me to escape her control. Are you going to eat or not? Seeing Lin Yuanyuan remain silent, I gradually started feeling impatient. Lin Yuanyuan had never heard anyone speak to her like that. Her expression instantly became extremely unpleasant, but she took a deep breath and continued to eat. She truly was starving. Finishing one bowl was just enough to take the edge off, but it seemed she still wanted to eat more. I set the bowl in my hand down. I spoke in a calm voice. You shouldn't eat too much right now. Lin Yuanyuan wasn't a child after all, since I had stated it so clearly. Even if she wasn't full yet, she could only leave it at that for now. I tidied up the thermos container neatly. I picked up my things and stepped out of the room, handing it over to Shu Jiaqi. When I went back in, it was almost 6 o'clock. I walked slowly to the bedside. I tucked the blanket carefully around Lin Yuanyuan. Then I spoke to her seriously. I have to go to school now. Lin Yuanyuan raised an eyebrow slightly. So, let the caregiver look after you during the day. Will you come back after class? I nodded slightly. I promised Wen Shujin to care for her until discharge, and I always keep my word. I wouldn't quit halfway. Go then. Lin Yuanyuan immediately closed her eyes. I had to go home and change before heading to school. Before getting married, I was filled with joy, moving all my belongings into our new home. So now no matter how much I didn't want to, no matter how I hated returning to that place of pain, I had no choice but to go back for a visit. I took a taxi straight to the front gate. As soon as I walked in, I saw Chu Huilan inside. I raised an eyebrow in great surprise and asked, Mom, you're still here? You haven't gone home? I knew you'd come here after leaving the hospital. I want to have a proper talk with you. Seeing that there was still plenty of time, I wasn't in a hurry to get to school immediately, so I simply went over and sat down. Chu Huilan asked with a look of dissatisfaction. Are you serious about divorcing Yuanyuan? You've truly lost your mind. Chu Huilan slammed her teacup down. Her face was burning with anger. Do you even realize what a great blessing it is to marry that girl? I gave a bitter laugh and replied, if I didn't love Lin Yuanyuan, perhaps that would be a true blessing. Chu Huilan was instantly stunned upon hearing that. Now you finally understand my words. I always advised you not to love Lin Yuanyuan. From my perspective, as long as you didn't develop true feelings for her, just bringing her into our family could ensure you a happy and stable life forever. I reached out and took Chu Huilan's hand. Your ultimate goal was for my own good. You wanted me to never worry about money for the rest of my life. Mom, am I right? Chu Huilan's expression froze for a moment. You silly boy. You're overthinking it. As soon as she finished speaking, she looked visibly embarrassed and forcefully pulled her hand away from mine. I didn't feel upset in my heart. Instead, a hint of a smile flickered in my eyes. I pretended to speak very seriously, even if she doesn't give me any spending money later, and colludes with Joe Zemo to humiliate me, or even finds every way to force me into a divorce, by thinking of ways to ruin my reputation completely. Then I would just have to endure it all. How would they dare to do such a thing? Chu Huilan's eyes widened in shock. Her entire body immediately flared up with rage. Our MU family might not be what it used to be, but we are still a prestigious family, not to mention the families have been friends for generations. What right does she have to dare treat you like that? I let out a cold, mocking laugh. But in her heart, there is only Joe Zemo. Once a woman is devoted to the man she loves, then sometimes she will do things without caring about anything else at all. Love this, love that, it's all vanity. A woman's love is the most useless thing in the world. Chu Huilan let out a very soft sigh. A look of hesitation appeared in her eyes as she asked, will the things you said really happen? I nodded with absolute certainty. Lin Yuanyuan has always had a grudge against me, now being forced to marry me because of a last wish. She must have detested me to the extreme long ago. If that is the case, then. Chu Huilan lowered her head and thought for a moment. Then she continued speaking. If you have made up your mind to divorce her, as your mother, I naturally won't stop you. But you must think it through very carefully. To marry a woman with such good conditions again, I'm afraid it's something that will never happen again. Marrying someone with good conditions doesn't guarantee happiness. Besides, even if I stay single for the rest of my life, I can still make myself live a happy life. I said to her with a smile, you're just talking nonsense. If you don't get married, your father and I, forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Chu Huilan is an extremely strong-willed person. This is something I only understood after being reborn. The bitterness she endured in her youth had made her very thorny. No matter what, she refused to humble herself, fearing that if she softened her heart even a little, hardships would immediately come knocking at the door, delivering another fatal blow to her, making her so miserable she wouldn't want to live. Back then, when Mu Liheng brought her home, I was only a mere 1-year-old at the time. No matter how many nannies were hired in the house, they could never replace the role of a mother. Children naturally depend on their mothers. They cry incessantly if they don't see her. But I heard from the old housemaids that I rarely cried or made a fuss when I was little. At that time, I keenly sensed something was up, so I kept questioning them. Finally, I found out that, before I started remembering things, Chu Huilan was at home by my side almost every day. Most of the time, she took care of me personally. Anyone could see the way she treated me. With absolute love, but later for some unknown reason. Starting from one day, she began to intentionally distance herself from me. What on earth had happened back then to make her cruelly make such a decision? To this day, no one can explain it. Later, when I was 4 years old, she gave birth to a daughter for Mu Liheng. That was my younger sister, Mu Xiaobei. She wasn't very affectionate with her own flesh and blood either. At first, I thought she was born cold-hearted. Later, I saw that she only cared about fame and fortune. But now, reflecting on it carefully, if she truly only cared about fame and fortune, then when the Mu family's investment completely failed back then, and we were on the brink of bankruptcy, why did she choose to stay? She hadn't even uttered a single word of complaint, though I don't understand why she is like this. I know clearly that in her heart she cares for this family. She cares for me and Xiaobei. That is enough. Xiaobei sees things more clearly than you do. I couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. The laughter sounded clear and refreshing. She said you wouldn't be happy marrying Lin Yuan. Chu Huilan looked surprised. When did that girl tell you that? It was 2 days before my wedding. What does a little brat like her know? Chu Huilan snorted coldly with disdain. A child who loves meddling in adults' business all day. She really lacks family discipline. I just stood beside her with a faint smile, seeing that it was indeed getting late. So I stood up from the sofa, reached out and massaged her stiff shoulders. Someday I will take you to a good hospital to completely cure this frozen shoulder. I'm going upstairs to take a shower first. I have to head to school in a bit. You really intend to go to class? Chu Huilan's eyes wavered slightly. Don't tell me you're not planning to drop out anymore? I smiled and shook my head at her. If it weren't for the plan to divorce her, then I never would have gone through with the withdrawal process. Chu Huilan's face instantly turned cold. She caught a glimpse of the root of the matter. What exactly do you mean by that? Was the withdrawal forced on you by Wen Shujin? Thinking of the pressure Wen Shujin had applied before, my expression also turned sour. As soon as Chu Huilan heard that, she immediately flew into a rage. Her cheeks turned bright red with anger. She pointed her finger straight at my face and scolded. You ignorant, cowardly, useless fool, why didn't you tell me about such a huge matter? I thought you were the one who didn't want to study anymore. If you had told me this sooner, I would have gone to the Lin family to demand justice. Who does she think she is, Wen Shujin, to be so overbearing? Just after finishing her sentence, her anger hadn't subsided yet. She grabbed her coffee cup and hurled it at the TV. The LCD screen wasn't meant to withstand heavy impact. It immediately shattered into a spiderweb pattern. The coffee cup also smashed into many pieces. Auntie Chen just happened to walk out from the kitchen. She was frozen in place by the scene, terrified. Chu Huilan glanced at her out of the corner of her eye. Then she let out a series of cold laughs. No one in that Lin family is any good. It's better that you divorce that girl early. With your weak and easily bullied nature, you are bound to suffer a great loss sooner or later. Auntie Chen was a longtime nanny of the Lin family. Wen Shujin intentionally sent her over here. On the surface, she said sweet-sounding things, that she was very meticulous in her work, knew how to take care of others, and could manage our daily lives well. But in reality, she was sent to spy on us. The angry words Chu Huilan just shouted. Auntie Chen would definitely report back word for word to that Wen Shujin. Chu Huilan's heart was as clear as a mirror. She was obviously saying it on purpose. This is all my fault. I clasped my hands together in front of me, bowed my head and put on an apologetic face, just like how I used to when I made a mistake as a kid. I didn't dare tell you then, because I was afraid you'd go and cause a scene at the Lin house. That would have only displeased them even more. In my previous life, I never understood how having family to back you up could make such a difference when living with in-laws. Chu Huilan was naturally fierce and not one to be messed with. Having grown up in a harsh and complex environment, dealing with a pampered lady who lived by rules, like Wen Shujin, was as easy as pie for her. If I had her protection in my previous life, I definitely wouldn't have lived such a hard life at the Lin house. I remember you used to have quite a temper. You were never the type to let others bully you. How did you become so spineless now, seeing my pitiful expression? Chu Huilan's tone gradually softened. I told you from the start not to fall for that girl, then your life would have been guaranteed to be comfortable. Yet back then, you even got angry at me over this, as if I were intentionally trying to harm you. You think love is useless? Then don't you love Dad? I looked up and stared at her quietly. Mu Chen, you're still too childish. Chu Huilan let out a long, heavy sigh. Two people moving in together, whether they can walk hand in hand for the rest of their lives, can definitely not be maintained by love alone. In fact, you could say it has nothing to do with love. Wait until you actually bring a wife home. After living together for a while, you'll naturally understand. Although I endured countless hardships in my past life and tasted enough bitterness in emotional matters, because I never had a real marriage with her, I was still very vague about the true meaning of marriage. Now I finally understand how you felt, Mom. My eyes blinked repeatedly, looking a bit more playful than usual. You'll definitely listen to you more in the future. Faced with my sudden closeness, Chu Huilan seemed very unaccustomed to it. She looked a bit awkward and curled her lip. Then she spoke coldly to hide her true feelings. Don't give me that. I'm not your biological mother anyway. Listen if you want or don't, it's up to you. The smile in my eyes deepened even more. Even though you aren't my birth mother, you've always cared about my affairs like this. Who has the time to care about you? Chu Huilan urged me with visible impatience. Go and do what you need to do. I couldn't help but burst into a bright smile, warm light sparkling in my eyes. All right, I'm heading upstairs then. Looking at the clock, it really was quite late. I went upstairs for a quick hot shower. After changing, I grabbed my re-enrollment application and left the house. There was originally only one private driver in the house, but he was with Lin Yuanyuan during that accident, and unfortunately suffered minor injuries and was resting. I had to walk out of the villa complex, all the way to the main road to hail a taxi. It was truly difficult to catch a car in this area. I had to wait for ages before finally catching one. As soon as I got in, I stated my destination. Then I took out my phone to text Lu Tsubai, meeting him in front of the university gate. What's there to justify, after just a few words? That gentleman has already returned. Hearing that, suspicion immediately rose in my heart. So I hurriedly asked the driver further. What did that man look like? What color clothes was he wearing at the time? The driver tried to remember and gave a brief description. I was certain that person was Joe Zemo. I don't know what on earth he was doing there in the middle of the night. I really couldn't fathom his intentions, but it's certain that he was plotting something shady. This guy is full of dirty tricks from head to toe. I had experienced more than enough of it in my previous life. I turned my head to look out the car window. A cold trace of mockery flashed in my eyes. Although I can't touch Lin Yuanyuan for now, making Joe Zemo suffer a little is well within my reach. The taxi pulled up right in front of H University. After paying the fare, I opened the door and stepped out. With one look, I saw a figure squatting by the roadside. That was Lu Shubai, my best friend of many years. He was wearing a comfortable tracksuit. His hair was blown a bit messy by the wind, looking as if he had just finished exercising. As soon as he looked up, he spotted me immediately. He jumped up from the ground excitedly, then rushed over to hug me like a madman. Brother Mu, you're finally here. I stood still, not daring to move, crossing my arms in a defensive stance, but in the end, I couldn't avoid his rush, and was squeezed tightly in his embrace. Brother Mu, we haven't seen each other for half a month. Do you know how much I missed you? I thought after you got married, you were planning to throw your brothers away. My face was brushed by his messy hair. I could only put on a very pitiful expression. This is punishment for you hiding and refusing to see me. You didn't even let me attend your wedding. I was going to push him away. But my hand suddenly froze in midair. Back then, to marry Lin Yuanyuan smoothly, Wen Xiuzhen had imposed a series of harsh demands on me. Forcing me to drop out was just one of them. She also forced me to cut off all social ties. In Wen Xiuzhen's pragmatic and elitist eyes, my friends were all nobodies, completely. Unworthy of being the husband of Lin Yuanyuan. At that time, blinded by so-called love, I foolishly agreed to all those conditions. I even heartlessly cast aside my old friends, including my best friend, Lu Shubai. To this day, I still remember the look of utter disappointment in his eyes when we met again in my previous life. Later, when I was left all alone without help and had to endure all sorts of bitterness and humiliation, that was entirely my own doing. That wedding actually wasn't anything worth attending. A wave of boundless regret suddenly washed over me. Even though I was being hugged so tight I could barely breathe, I couldn't bring myself to push him away anymore. Anyway, he'll be divorcing her soon. Huh? What did you just say? Lu Tsubai let go of the hug immediately. His face was full of utter shock. I playfully winked my left eye at him. You heard right? It's true. Once she fully recovers and is discharged smoothly, I'll take her to get the divorce papers immediately. Haven't you always dreamed of marrying her? Lu Tsubai frowned in confusion. He scratched his head in frustration. Wasn't marrying her your life's biggest dream? I just shrugged indifferently. That was in the past, when I was young and foolish. But since we've officially lived together, I've realized she's actually nothing special. Could it be? She's dysfunctional? A mischievous idea suddenly popped into my head. I intentionally pursed my slightly dry lips, pretending to look very troubled. as if I had something very difficult to say. If that's the case, then you definitely have to divorce. Lu Subai clicked his tongue and shook his head in regret. I truly never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that Lin Yuan turned out to have such a private ailment. It seems heaven really is fair after all. I nodded repeatedly in agreement. Exactly, that's where the truth lies. With Lu Subei's gossiping nature, the rumor that Lin Yuan might be infertile or something will surely spread across the city in less than a day. Consider this a small retaliation from me to her. In a great mood, I put my arm around his shoulder. Let's go. Escort me to the instructor's office to quickly get that withdrawal form back. My main task from now on is to focus on my studies and finish my remaining 3 years to start a normal, peaceful, and free life. Brother Mu, why did you want to drop out back then anyway? It was all because that woman Wen Shuzhen forced me. She threatened that if I didn't, she'd never let us marry. My voice was thick with sarcasm. He looked up at my cold face and very wisely started cursing along with me. I knew that old hag was up to no good. Why else would you drop out of the blue? A great guy with such excellent qualities like you. What on earth is she still not satisfied with? You call me excellent? I pointed at a male student busy painting a bulletin board nearby. That's Yi Hui, the young master of the EA family. So this is what Wen Shuzhen considers good conditions. To put it bluntly, it's just about having a prestigious family background. Truly shallow to the core. I just gave a faint smile. I didn't even bother to reply to his complaints. Isn't today's society just that cruel? No matter how excellent I am personally, if my family background is nothing, then I'll always be a step lower in front of the Lin family, if I look at it this way. In my past life, even if Zhou Zimo successfully married into the family, even if Lin Wanwan doted on him 1,000 times over, with his lowly background, his days certainly wouldn't have been easy, enduring eyes of contempt and disdain every single day. That feeling is extremely hard to swallow. As my thoughts shifted like that, my heart immediately felt much lighter. I strode quickly toward the counselor's office, just as I was about to knock. The door was open from the inside. The man inside bumped right into me. His calm expression suddenly changed. Why are you suddenly showing up here? I thought you had already dropped out. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing right then and there. The man standing in front of me was no stranger. It was Zhou Qiyang, Zhou Zimo's own biological brother. Speaking of this Zhou Qiyang fellow, he really is a rare good brother to Zhou Zimo, coveting his brother's woman all day long, while secretly backstabbing his brother like crazy. Such behavior is enough to move one to tears. Dropped out? Well, he can always come back to study. Lu Subai grinned at Zhou Qiyang. Mu Chen is back. You don't have a role to play anymore. Must be feeling pretty frustrated deep down, huh? Zhou Qiyang stared at me with a dark gaze. I'm not talking to a blabbermouth like you. Don't you dare try to strike up a conversation with me. Don't you find it beneath you? I don't care if it's beneath me or not. Anyway, you're not even half as good as Mu Chen. Getting angry and pulling dirty tricks behind someone's back? Now that's beneath you. When did I ever pull any dirty tricks? Lu Subai let out a contemptuous laugh. The things you did, you know better than anyone. Last month during anatomy class, someone sabotaged Mu Chen's rabbit. It was definitely your doing. A flash of panic appeared in Zhou Qiang's eyes. Stop slandering and framing me. I wouldn't stoop to such dirty deeds. You need evidence for what you say. It was clearly you. No, it wasn't. I quickly cut short their endless argument. I smiled at the man before me and spoke up. I don't want to hear your meaningless bickering. Zhou Qiang, you're blocking my way. Could you please step aside? Zhou Qiang's eyes widened. He stared intensely at me. He showed no intention of moving. I know this Zhou Qiang guy all too well. Since the day I stepped into this university, simply because I was Lin Wanwan's fiancé. He's been like a mad dog, always picking a fight with me. If he didn't come to trouble me for even one day, his dark inner self wouldn't find any peace. Just like this explosive moment right now. He definitely wants to use venomous words to sting me, and he won't stop until he sees me in pain. It was exactly as I predicted, within seconds. Zhou Qiang started being difficult. Mu Chen, you stayed home from school just to suck up to Sister Lin. Maybe you thought you could win her heart, but now you've suddenly returned to school. Besides, my brother has returned to the country. I'm afraid you'll have to get ready for a divorce. He knows best how to poke at my sore spots. If these words were spoken in my past life, my heart would have felt like it was being cut by knives, but now, I'm not bothered at all. So, instead of seeing a look of misery on my face, he saw me flash my bright white teeth, giving him a bone-chillingly cold smile. Does saying that make you feel any better? What do you mean? My unexpected reaction made his mind go blank. You've always had a secret crush on Lin Wanwan. When you say I'm flattering her every day, isn't your heart bleeding? I suddenly reached out and squeezed his chin firmly, roughly shaking his face from side to side. I clicked my tongue, then continued in a disdainful tone. Your looks aren't inferior to your brother's at all. Isn't there a part of you that's unwilling to accept this? Your brother has the power to force her to divorce me. Why do you feel like you can't do the same? Zhou Qiang's expression changed drastically. He violently shoved my hand away, and roared in anger. Mu Chen, don't you dare talk nonsense here. I have never, ever had a crush on Sister Lin. Look at how fake you are. You like a woman but don't even have the courage to admit it. It seems in this life, you can only stand on the sidelines, staring wide-eyed as your brother and the woman you love display their affection right in front of your face. My words weren't just harsh. They showed that I didn't even see Zhou Qiang as a normal human being. I was using the bluntest knife to stab right into his weakness. I wanted him to feel like he was dying and coming back to life in pain every day, to make those seeds of delusional desire sprout earlier than they did in my past life. Before finishing the divorce proceedings with Lin Wanwan, I must personally find way more trouble for Zhou Zimo. Please just shut up. Zhou Qiang's eyes turned bloodshot, his chest heaved, even his breathing became incredibly heavy. You are talking absolute nonsense. I gave a nonchalant shrug. My face clearly said, as long as you know the truth in your heart. Zhou Qiang's mental state began to crumble slightly. He glared at me with pure hatred, then turned and fled the scene as if he were escaping. Mu Chen, does Zhou Qiang also like Lin Wanwan? Lu Subai grabbed my arm tightly. Curiosity was written all over his face. I knew to his core that he was a huge gossip, but now clearly wasn't the time to reveal too much to him. I gestured for him to calm down, then turned to enter the counselor's office. I remembered when I insisted on dropping out back then. The counselor tried his best to persuade me otherwise. He firmly refused to agree. Finally, seeing that I had truly made up my mind, he regretfully accepted my decision. Now, seeing me suddenly change my mind and stay, he was naturally very happy. After all, losing such an excellent medical student is a very painful and regrettable thing. After the counselor gave me a few stern words of advice, he let Lu Subai and me leave first. As soon as we were a little distance from the office, he looked up at me with eyes sparkling with curiosity. Mu Chen, come on, tell me. I'm so curious I can stand it. Tell me the whole truth. Didn't you see it for yourself? Zhou Qiang really has always had a secret crush on Lin Wanwan. I curled my lips slightly. A deeply ironic smile spread across my face. He's liked Lin Wanwan ever since he was little, but sadly, she only ever had eyes for Zhou Zimo. Until I said what I just did. He thought as long as his brother was worthy of her, then silently protecting her from the side was enough. Huh? How do you know this so well? Lu Subai was completely floored by this shocking news. I only gave a mysterious smile and said nothing more. He knew better than to keep prying. After trying to digest this massive piece of gossip, his not-so-sharp mind came up with a question. Why before you said those things? Did Zhou Qiang feel that way? And what about after those words? He will definitely start to feel unwilling. A desire to compete with his brother will emerge. I'm awakening his deepest desires. I took the locker key out of my pocket, slipped my finger into the key ring, spinning it around with clear amusement. Lu Subai finally understood everything. A sly smile immediately appeared on his face. Mu Chen, you're as wicked as ever. I raised an eyebrow at him. Just now I saw the Mu Chen from high school again. He gave my shoulder a firm nudge, with a silly grin. Back then, you were so wild and arrogant, always full of spirit, that I don't give a damn about anyone attitude. It's a shame you started acting like a good boy in college. It wasn't fun at all. The smile on my face gradually faded. Mu Lihang's biological mother, meaning my biological grandmother, was from the north. As a child, my father often followed his mother back to the north to live. Each stay would last for months. Thus, her personality was very generous and free-spirited. Coupled with the fact that she wasn't exactly brilliant, she lived happily and freely all those years. Otherwise, she wouldn't have caused the Mu family's legacy to vanish into thin air due to a failed investment. I inherited a bit of her personality. Besides, my family had very low expectations for me. So after entering high school, I lived completely as myself, to put it seriously. Back then, even though I had great grades, I was a delinquent in the eyes of my teachers. As for why I forced myself to change in college, becoming a well-behaved and disciplined young man, it was, of course, because of Lin Wanwan and Wen Shuzhen. I quickly snapped out of those memories from my past life, muttering to myself in an extremely calm tone, if she weren't in my world, how brilliant my past life could have been. Mu Chen, what did you just mutter? Lu Subai didn't catch my words. He asked curiously. I shook my head slightly, said it was nothing. From now on, I will live true to myself. I gripped his warm hand. The two of us walked lightly toward the classroom. I've had a smart mind since I was a child, learning everything much faster than others. I scored extremely high on the entrance exam back then. My parents said I could choose any major I liked. Out of all the popular majors I could have picked, I didn't hesitate to choose medicine. The path of medicine is arduous and long. Mu Lihang once clearly expressed his disapproval. I just insisted it was my interest, and persistently stuck with that choice, never revealing the real reason behind it. The real reason was the death of my biological mother. It wasn't entirely to save more people, or to prevent more families from breaking apart. but to earn merit and pray for my late mother. Her life was truly too short. I hope in her next life she can have peace and prosperity, live a truly quiet life. After a whole morning of major classes, there happened to be no classes in the afternoon. It's been a while since Lu Shubai could hang out with me, so he excitedly invited me to go for a stroll. I still have to go to the hospital to care for Lin Wanwan. After explaining the situation to him, the two of us agreed to hang out another time. I immediately left the campus, head straight to the hospital, arrived at the hospital building. I just went upstairs, was about to head toward the patient room, when I ran into Wen Shuzhen coming out. Shuzhen clearly froze a bit when she saw me. Then, with an extremely complex expression, she spoke. "This boy is quite something, isn't he?" This statement left me completely confused. Something about how before you and Wanwan got married, she actually hated you very much. Unexpectedly, after just one short night, she doesn't hate you like she used to anymore. Am I wrong to say you have talent? Her words were full of sarcasm and innuendo. I furrowed my brows. Didn't say a word. Before, I was always very obedient in front of her. No matter how much she deliberately made things hard for me, no matter how harsh or venomous her words were, I would always be submissive and agreeable, never once resisting. After being reborn, my attitude became much stronger, but she clearly hasn't fully adapted to it yet, seeing me standing still and silent. She thought I didn't dare to talk back, so she became more overbearing and mocked me. That woman's way of raising a son shows that the core nature is just the same. If she's going to be this overbearing, and doesn't know any boundaries, then I have no intention of humoring her anymore. Wen Shuzhen, if you're sick, go get yourself treated. I don't even want to utter the fake word mother anymore. My expression immediately turned ice cold. You are considered part of the Lin family, yet you talk like some street hoodlum. Aren't you afraid of lowering the Lin family's class? These words were truly very harsh. She clearly didn't expect me to give her no face at all, daring to say such sarcastic things directly to her face. For a moment, she stood rooted to the spot in shock, until she finally snapped out of it. Her face turned as red as a pig's liver from rage. Mu Chen, how dare you speak to me that way? Even if you and Wanwan are about to get a divorce, you are still not allowed to call me by my full name like that. After all, I am still your elder. I see that you are the one without any upbringing, bringing shame upon your own ancestors. She originally only relied on her maternal family's power. Back then, she was lucky to marry into the Lin family. Though her personality has always been arrogant and overbearing, she's like a paper hedgehog, stabbing anyone who annoys her. But usually, few people dare to confront her directly, so the insults she can come up with during an argument are at most just laughably weak. Hearing her bring up my ancestors, I really couldn't help it. I burst into hearty laughter right there. Fine, calling you by your name was my fault. So from now on, I'll call you Auntie Wen, alright? Auntie Wen, just how much tolerance do you have in your heart? Your own daughter is lying in pain inside. Who knows if her head injury will leave lasting effects? Yet you don't worry about her health, and instead waste your time here insulting me. If you're really that free, you'd be better off playing a few rounds of mahjong. Mu Chen, you are truly too insolent. I rolled my eyes, not bothering to maintain any image. I'm honestly too lazy to argue with her anymore. I leaned over, pushed open the patient room door, and shouted inside, Lin Wanwan, your mother is truly unreasonable. I don't want to fight with your mother over this. Why don't you just let the nurse take care of you? Even if Wen Shuzhen were beaten to death on the spot, she never would have expected me to pull this stunt. She was nearly driven insane by me. She raised her hand and shoved my shoulder hard. You actually dare to go tattle to my daughter? Who do you really think you are? Wanwan, look at this. What kind of person is this? He treats an elder like me as if I'm nothing. He even dared to call me a scoundrel, saying I'm lowering the class of your Lin family. I can't endure this kind of insult for even one more day. I'm calling the Civil Affairs Bureau right now. The two of you must get a divorce immediately today. That's absolutely perfect. I clapped my hands enthusiastically. I truly can't thank you enough, Auntie. Having a mother-in-law with high authority is great. Getting divorced without even having to go to the bureau is just so convenient. Please, Auntie, hurry up and get it done. One person is hopelessly blinded by love. The other is a menopausal woman with a volatile temper. This mother-daughter pair, I truly can't stand them for even one more day. The veins on Lin Wanwan's forehead started throbbing as she lay on the bed. A terrifying, murderous aura radiated from her entire body. Countless men in this world would kill to marry her. Any man who married her would probably wake up laughing in his sleep from joy. Yet, this treasure sought by so many is being openly and blatantly rejected by me. This dealt a massive blow to her pride. How could she possibly swallow this anger? You better obediently agree to the divorce. Wen Shuzhen pointed her finger directly at my nose. A fire of rage burned deep in her eyes. She gave a threatening, fake smile. Wait until I get the bureau people here. If you dare to change your mind, or try to cling to her like a leech, then I won't just make you pay a heavy price. It'll make sure your entire Mew family never finds peace. I responded with an equally fake smile. On this matter, whoever goes back on their word is a dog. It's a deal. As soon as I finished, she hurriedly opened the handbag she was carrying, intending to take out her phone to call them. Mom, I already told you, only grandfather has the right to decide on my marriage. Lin Wanwan stared toward the patient room door. Her gaze became incredibly dark and terrifying. Whether I want to process the divorce with him right now or not is entirely my decision alone. Don't stand in the middle, doing unnecessary things. Wanwan, if you don't take this chance to divorce him now, then how much longer are you planning to wait? Wen Shuzhen expressed her utter disbelief. Her eyes were red with anger. A look of annoyance crossed Lin Wanwan's face. I said, don't interfere in this matter, Mom. I absolutely must take charge of this. I can't accept this lowly son-in-law. Besides, didn't you always like Zhou Zimo? He's back in the country now. Shouldn't you be longing for a quick divorce? So you can officially marry him? Fine. Then I'll process the divorce with him today. And tomorrow I'll go and register my marriage with Zhou Zimo. Lin Wanwan spoke emotionlessly and coldly. Absolutely not, Wen Shuzhen blurted out almost reflexively. Her precious daughter must marry into a family of equal status, a powerful background, and the man himself must be exceptional. What are the likes of Mu Chen and Zhou Zimo anyway? Not to mention they can't help her career at all. They might even become burdens that hold her back later. Lin Wanwan let out a bone-chillingly cold laugh. So this is what her mother has been thinking all along. No wonder she could heartlessly do that thing back then. Since you'll never agree to let me marry him anyway, then what's the point of me rushing into a divorce right now? Lin Wanwan wearily turned her head. Her lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling. Tell Mu Chen to get in here and see me. Wanwan, listen to my advice for a second. Mom, don't waste your breath. Lin Wanwan coldly cut her off. Her tone was sharp and devoid of affection. Wen Shuzhen glared at me with pure resentment. Then she turned and stormed off in a rage. My eyes were fixed on her angry retreating back. A thoughtful look appeared on my face. In my past life, only Lin Wanwan existed in my eyes and heart, so much so that I never noticed such an obvious blind spot. A woman with such a strong personality as Wen Shuzhen. Yet she could never be firm with her own biological daughter. It was almost as if she did whatever her daughter said. Is it simply because she loves her daughter too much? But after all, she is still Lin Wanwan's biological mother. If she were truly determined to make a scene, Lin Wanwan should have ultimately been forced to compromise. The more I think about it, the weirder it gets. The doubt in my heart was heard clearly by her. The fact that I was so absorbed in guessing her thoughts made Lin Wanwan's mood incredibly complex. She cleared her throat slightly, to pull my wandering attention back. I immediately snapped out of my thoughts, and tilted my head, looking at her in silent questioning. Get in here already. I obediently stepped inside, walked right up to the hospital bed and stopped, pulled over a nearby chair and sat down. Why not take this chance to divorce me directly? Not only could Wen Shuzhen not understand, but I myself was incredibly puzzled. It's nothing. What do you mean nothing? You and Zhou Zimo are already in love, since you want to marry him officially. Then your mother's protests are useless anyway, so I really can't figure it out. In my past life, if I hadn't been the one clinging on, then I'm afraid on the very first day he returned, you would have rushed to drag me into a divorce. There wouldn't have been 3 years of tangled resentment. Getting divorced right after we just got married will damage the reputation of the Line Corporation. So, in the near future, we absolutely cannot divorce. Before being reborn, this woman dreamed of getting a divorce, but she couldn't get one. After being reborn, I'm the one dreaming of a divorce. Life truly is full of ironic drama. I absolutely cannot delay this any further. As soon as you're discharged, we must get a divorce. So it's true, someone who has experienced rebirth. It turns out such fantastical things really do exist. I'm afraid you've forgotten the day of our wedding. Only family members from both sides were present. Even the media has no idea that we're married. Since it was your idea to hide the marriage, everyone outside still thinks you're single, so our divorce won't affect the Lin Corporation at all. In the end, no wall is completely windproof. Then I must have a specific deadline. Exactly how much longer do we have to wait for a divorce? At least another 6 months. 6 months is absolutely out of the question. I simply cannot wait that long. Then how long do you want? Once you are discharged from the hospital, then we divorce immediately. 1 year. Why are you trying to haggle with me right here? I might as well just tell you the truth. I already have someone I truly love now, so I'm in a hurry for a divorce to be with her legally and honorably. I don't believe a single word of your nonsense. I have no reason to lie to you. If you can accept me messing around while we're still married, content to let yourself be cheated on, then I will reluctantly follow your lead and wait 6 months for the divorce. I can accept that. You can accept what? Can a heartless, ungrateful person like you really believe in Buddha? Are you starting a vegetarian diet to save all living beings now? Fine, those are your own words. If you can calmly accept even this, then I have nothing left to say. You said to wait half a year, so let's wait half a year. But I must make 3 conditions with you first. During this time, I will move back to my own home. We will each live our own lives. If there's no business, let's not see each other again. That's absolutely not a problem. It's lunchtime. 10 minutes later, I walked in carrying a thermal lunchbox. With an expressionless face, I sat down and opened the lunchbox. I brought a spoonful of hot porridge to her mouth. I don't know if I purposely let my hand shake, but a large amount of porridge from the spoon spilled onto her neck. Mu Chen, those 2 words seemed forced out from the depths of her heart, suppressing an immense rage. I pretended to be panicked and stood up quickly, pulled a few tissues from the box on the cabinet, and clumsily wiped her neck. While wiping, I kept apologizing. I'm truly sorry. I really didn't mean to. Please don't be angry, 1,000 times over. That serves you right for teasing me earlier. Now that your body can't move, can't I do whatever I want? Lin Wanwan heard my inner thoughts loud and clear and felt the tissue, soaked with sticky liquid, gradually touching her beautiful face. Her face darkened like the charred bottom of a pot. There's no porridge on my face. Oh, there isn't? I'm so sorry. I thought there was. Mu Chen, are you tired of living? I know Miss Lin has power and influence, and anyone who offends you won't have a good ending, but you can't just kill me in cold blood simply because I accidentally spilled some porridge. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. I really could. Then wait until you can move before we settle this. But for now, just stay still and endure it. I didn't hesitate to respond with a cold laugh of my own. Lin Wanwan stared at me intently. Bloodshot lines appeared in her eyes. Clean my whole body, and change me into a clean set of clothes. I can't do that. I am a full-blooded young man. Doing that would be quite inappropriate. I'll find someone else to change you. Lin Wanwan was truly enraged this time. Her usually ice-cold face rarely showed such fury. Absolutely not. It has to be you, if you don't clean me up today. Followed by a loud bang. Without waiting for Lin Wanwan to finish her threat, I strode out of the hospital room. Lin Wanwan painfully closed her eyes for a moment. It felt as if every blood vessel in her body was constricting with rage, as if they could burst at any second. Before, in front of her and Wen Shuzhen, I always appeared gentle and submissive. I looked as if I didn't have an aggressive bone in my body, but looking at the situation now, it was clearly all an act. This kid is definitely not someone to be trifled with. Heaven knows how long she had to endure that misery. Just as she reached her limit of enduring the stickiness, the door to the hospital room was finally pushed open. Hurry up, be quick, Lin Wanwan urged with an anxious voice. Miss, please bear with it for a moment. Let me go to the bathroom and get a wet towel first. A raspy voice coming from the door made her freeze. She stiffly turned her neck to look. A woman who looked over 50 was staggering into the bathroom. Lord knows where I had found her. The woman looked disheveled, wearing old, outdated work clothes. They were covered in suspicious-looking stains. Letting a woman like this wipe her down, she'd rather be killed on the spot. Get out right now, young lady. Mu Chen told me about your situation. I sincerely offer my deepest sympathies. Rest assured, I absolutely won't laugh at you. Do you know who I am? Does it matter who you are? My name is Lin Wanwan. Never heard of it. Mu Chen? That damn name? Lin Wanwan took a deep breath. She closed her eyes in despair. Seeing this, the woman immediately stepped forward. The process of being wiped down was truly a torment for her. I pretended to let out a long yawn. The person I found isn't bad, right? She's quite good. Before I'm discharged, please take good care of me like this. Unexpectedly, she didn't fly into a rage this time. On the contrary, she appeared extremely calm. Except that when she emphasized good care, it sounded as if she were speaking through gritted teeth. Otherwise, I would have thought she wasn't angry at all. I narrowed my eyes dangerously. A hint of vigilance appeared on my face. This woman's heart is wicked. She must be calculating in her head, waiting until she can move, how she will take revenge on me. But since I've already offended her to the limit, I want to escape revenge regardless, so I might as well push further while she's weak. Lin Wanwan suddenly felt that her current situation wasn't much better than Wu Delang's. She tried to gently move her arm. A bone-piercing pain made her hiss. Moving on her own seemed hopeless. After clearly realizing this tragic point, she lightly licked her dry lips and suddenly asked, Mu Chen, do you still love me? Hearing that, I let out a mocking laugh. What do you mean, still love you? I never loved you to begin with, all right? The answer was sharp and concise, without a shred of hesitation. Furthermore, whether it was my expression or tone, there was no trace of a lie. Even if she couldn't hear my thoughts, she could clearly tell that for her. I no longer had any feelings left. This realization caused Lin Wanwan's gaze to dim slightly. Actually, her heart didn't feel that bad. She just felt a bit of regret. At the very moment she wasn't paying attention, a sincere affection had silently withered away. The two of them were silent for a long time. Lin Wanwan spoke with a hoarse voice. If Zhou Zimo and I were to marry, would we be happy in the future? Probably. I don't think so. I'm not sure about that. Do you need anything else? Lin Wanwan shook her head. Then get some good sleep. I'm going to take a nap too. I walked over to the folding bed for family members nearby. I took off my shoes and lay down. Closing my eyes, I felt her staring at me. Lin Wanwan's gaze was getting on my nerves. Why does she keep staring at me? Is something wrong with her? The moment that thought flashed through my mind, Lin Wanwan immediately turned her face away. My furrowed brows gradually relaxed. Before long, I fell into a deep sleep. Lin Wanwan heard my breathing become steady, realizing I was fast asleep, so she turned her gaze toward me once more. At this moment, in Lin Wanwan's eyes, I actually looked quite attractive. She had never truly looked at me before, but now she realized I was actually quite handsome. A face with sharp, clear angles and an outstanding aura. Strong and masculine features, truly very eye-catching. If it were only about looks, I definitely wouldn't lose to Jo Zemo. Perhaps because her gaze was too intense, it made me feel a bit uncomfortable in my sleep. I frowned and mumbled a few words, then rolled over. Lin Wanwan chuckled softly, then closed her eyes as well. My nap lasted until 4 in the afternoon. Waking up to find the hospital room door open, I was a bit curious. Turning over, I saw Lin Wanwan still lying beside me. It seemed she hadn't woken up yet. I leisurely sat up from the bed, put on my shoes, and walked out of the room. Seeing Shujiaki standing right there, a smile immediately broke out on my face. When did you get here? I just arrived. Shujiaki's personality was quite reserved. She usually didn't talk or smile much, but in the face of my friendly smile, she could only manage a forced curl of her lips. The nurse said we should open the door periodically for ventilation, so I opened it. Ah, I see. I knew I couldn't act too intimate with her, so after speaking, I prepared to turn back into the room. Sir, I happened to run into young Master Zhou when I arrived. He was just downstairs making a phone call. I'm not sure if he'll be coming up here later. Shujiaki didn't really need to say these words. In fact, she shouldn't have said them at all. But perhaps sensing my goodwill, she hesitated for a moment, but spoke anyway. I was slightly taken aback when I heard that. Then I just smiled. It's fine. If he wants to come up, let him. His legs belong to him. No one can control where he goes. But President Lin will care. Shujiaki didn't dare speak too explicitly. She could only give a subtle hint. You'll feel uncomfortable in your heart when that happens. I smiled and shook my head. I won't. I've been used to it for a long time. This sentence left Shujiaki not knowing how to respond, so she chose to remain silent. I was about to say a few more words when the woman's cold voice echoed from within the hospital room, vaguely carrying a hint of anger. Mu-chen, I'm thirsty. I instinctively rolled my eyes. Then I nodded and smiled at Shujiaki before turning to walk back inside. The woman on the bed looked at me with an unfriendly gaze. I thought she was just grumpy from waking up, finding everyone an eyesore, so I didn't think much of it. I poured a cup of warm water and brought it to her. Are you and Shujiaki that close? Lin Wanwan's gaze flickered slightly. She had asked a similar question before. A look of annoyance flashed across my face. I set the cup down and replied coldly, We aren't close, but the two of you don't look like strangers at all. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. She really has too much free time on her hands, doesn't she? Why does she suddenly care about Shujiaki and me? Even caring if we know each other or if we're actually close. Is she that idle now? All right, this woman really is idle right now. But this is truly troublesome. Hearing the complaints in my heart, Lin Wanwan's already unhappy expression worsened. There wasn't a single good thought about her in my mind. Hearing too much would inevitably make anyone feel unpleasant. If we look close to you, it's because I'm intentionally trying to please her. A fake smile was plastered on my face. Why? When a man tries to please a woman, what other reason could there be? Obviously, it's because I've set my sights on her. The curl of my lips deepened slightly, carrying a thick layer of malice. Haven't you already accepted being cuckolded by me? A woman with such a broad mind as yours is hard to find. I should take the chance to give you a few more green hats. Since you want to play a high-stakes game, then obviously we must pursue the ultimate thrill. I'm determined to make you die of anger. As my words finished, Lin Wanwan's face turned completely to ice. Even though she knew I was trying to provoke her and knew those words weren't true, she was still significantly enraged. The way she looked at me was both profound and cold. When I looked back, it felt as deep as a bottomless abyss. My heart couldn't help but skip a beat. A sudden chill crept up into my heart. As the one steering an entire conglomerate, Lin Wanwan always carried the powerful aura of a superior. When she's angry, even without any expression, or even without saying a single word, it's enough to strike fear into people. Before my rebirth, I had witnessed her methods, so in reality, I was somewhat afraid. If not for the fact that my heart was full of resentment, and relying on the fact that her body currently can't move, I absolutely wouldn't dare offend her like this. Your courage seems to have grown quite a bit. Lin Wanwan slightly curled her lips, a smile tinged with a bit of wickedness. Keep it up then. I pressed my lips tightly together. Should I stop provoking her? Otherwise, once she heals and leaves the hospital, I won't even know what kind of bad luck will hit me. Lin Wanwan silently listened to my inner thoughts. The smile on her face became full of mockery and vengeance. This man really has some nerve. You're probably thirsty now, right? Have some water. I hurriedly picked up the cup of water nearby, trying to soothe Lin Wanwan's rage, to prevent her from spending effort thinking of ways to punish me. Lin Wanwan smiled slightly. The carrot and the stick, huh? There's no such easy way out. You're overthinking it. I won't admit to it. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. Just as she was about to open her mouth and threaten me, the sound of leather shoes echoed from outside. I guess Joe Zemo must have come up. I immediately brought the water cup close to Lin Wanwan's mouth. Honey, let me feed you some water. My sudden change in behavior made her freeze. Then, seeing Joe Zemo enter the hospital room, she instantly understood why. Of course, she wouldn't play along with my act, unless she had suddenly turned over a new leaf. Get away from me, Lin Wanwan spoke coldly. Those words were entirely as expected. I retracted the fake smile from my face. Standing up straight, I shrugged indifferently. I sighed intentionally and spoke loudly. You're still hating me as much as ever. Let me feed you. Joe Zemo strode over. He took the cup from my hand, looking at Lin Wanwan with a face full of tenderness. The previous words put him at ease. It seems yesterday I was just putting on an act. In Lin Wanwan's eyes, there had always only been him. She had never bothered to look at another man even once. How could someone's heart change just like that? Especially a young man like me. Definitely not the type she likes. His worry was truly unnecessary. But even so, he was determined to make Wanwan divorce quickly. He had waited for this day for far too long. He really couldn't wait any longer. It was time to take Lin Wanwan home. He just needed to please Lin Wanwan a bit, and everything he wanted would soon be his. What Joe Zemo was calculating in his head, Lin Wanwan heard loud and clear. She looked at the man she had loved for many years, and her eyes were filled with disappointment and deep-seated disgust. It turned out that Joe Zemo in her eyes before was only what Joe Zemo wanted her to see. That hypocrisy made her skin crawl. Lin Wanwan hated being deceived most of all, especially when it was more than just simple deception. This man dreamed of marrying her, yet he always pretended to have no feelings, using a push-and-pull game to play with her, treating her like a fool to be spun around like a top. Joe Zemo saw that Lin Wanwan neither drank the water nor said a single word, but just stared at him with those cold eyes, causing panic to start rising in his heart. Wanwan, what's wrong? Lin Wanwan lowered her eyes. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. I don't want to drink anymore. Then what do you want to drink? Let me go buy it for you, all right? Joe Zemo blinked his large, innocent eyes, using a soothing, childlike voice to ask gently, Hey buddy, could you please have some common sense? Aside from plain water, what else can she even drink right now? I sprawled out on the sofa nearby, letting out a long, sluggish yawn. It seems you're still not handsome enough. Coming back after 5 years abroad with such difficulty, if you were to feed her poison, maybe she'd still drink it all up happily. My intention to sow discord was plain to see, as if it were written directly on my face. A fire of rage flared up inside Joe Zemo, but because he was in front of Lin Wanwan, he could only grit his teeth and endure it. Mu Chen, I know you really dislike me. Actually, I can understand that, but now that you're married to Wanwan, I only hope the two of you can live happily. You really don't need to hate me this much. Which of your eyes sees me hating you? I thought his words were truly ridiculous. Are you even worthy of my hatred? Joe Zemo's expression immediately changed. No one had ever dared to speak like that right in front of Wanwan. What right does this Mu Chen have to be so arrogant? The reason Joe Zemo found this so hard to accept was entirely because Lin Wanwan had spoiled him too much before. It gave him an incredibly strong sense of superiority. To put it bluntly, he was just throwing his weight around, thinking he was all that. I didn't care at all what his reaction would be. What I cared about was Lin Wanwan's reaction. If Lin Wanwan flew into a rage because of these words, hurling threats that made me suffer heavy consequences, then I would immediately back down and retreat. I definitely wouldn't be stupid enough to confront her head-on, but if she only gave a casual reprimand, then I would keep pushing my luck. I'm determined to make Joe Zemo so uncomfortable he loses sleep. Lin Wanwan fixed her flickering gaze on me. After seeing through the little scheme in my head, she let out a very soft sneer. Master Mu's tone sounds quite arrogant, doesn't it? I wonder who gave you such guts. If I don't have a backer, do I not have the right to speak? My mouth is on my own face. What I want to say is my own business. What does that have to do with having a backer? My attitude at that time was indeed extremely reckless. Anyone watching would be itching with irritation. True, whatever you want to say is your freedom. The corners of Joe Zemo's eyes reddened slightly. He glanced at me and then hung his head. I gave a cold snort. I mocked him loudly with a face full of disdain. Thanks to Master Joe for being so understanding. If we meet again and I happen to say something even harsher, then I hope you won't take it to heart. Lin Wanwan had seen through Joe Zemo's true character, so naturally, she wouldn't speak up to defend him anymore. She slightly narrowed her long phoenix eyes, intending to let things play out as they were. She focused only on listening to the inner thoughts of the two men. Seeing that she still didn't speak up to scold me, Zhou Zimo looked up at her. Lin Wanwan remained as unbothered as ever. Zhou Zimo bit his lip tightly. He reached out to grab Lin Wanwan's arm. He spoke softly, his face pale. Forget it, Wanwan. Mu Chen is still young. He doesn't know any better. He only says harsh words because he dislikes me. But Lin Wanwan hasn't said anything. An intense feeling of disgust spread through her body. In Lin Wanwan's deep black eyes, there was now only frost, like a layer of ancient ice that could never melt. In Zhou Zimo's past memories, the way Lin Wanwan looked at him was always full of tenderness. She had never used such a cold gaze to look at him. He couldn't believe it and stared wide-eyed. His face immediately turned frighteningly pale. His eyes clearly showed resentment and sadness. Wanwan, why are you looking at me with those eyes? I'm just not in a very good mood. Lin Wanwan looked away from his face. Both of you, keep quiet for me. Wanwan. Zhou Zimo bit his lower lip with his teeth. Are you still mad at me? Mad because I went abroad and stayed away for 5 whole years. During that time, I didn't even come back to visit you once. You're overthinking it. When you left, heaven knows how happy Wanwan was. Otherwise, she wouldn't have agreed to marry me. She was even so passionate on our wedding night. I couldn't help but cut into the conversation. I really am the most annoying person in the world, insisting on interrupting right when Zhou Zimo is about to open up. Especially words that could drive his mind crazy like that. You want to have a heart-to-heart to build feelings? If I let you achieve that today, then I'll write my own name backwards. Lin Wanwan felt a bit amused in her heart. But after hearing what I said, half of Zhou Zimo's heart had completely turned cold. If he kept comforting himself, he'd just be deceiving himself. Lin Wanwan probably really had a change of heart. Otherwise, she would absolutely never let me act out like this in front of him. Thinking of losing the chance to enter the Lin family, Zhou Zimo couldn't help but feel incredibly anxious. His hands clenched into fists from unwillingness. He looked at Lin Wanwan with a face full of misery. Wanwan, is what he said true? I don't believe it. He's definitely lying, right? Seeing his miserable appearance, I felt unspeakably gratified in my heart. There was a plate of fresh fruit on the coffee table. Inside were grapes that had already been peeled. I reached out and grabbed a large handful, and then just tossed them into my mouth one by one. My whole being looked incredibly triumphant and smug, though I don't know why this woman is treating him so coldly. But for me, this is absolutely wonderful. Once this woman recovers and is discharged from the hospital, he'll make sure Zhou Zimo worries so much he loses 20 pounds. In my heart, I kept calling her this woman over and over, causing Lin Wanwan's forehead to pulse with bulging veins as she listened. She didn't want to let me have my way, so she looked up at Zhou Zimo and gave him her first smile since their reunion. Of course, it wasn't real. I knew it. Zhou Zimo immediately began to weep with joy. Wanwan Jie, I truly regret it now. I shouldn't have gone abroad back then. If I hadn't, then we. My expression clearly showed my annoyance. The grapes in my mouth no longer tasted sweet. I tossed the half-eaten bunch back onto the fruit plate and stood up. I'm going to the restroom for a moment. As expected of the man Lin Wanwan has loved for years, you can't just turn off feelings like a faucet. I really can't understand a two-faced person like him, with more schemes in his heart than seeds in a dragon fruit. Just what did she see in him in the first place? How could she stay so devoted all these years? With her terrible taste in men, it's a miracle the Lin family business hasn't collapsed yet. Mu Chen. Lin Wanwan's furious voice rang out from behind me. I stopped in my tracks and turned around with a look of pure confusion. Zhou Zimo also looked at me, completely dazed. Lin Wanwan took a few deep breaths, struggling to suppress the rage within, but in the end, she failed. Use the restroom outside, Lin Wanwan growled under her breath. She couldn't let anyone know about her mind-reading ability, so her sudden outburst just made her look unstable. I was completely speechless. Is she getting mad at me because of Zhou Zimo? This reflex is way too slow. Looks like her head is mostly broken from the crash. This was the first time Lin Wanwan felt that this mind-reading ability was absolutely wretched, enough to drive anyone insane. Unless she were an emotionless block of wood, she would surely die of anger sooner or later. I stepped out of the ward, still grumbling to myself. Once I was far enough away and Lin Wanwan could no longer hear my inner thoughts, her tightly knit brows finally began to relax. I'm telling you, during those 5 years away from you, I missed you so much. Without a nuisance like me in the way, Zhou Zimo intended to pour his heart out to her again. Lin Wanwan, who was in a foul mood, only gave a cold, indifferent grunt. In a foreign land, living all alone, I finally realized how much you protected me, and that only you can bring me happiness. Zhou Zimo pursed his lips, appearing slightly hesitant. Wanwan Jie, are there any feelings between you and Mu Chen? What kind of feelings do you mean? Lin Wanwan spared him a glance. Love, of course. You're married, so surely there must be love. Only with love can there be happiness. This statement of his was at least half wrong. He only said it intentionally, hoping to reawaken the Wanwan who once loved him to death. Back then, Lin Wanwan was absolutely certain that, as long as she married him, she would definitely be happy. I indeed have no love for him. Lin Wanwan looked completely composed. Zhou Zimos' expression immediately lit up with joy, and just as he was about to speak, Lin Wanwan suddenly changed her tone. But now I'm quite interested in him. In your eyes, does that count as feelings? As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou Zimos' face instantly turned pale. Realizing she might not love him anymore was one thing, but hearing it with his own ears was another matter entirely. Wanwan Jie, are you serious? Zhou Zimos' throat felt like it was filled with sand, and his voice sounded incredibly raspy. This shock was too fatal for him. The woman who once gave him her whole heart and soul was now saying she was interested in another man, which felt worse than losing everything he owned. Lin Wanwan nodded coldly, completely shattering his last bit of hope. He wished he had misheard, or that Lin Wanwan was just being spiteful. Regrettably, none of that was true. Lin Wanwan was being perfectly serious. Why? Zhou Zimo gripped the charm on her handbag tightly. You, didn't you? Do you mean to say, didn't I love you deeply? Lin Wanwan heartlessly interrupted him. The mockery in her eyes couldn't be more obvious. But you were always rejecting my love, so does it still matter whether I love you or not? I am interested in Mu Chen, so it shouldn't matter to you at all. So why are you even asking? Don't you think it's very strange? I just didn't want you to have it too easily. I wanted you to feel that my marrying you was entirely something you had to beg for. Only then would you know how to cherish me, keeping your mind always on me so that I could stand before you and before the Lin family with my head held high. But I really didn't expect that your love for me was only worth this much. I've returned after finishing my studies abroad, yet here you are, interested in another man. Truly, a single misstep causes 1,000 miles of difference. Zhou Zimo took a very deep breath, forcefully ripping the tassel off the handbag, forcing himself to calm down. I regret it now, all right? Lin Wanwan's gaze was deep and cold. Zhou Zimo's inner thoughts made her feel only an absolute sense of loathing toward him. It turned out he had always plotted to control her. What audacity, what immense ambition. Though my inner thoughts earlier were harsh, they were indeed quite accurate. Her judgment of character is just too poor. I understand. Lin Wanwan's reaction was as bland as water. What she once longed for, she could now have with just a wave of her hand, yet it didn't stir her heart in the slightest. Your regret is your business, but I am married now, so I am truly sorry. These words were effectively saying there was no longer any chance for them. Seeing years of scheming go down the drain, Zhou Zimos' emotions instantly crumbled. Lin Wanwan, you really have no heart. Tears immediately began to stream down his face. Anyone seeing a man shed tears would be moved, but once Lin Wanwan detests someone, no matter how handsome or charming they are, they cannot stir even the slightest ripple in her heart. She didn't bother responding, unsure if she didn't want to answer, or was simply too lazy to do so. But regardless of which it was, there was no doubt she was backing his emotions into a corner, making him even more distraught. You clearly loved me so deeply before. Why don't you love me anymore? Zhou Zimo wiped his tears as he wept, his tone resentful like a wronged child. You're a liar. You clearly said you'd wait for me forever. Lin Wanwan remained completely indifferent. She looked at the clock on the wall. He'd been in the restroom for 15 minutes. Did that man sneak off and run away? Lin Wanwan's gaze turned somewhat dark. If this man dared to run, then she wouldn't hesitate to be ruthless. I've always been slow to warm up, as you know. Besides, I was too young then, still very naive about matters of the heart. Now I'm absolutely certain I love you too. I've loved you for a long time without even realizing it. Zhou Zimo didn't notice she wasn't listening at all, continuing his tearful confession with utter earnestness. I strolled out of the restroom having just finished a call with Lu Chubai, so I was a bit late getting back. Reaching the door of the ward, I heard a man sobbing from within, so I smiled and pushed the door open, saying, Mr. Zhou, please don't cry by my wife's bedside like that. Anyone would think she'd passed away. Zhou Zimo's sobbing abruptly stopped as he turned to look at me with a face full of resentment. This tactless brat must have used some underhanded dirty trick to bewitch Wanwanji's mind, while bad-mouthing me behind my back. Otherwise, after Wanwanji has loved me for all these years, how could she just stop loving me all of a sudden? She must still have feelings for me in her heart. I definitely still have a chance to turn this around. All my efforts over the years absolutely cannot go to waste. Zhou Zimo's inner thoughts annoyed Lin Wanwan, but she also felt a surge of extreme rage. The love she gave him had all been part of his calculations, spun around like a top for all those years, which was a massive insult for someone as proud as her. Don't look at me with those eyes, it really scares me. Although I don't know what happened between them, during the 15 minutes I was gone, based on the current situation, their negotiations had certainly failed. If I don't step in to cause trouble now, then when will I? Wife, I'm about to be scared to death by him. I hurried over to the bedside, crouched down, and rested my chin on the edge, looking up at Lin Wanwan with a truly pitiful expression. The way he's looking at me, it's like he wants to eat me alive. I don't think it's that extreme, is it? I don't know why he's flying into such a rage. It's really more than one can bear. Lin Wanwan glanced at me, the corner of her mouth twitching imperceptibly. With my punchable personality, is she sure she did something to me in a previous life? Lin Wanwan didn't understand yet that once you truly love someone, it's like exposing your weaknesses to them. If the person you love wants to hurt you one day, then you were the one who handed them the knife. If not for a deep love, who would easily give someone else the chance to hurt them? Mu Chen, that's quite enough. The rage in Zhou Zimo's heart rushed to his head as he furiously pointed right at my nose. You're doing this on purpose to provoke me. When did I provoke you? Don't just make up slanderous accusations. What I said is the absolute truth. You clearly know that between me and Wanwan Jie. I know what exactly. I didn't hesitate to cut him off, playfully sticking out my tongue. I'm only 20 years old this year, while you and Wanwan Jie are already 26. Back when the two of you were intimate, I hadn't even graduated from middle school, so how could I know what went on between you? Brother Zhou, I know you like Wanwan Jie, and Wanwan Jie used to like you too, but we're married now. However, if you two want to be together, that's fine, since she's fine with me finding someone else. I can't be too narrow-minded either, right? It'll allow you two to meet occasionally. What the hell are you talking about, Wanwan Jie? Listen to what he's saying. You said you were interested in this kind of man. I truly can't believe it, Zhou Zimo roared in indignation. I'm only 20 years old, not some 26-year-old old-timer. I can only be considered a boy, not a grown man or an uncle. I snickered back at him. This is truly satisfying. Getting him so worked up his whole body hurts. Whether Zhou Zimo is so angry his whole body hurt remains unknown for now, but he was definitely fuming right now. He swayed slightly, gritting his teeth as he squeezed out 3 words. Mu Chen, what is it, uncle? Oh wait, I mean brother Zhou. Why are you calling my name so excitedly? I blinked my big, innocent eyes, putting on an incredibly pure and harmless face. Compared to his state of flying into a rage, this pose of mine was definitely much cuter. Even Zhou Zimo himself felt that way. He realized his appearance right now was surely very unsightly, so he took a few deep breaths, awkwardly adjusting the expression on his face. Then he looked at me with an unfriendly gaze and asked, Mu Chen, you really like playing the victim, don't you? Playing the victim? I tilted my head in confusion. Brother Zhou, what does playing the victim mean? I don't quite understand. Zhou Zimo gave a cold laugh, then looked down at Lin Wanwan. Wanwan Jie, he says he doesn't understand the word, but surely you must understand it very well. With the prominent family background behind Lin Wanwan, along with her unparalleled beauty, she was destined to always be surrounded by men. However, before, only he was in her eyes. She always coldly rejected those who actively approached her. But there had been an exception in the past. During Lin Wanwan's high school days, a classmate with very clever tactics turned out to receive a bit of her appreciation. After Zhou Zimo found out about it, he had some contact with that boy, discovering he was a typical manipulative green tea guy. So he directly explained the situation to Lin Wanwan, clearly explaining what a manipulative man is. Lin Wanwan had always listened to his words, and from then on, she utterly detested people like that. So this was his extremely powerful counterattack right now. Pity that the current Lin Wanwan was no longer the one who obeyed every command and followed his every wish as before. Lin Wanwan just casually glanced at me, then looked back at Zhou Zimo and asked in return, Is that so? Zhou Zimo's whole body swayed violently, his expression changing in a very awkward way. Brother Zhou, I was just teasing you a bit earlier. Of course I know what that word means, but I'm not playing the victim, I'm just being cute. I placed my index finger under my chin with a very mischievous smile. Acting cute toward a woman who likes you, she'll surely like you even more. With such a good deal, why wouldn't I do it? Wanwan Jie doesn't like you at all, Zhou Zimo shouted loudly. I naturally know Lin Wanwan doesn't like me, so even though they're in conflict right now and Lin Wanwan is angry at Zhou Zimo, I wouldn't bet on her coordinating with me to annoy him. Because if I lose, it'll be embarrassing, so my mind whirled quickly and I uttered a flawless sentence. My skin is naturally quite thick, so even if your Wanwan Jie doesn't like me, it'll just pretend she does. I'm truly a brilliant genius. Brother Zhou, although you're a bit older now, and acting cute might not look very cute on you, there's no other way. To win my wife's favor, you should give it a try. Even if my wife doesn't say anything, she might actually love it in her heart. This sentence was as deep as it could be, provocative enough to make someone lose their mind. Calling her wife over and over made him seethe with rage. If it were someone with a bit less composure, they would have been shouting curses by now. But Zhou Zimo is manipulative after all. Otherwise, he couldn't have made Wanwan love him so much. So he knew clearly that given the current situation, it was impossible to recover his footing. The hand tightly gripping his bag slightly loosened as he forced a smile that looked worse than crying. Muchen, you have too little life experience. A man's charm isn't just about being cute. But it doesn't matter. I will prove to you. What kind of man is truly most suitable for her? I casually shrugged my shoulders. This attitude of mine was more irritating than any words. He feared that staying any longer would make him sick with rage. So he looked at Lin Wanwan with a pale face and said, Wanwan, I'm not feeling well, so I'll take my leave first. I'll come to see you again tomorrow. As soon as the words were spoken, he received absolutely no response from her. If it were before, just by saying he wasn't well, Lin Wanwan would immediately look very worried, caring for him as if he were a fragile child. Even during the 5 years he was abroad, whenever he was unwell, she would arrange for someone to take him to the hospital, caring for him meticulously in every possible way. Yet now she was completely indifferent. If this isn't the end of love, then what is? Zhou Zimou's eyes reddened. But in the end, not wanting his pride to be completely trampled in the mud, he didn't bother saying another word, turned around, and walked straight out. I'm truly not resigned. Could it be that all my efforts over the years still won't get me into the Lin family? I feel so incredibly wronged. It absolutely cannot be. I definitely must not give up so easily. Marrying a noble woman with this poor background is truly too difficult. There's only a bit of hope left with Lin Wanwan. As long as there's a glimmer of hope, I must grasp it firmly. Otherwise, I will forever just be a lowly person. Lin Wanwan lowered her eyes. Hearing his inner thoughts, a deep mockery flickered in her eyes. It turns out that marrying her for a better life was his only goal from start to finish. That was the true intention he had always been pursuing. Poor, sincere feelings, being trampled on, having been misled for so many long years. It's not early anymore. I should head back too. I still have classes at school tomorrow. Since Zhou Zimou has left, I no longer need to pretend to be cute. My sharp-featured face returned to its ice-cold look. The speed at which you change faces, it's a waste of talent not to be an actor. The corner of Lin Wanwan's mouth curled into a distinct arc, appearing to be in a very good mood. Before, she could love Zhou Zimou, partly because he was indeed manipulative, and partly because he was indeed her type, while I am the complete opposite of him. Yet for some reason, the more she looks at me now, the more pleasing I seem. She even finds my way of irritating people quite adorable. Lin Wanwan told herself she must be going crazy. Could it be because of those tragic inner thoughts, revealing I once loved her so deeply that she's like this? Even she didn't know for sure. She only knew that before clearing up what I had been through, there was no way she would let me out of her sight. If you dare to listen, I'll dare to act, I replied with an expressionless face. The performance fee is 30 million per session. Lin Wanwan couldn't help but burst out laughing. You really have the nerve to demand such a sky-high price. Well, you dare to listen, so why wouldn't I dare to ask? I stood up, intending to dust off my clothes and slip away. Let the nurse take good care of you tonight. No, Lin Wanwan disagreed. It wasn't because she'd miss me, but because she feared I'd run to the psychiatric ward and bring someone else here. Thinking back to that lady from this afternoon, she still felt a bit uncomfortable. I slightly frowned, just about to snap back at her, when Wen Shuzhen walked in from outside. I cursed inwardly. Today was truly beyond unlucky. Having just seen off Zhou Zimou, now Wen Shuzhen suddenly appeared. Even if I were a god of war, I'd be out of energy to fight this late at night. Seeing me carrying my backpack and ready to slip away, Wen Shuzhen questioned with a scowling face, "Where do you think you're going?" I nodded with a cold expression. "It's very late. If I don't go back, my mother will worry." "Oh, just shut up," Wen Shuzhen put on a look of utter mockery. "That stepmother of yours actually knows how to worry about you? She only wishes you'd never show your face again, so no one will compete with her biological son for the inheritance. If you don't know how to speak properly, then you better just stay silent. With such a prominent family status as the Lins, they surely won't miss those trivial things." I was too lazy to stay and argue with her, so after speaking, I shouldered my pack and walked straight out. Wen Shuzhen seemed to have learned her lesson this time, as she didn't reach out to stop me again. After I had left the ward, Wen Shuzhen hurried over to the bedside, placing a thermal container on the nightstand. "Daughter, I stewed some chicken soup for you myself. This accident caused you very serious injuries. You absolutely must nourish yourself well. Remember to drink a few bowls later." Lin Wanwan nodded with an incredibly calm face, not even bothering to speak. While Wen Shuzhen was pouring the chicken soup into a bowl, she was secretly observing her daughter's expression. After pouring, she casually remarked as if by chance, "I just saw Zimou downstairs a moment ago. I saw that his eyes were all red. Did you two just have an argument?" "No. Then why did he?" "I know what you're trying to fish for," Lin Wanwan interrupted. Wen Shuzhen, her gaze so calm there wasn't a single ripple. "I've already said, except for grandfather Lin, no one has the right to decide my marriage. As for my personal feelings, even less is anyone allowed to interfere or make decisions for me." Her words grew sharper, and her gaze became more piercing. Wen Shuzhen was choked up, wanting to say something but not daring to open her mouth. In the end, she could only let out a helpless sigh. Then she drank 2 bowls of chicken soup instead of Lin Wanwan. She tidied up a bit, and then left. Shujiaki had been waiting outside the door the whole time. Wen Shizhen walked right past her, but then she stepped back and turned around. Her eyes scanned her with deep suspicion. Assistant Shu, have you been standing out here all this time? So do you know that Zemo is inside? What exactly happened between the three of them? When Shujin stepped closer to Shujiaki, she leaned into her ear and asked in a low voice. Shujiaki's eyes flickered slightly. She gave a slight shake of her head. Seo Lin gave me instructions. When there's someone else inside, she told me to stand a bit further away from the hospital room. So, I don't know anything at all. When Shuzhen clicked her tongue in dissatisfaction, her expression turned quite sour. But since Shujiaki was Wanwan's person after all, she didn't dare be too harsh or show too much attitude. She could only turn and leave in a huff. I left the hospital and headed straight home. Chu Huilan was sitting on the sofa in the living room. She was wearing a face mask. She was watching TV while doing it. Hearing the door open, she turned her head. Seeing that I had just returned from somewhere, she pulled off the mask she had just put on. Why are you coming home this late at night? Over there, it's just your mother and the maid, and you're all alone on the second floor. Were you scared again? I placed my keys on the shoe cabinet at the entrance. I walked into the living room and sat down beside her. Besides, it's not nearly as comfortable there as it is in our own home. Chu Huilan gave me a side eye. She let out a cold snort. Even if you plan to divorce Lin Wanwan after being a matrilocal husband, running home not even 2 days after the wedding, if people find out, who knows what kind of gossip they'll spread about you. I don't care one bit what others say about me. I grabbed a grape from the fruit plate and tossed it into my mouth. With a blissful expression, I leaned back against the sofa. Even if no woman ever wants to marry me in the future, I wouldn't mind at all. To be able to live by my parents' side for the rest of my life is exactly what I want. Stop sitting there talking such nonsense. Chu Huilan glared at me with annoyance. Say one more word and I'll kick you out of this house. You can go out and look after yourself. I just gave a carefree, gentle smile. Would you really have the heart to kick me out? I'm not the child you carried for 9 months and 10 days. Why wouldn't I have the heart? If I had heard those words in my previous life, they definitely would have hurt my feelings, and I would have resented her even more. But now, it's not like that at all. I swallowed the sweet grape in my mouth and stood up from the comfortable sofa. You guessed I was coming home tonight, didn't you? Otherwise, you wouldn't have left grapes out on the coffee table. Mom, with your sharp tongue and soft heart, you're going to lose out big time sooner or later. Chu Huilan let out a soft, mocking laugh. The biggest loss for me was not getting rid of you sooner, wasting so much of this family's food. I chuckled. I'm going to be a parasite on this family for many more years. Even if it bothers you, you'll just have to put up with it. As soon as the words were out, I quickly dashed upstairs. Mu Chen, when are you moving your things back here? Chu Huilan stood up and shouted after me. I stopped on the stairs and looked back down. I'm planning to move everything tomorrow. Mom, help me contact the moving company, okay? Did I owe you something in a past life or what? Chu Huilan scolded loudly, sounding annoyed, but I knew for sure she would help me make the call. I gave a cheerful grin and went upstairs. Back in the cozy room I hadn't visited in a long time, I took a deep breath. The scent of lavender filled my nose. It made my tense nerves finally relax. Before my rebirth, I rarely came back here after getting married. But every time I did, the room was perfectly clean and filled with the fragrance of lavender. Even though I hadn't been home for a long while, Mom had always cleaned the room for me regularly. It's a shame my mind wasn't very sharp in my past life. Even if I noticed, I never stopped to think about why. I let out a soft sigh. I walked over to the spacious wardrobe. I reached out and opened the cabinet door. Inside, clean pajamas were neatly folded. I smiled with satisfaction. I grabbed the pajamas and walked into the bathroom. Once my spirit had completely relaxed, I couldn't suppress the wave of drowsiness that hit me, afraid I might fall asleep in the bathtub. I gave up on the idea of a relaxing soak. I just took a quick hot shower and stepped out. Lying down on the soft bed, I let out a gentle, pleasant sigh. It feels absolutely wonderful. Being a student at age 20, the prime of one's life, hanging out with friends during my free time, living a joyful life for my own happiness. Isn't this 100 times better than revolving around a single woman and letting her dictate my every mood? Someone who has already tasted the bitterness of life won't ever want to endure that kind of suffering again. That's exactly the relaxed state I'm in right now. I tossed and turned, thinking about what I'll need to do at school tomorrow. Lost in thought, I drifted into a deep sleep before I knew it. Early the next morning, when I woke up and went downstairs, I saw Chu Huilan standing there making a phone call. I didn't step closer to disturb her. I just stood still and overheard a few words. I saw she was talking to the moving company. I turned to pour a glass of warm water, waiting until she hung up. I brought the glass over to her. Mom, you've been working so hard. Chu Huilan shot me a look. She seemed to be in a fairly good mood today, so she took the water without saying anything else. My eyes darted around playfully for a moment, then I reached up to gently massage her shoulders. Mom, I want to find a hospital for a clinical internship. Could you see if you know any doctors? Or anyone working at a hospital? Anyone will do. It'll be much more convenient if I know someone there. Chu Huilan narrowed her eyes slightly. She seemed to be really enjoying my massage. A few years ago, my stomach was constantly bothering me, so I went to Donghua Hospital to see a certain doctor. Don't let his youthful appearance fool you. His medical skills are actually quite profound. I went for checkups so many times that he and I gradually became acquainted. Later, we even exchanged contact info to stay in touch. We've been in regular contact for all these years. I can help you ask him about the situation. That would be amazing. I knew you had the best connections, Mom. Everywhere you go, you make friends with talented people. I understand how to please her perfectly now. Just go along with her and coax her. Then everything becomes easy to handle. No matter how haughty her personality might be, when she hears such sweet flattery, she doesn't have the heart to scold me. She just glared at me and said nothing more. After finishing a hearty breakfast, I left the house to catch a ride to school. I left home quite early today. As soon as I reached school, I texted Lu Chubai. He said he had only just woken up, so I had to go to the classroom alone first. The moment I walked in, I saw our usual seats had already been taken by someone else. A strange girl was sitting in the chair. I had never seen her in this class before. While walking past her, I stole a few curious glances out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, the girl suddenly looked up. Our eyes accidentally met. Feeling a bit awkward, I gave a slight nod of greeting. Hello. The girl's face was completely cold. Without a word, she lowered her head again. Just like that. I didn't just feel awkward. I felt like I was totally out of place. I frowned slightly, though I felt a bit uncomfortable. It wasn't worth bickering with someone so rude. So I didn't say another word, and chose a seat a bit further away from her. After setting my backpack down neatly, I pulled out my thick anatomy textbook to review the material from the previous lesson. I'm usually someone who concentrates easily when reading. I'm rarely bothered by outside noises. So when the surroundings suddenly became noisy, I felt truly disturbed. I looked up to observe. By now, the classroom was packed with students. My face suddenly went blank, because there wasn't a single person in this class that I knew. Luckily, my brain still reacted quite quickly. It took exactly 2 seconds for me to realize I was in the wrong room. I immediately grabbed my books and backpack and shuffled toward the door. Isn't that Mu Chen from the medical department? What's he doing in our class? From the look of it, he definitely walked into the wrong room. The corner of my mouth twitched in sheer embarrassment, so I quickened my pace even more. Even though I've lived very quietly since starting university, thanks to my consistently excellent exam results, combined with my fairly good looks, and Lu Subei's enthusiastic promotion of me everywhere, it's actually kind of hard not to be famous. I rushed out of the classroom door in a slight panic. Then I looked back at the room number again. I gave myself a thorough scolding in my head. Clearly, I slept well last night, and I woke up feeling full of energy this morning. How could I possibly have gone to the wrong floor entirely? I scrambled up the stairs while checking my wristwatch. There were only 2 minutes left until class started. I hurried and put all my effort into running upwards. And finally, just as the bell rang out piercingly, I reached the classroom door just in time. The professor on the podium glanced at me. He just gave a slight wave for me to take my seat quickly. Then he prepared to begin his lecture immediately. My eyes searched frantically for Lu Shubai. Then I walked over quickly and sat down right next to him. Mu Chen, didn't you say you arrived at school early? How on earth did you only just show up in class now? Lu Shubai leaned close to my ear and asked in a soft whisper. Don't even mention it. I just walked into the wrong classroom. I was so lost in my reading that I didn't notice my surroundings at all. I propped up the thick book on the table to hide my face. I lowered my head with a look of utter frustration. Pfft. Lu Chubai really couldn't help himself and burst out laughing. I glared at him sternly, giving him a sharp warning with my eyes. Seeing that I looked truly annoyed, he tried his best to suppress his laughter. He didn't dare tease me any further. Our whispering must have been a bit too loud. The old professor looked in our direction. He paused his lecture and pointedly cleared his throat loudly. Following his gaze, the whole class turned to see what was going on. Well, this is just great. Now he's getting a taste of what it's like to be red-faced with shame. Both of us fell silent immediately and began to listen seriously to the professor's lecture. As the class was about to end, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of someone passing by outside, even though it was only for a split second. I would recognize this person even if they turned to ash. It was Joe Zemo. What is that guy doing here at University H? I frowned slightly, staring outside for a long while. The bell for the end of class finally rang. I quickly packed my backpack, then I dragged Lu Shubai straight out of the classroom. I just saw Joe Zemo. What? Joe Zemo? Lu Shubai looked utterly shocked. He's already back from abroad? I didn't tell him this news yesterday, because I didn't want his imaginative mind to start dreaming up all sorts of unnecessary trouble. Secondly, I was afraid he'd make a scene trying to find Joe Zemo for a showdown, ever since he found out I was in love with Lin Wanwan. While Lin Wanwan only had eyes for Joe Zemo, he started to find Joe Zemo incredibly annoying. Every time they met, he'd find some way to pick a fight. But because Lin Wanwan was always there to protect that guy, Not only could he never do anything to him, but he'd end up full of resentment himself. Right now, if I even dared to nod in confirmation, he'd be ready to scour the entire campus to find him. Just calm down. Don't get so worked up. This time, Lin Wanwan isn't making any move to shield him. So don't go rushing off to settle scores with him just yet. How can I not go? You vented your anger. So I need to release this frustration too. It's not like you don't know what happened before. You know the insulting things he said about me. Besides, those nasty rumors about me out there were all secretly spread by him. He's just jealous because I have a good family background. He thinks someone with a personality like mine, and who lacks any shred of ambition, only gets respect and admiration because of a young master title. He feels the world is just too unfair. It turns out Lu Shubai has a pretty keen eye for people. He analyzed Zhou Zimo's psychology perfectly. No way, Lu Shubai. You're actually quite impressive, aren't you? I stared at him with a scrutinizing gaze. It was as if I were getting to know him for the very first time. Turns out I've really been underestimating you all this time. I thought you were just a naive, happy-go-lucky young master, with nothing but air in your head. Shut up and step aside. He feigned offense and raised his hand. Then he gave me a light pat on the shoulder. Why are you becoming just as annoying as he is? All right. I was just joking around. I grabbed his hand firmly. If you were really the way I was just teasing you, how could you have gotten into such a prestigious university? It's just that with many things in life. You don't want to waste energy thinking too much. Your soul is essentially just quite pure. Actually, that's a very good thing. He was very pleased to hear those words. He pursed his lips and gave me a haughty look. Then he broke into a bright grin. I'll admit you know how to talk. I'll temporarily overlook your teasing from just now. Seeing his cheerful state, I gave his shoulder a firm squeeze. I want to know what his purpose is for being here. Come with me to scout out the situation. No need to work so hard, we can just ask around. Lu Chubai scanned the area. He just passed through this area. Let me see if anyone knows anything. Hey, Fanjiru, come over here for a second. Not far away, a girl was leaning against the wall. She glanced toward us. Then she slowly started walking over. Subai, why are you calling me? Fanjiru's face was clearly heavy with sleep. I was trying to catch a quick nap. Is sleeping all you ever think about? I want to ask you about someone. A man just walked through this hallway. Did you see which way he went? Fanjiru opened her eyes slightly. She was silent for a few seconds before speaking slowly. He was holding a job acceptance form. Probably just a new teacher who transferred here. He's most likely headed to the principal's office. He came to University H to be a teacher? Lu Tsubai's eyes widened in disbelief. For real? Does a guy like him even deserve to be a teacher? He's an overseas student who just returned home. Why would you say he's not worthy? His face was full of contempt. That school he attended abroad. You can get in as long as you have money. Who knows how much money his family had to shell out back then? Now he's back and wants to be a teacher for others? He's probably feeling very smug and talented right now. The more Lu Subai talked, the more agitated he became. With that, he marched aggressively toward the stairs. From the looks of it, he's definitely going to find him to start trouble. I quickly reached out and held him back firmly. Subai, don't be so hot-headed. Even if we don't actively go looking for him, he'll eventually come find us sooner or later. He turned back to look at me with a questioning face. How can you be so sure? Yesterday, I made him lose face in front of Wanwan. Now that he's set foot in University H and has naturally become a new teacher here, he'll definitely want to take this chance to get his revenge, and also to teach me a lesson he'll never forget while he's at it. I gave a slight cold smirk, a smile radiating absolute confidence, because by now, I understand the type of person he is all too well. Lu Subai has always had absolute faith in me, seeing me affirm it so decisively. He could only pout and concede. Fine, he'll follow your lead this time. I'm trusting you just this once. Well, just sit tight and wait for him to come to our door. The next class is about to start soon. I gave a polite smile to Fanjiru. Thank you so much. We have to get back to class on time. Fanjiru gave a sluggish nod. She reached out and gave his shoulder a light pat. Then she drifted back to her spot, leaned against the wall, and closed her eyes again. Lu Tubai watched her and whispered under his breath. This girl is truly strange. She actually enjoys sleeping while leaning against a wall. I wonder if one can actually sleep in that position. She does that either because she has eccentric habits, with the aura of a true big sister, or maybe she's harboring some hidden purpose. I lowered my eyes to look at him. My face showed a deep, meaningful expression. Lu Shubai, shouldn't you be thinking about dating too? Fanjiru is truly a person with a very unique personality. She's always been a loner at school, coming and going by herself. In the past, I also found it quite puzzling. Why would someone so closed off and solitary be so closely acquainted with him? Later, I heard rumors that she's the daughter of the fan group's chairman. In other words, she's Fan Min's illegitimate daughter. Fan Min was recently involved in a horrific traffic accident. His wife and daughter were also in the car at the time. But in the end, only he was rescued alive. The moment he woke up, he sent someone to bring her to his hospital bed. Anyone can guess the intention behind that move, and from that moment onward, she began to pursue Lu Xubai intensely and openly. and that pursuit was truly sincere and devoted. That's why I'm saying these things now. Why are you talking in such a nonsensical way? He looked at me with a strange gaze. Besides, didn't I tell you before? I really don't want to get involved in any messy relationship stuff. I just want to live a free, happy life by myself. But if someone were willing to love you for your entire life, wouldn't that be much happier than being all alone? I narrowed my eyes with a smile and retorted. He just shook his head vigorously. Forget it. I never believe in things like long-lasting feelings, even in those fairy tales. There's no guarantee the prince will be faithful to one person forever. Are you being serious or joking? I was incredibly surprised by that statement. He gave me a disdainful side-eye. If you don't believe it, go ahead and verify it yourself. All right, you're the most knowledgeable one here. I believe you, okay? Just then, the bell for the start of class rang again. I immediately ended the discussion there and pulled him quickly toward the classroom when only half the class had passed. He leaned close to my ear again and whispered, "When do you think hell finally show his face to find us? At least wait until this class is over. But after this class, it's already lunch break." Under my teasing gaze, he had to boldly continue. Lunch break is the crucial time for eating. My stomach is starting to protest. He's naturally a true foodie. 3 square meals a day are a must for him. Even at other times, his mouth never stays still. Whenever it's mealtime and he's not allowed to eat, it's truly an incomparable form of torture. Then hurry up and go have your hot meal. I'll stay here alone and wait for him. How could I do that? How could I possibly leave you here all by yourself? Do you think I'm the kind of person who lacks loyalty? He stated it with absolute seriousness and certainty, as if I had just doubted his good intentions. I understood his personality far too well already, so I just smiled and asked him back. Have you really thought this through? Do you really intend to skip your lunch today, huh? Clearly, he was still very hesitant and undecided. In his heart, he craved a delicious lunch. But he also didn't want to leave me to face this alone. After a long pause from the fierce internal struggle, his face suddenly brightened, and he grabbed my hand. Didn't you say he would definitely come looking for you? Then let's just head to the cafeteria together. He'll track you down there regardless. You're right. Our brains felt like they were frozen just now. We weren't using our heads to adapt at all. He finished packing his backpack in a flash. Come on, let's go, buddy. If we're any later, my favorite dishes will be all gone. I looked at him with deep meaning. But I didn't say that once we reached the cafeteria. He might not have the patience to look for me there. Because someone like him who values prestige and social status always tries to polish himself to look elegant and more noble than others. So, places with such a common vibe like the student cafeteria, he probably wouldn't ever deign to set foot in. But even if he doesn't go there to find me, he'll still have countless other ways to deal with him later. There's no need to be too eager for 1 or 2 small opportunities. I just feel a bit sorry for my friend who hasn't vented his old frustration yet. But it turns out I underestimated the impact of yesterday's events, when I caught sight of him being escorted by a female teacher into this crowded and cramped cafeteria space. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of surprise in my heart, but then I realized he must have been so preoccupied with it that he chose to cast aside his arrogant ego to come all the way here, to find me and finally settle everything once and for all. I lightly bit the end of the chopstick in my hand, my eyes crinkled into triumphant curves. Lu Shubai, turn around and see who just arrived. He was still engrossed in devouring his delicious food, so he didn't have the presence of mind to notice what I just said. Not until Joe Zemo loomed directly in front of him did he slowly look up at the other person with a weary gaze. At first, he didn't even have time to react. Then he stared at him for a moment, before it suddenly hit him. His eyes widened in disbelief. Long time no see. Joe Zemo's smile looked so gentle and refined. His face was perfectly groomed and clean. He was wearing the latest premium suit from this season. An expensive watch adorned his wrist. It clearly cost a fortune. At first glance, one would think he was a successful man, or a young master from an incredibly wealthy family. Isn't this the great young master Joe Zemo? With a noble status like yours, coming here must be an insult to you, shouldn't it? He immediately put down the chopsticks in his hand, not even caring about his favorite meal anymore. His whole body instantly went into defensive mode. In the past, compared to me, the legitimate spouse, Joe Zemo actually targeted him even more. Just like now, his face was filled with contempt. His words were sharp and without any restraint. Though they didn't come to blows directly, their verbal sparring was incredibly intense. Each time, it made everyone feel extremely uncomfortable. How could he possibly not be affected by this? Joe Zemo's expression turned slightly sour. Because he was so focused on finding me to settle yesterday's business, he completely forgot about Luke Shubei's presence. Without Lin Wanwan around, this blunt-talking guy was a real headache for him. The teacher accompanying him heard this, and her expression toward him shifted strangely. Hey, you there, student. You should mind your manners when you speak. That is disrespectful to others. Be careful, or you'll cause unnecessary trouble. Joe Zemo's gaze was incredibly stern. His aura was quite overwhelming. He really did look like a proper teacher. Unnecessary trouble? He let out a soft, mocking laugh. Someone who's been abroad really is different. You sound much more confident than before. It's not just about being more confident, but also knowing how to selectively forget the past. So, has my wife become a stranger now? All those years of affection just tossed aside like trash? I quickly chimed in with another remark. That was quite a lot of information to pack into one sentence. Ms. Chen, who was with him, looked completely embarrassed. Mr. Zhou, are you an old acquaintance of these two students? Actually, I do know them. He obviously couldn't let Ms. Chen dig deeper into what we said. He frowned, making a deliberate effort to explain. There's just a bit of a misunderstanding between us. That's why their words are a bit harsh right now. His face remained incredibly calm. He spoke carefully, leaving himself an escape route, exuding the steady and composed air of a mature man. It was very easy for others to trust him. So that's how it is. A smile returned to Ms. Chen's face. Her voice carried a hint of defensiveness. I knew it, Mr. Zhou isn't that kind of person. With his elegant appearance and proper manners, Zhou Zimo's physical appearance was indeed very good. Combined with his deliberate, gentlemanly poise, just walking around the campus, even if he didn't grab 100% of the attention, he'd at least leave a very positive impression on quite a few single female teachers. Ms. Chen was naturally one of them. Lu Shubai let out a cold snort. That smile didn't reach his eyes at all. Zhou Zimo, don't you feel a pang of guilt hearing those words? For someone as thick-skinned as him, you certainly couldn't tell. The two of them coordinated perfectly. Every word they spoke hit a raw nerve. Zhou Zimo's face kept changing colors. He was truly outmatched and outnumbered. No matter how smooth-tongued he was currently at a disadvantage. He took a deep breath. He turned to look at Ms. Chen, his tone carrying a hint of apology. Ms. Chen, thank you for showing me around today. It's getting late. You should go and have your lunch. I'll handle things here myself. Honestly, I don't really mind. With that, he walked toward the empty seat next to me, acting as if he intended to sit down for a long talk. Ms. Chen quickly reached out to stop him. With a face full of concern, she said, Mr. Zhou, what do you think you're doing sitting here? Just to listen to them keep saying things like this? She gave me and Lu Shubai a disapproving look, her face clearly showing her irritation. Which major are you students from? This is the new teacher for the pharmacy department. You must show some respect to your teachers. I didn't even bother to glance at her. I just gave Zhou Zimo a faint smile. This is because Lin Wanwan isn't around, so he's trying to use Ms. Chen as a shield. I can see right through his little plan. He really is used to leaning on others. We are clinical medicine students. You're not a clinical medicine teacher, are you? Then you have no authority over us. Lu Shubai has always been very headstrong. He's never liked being ordered around by anyone. He wasn't going to stay silent and submissive just because of her status as a teacher. Ms. Chen was a teacher in the nursing department. She indeed had no direct responsibility for clinical medicine. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Mrs. Chen's face. But in front of Zhou Zimo, she didn't want to seem like she lacked authority. She could only stammer out awkwardly, Even if I'm not your major's teacher, you are still students of this university. And I am a teacher here. I have a responsibility to remind you of your conduct. I don't want to argue about this with you. Go ahead and fulfill your responsibility then, and we will keep our attitude, okay? He picked up the chopsticks from the table, his face showing complete indifference. A teacher from another department managing this is quite rare. Why don't you stop trying to silence us? That way, the teacher next to you won't have to worry. He exposed her true feelings so bluntly that it made her feel incredibly ashamed. Zhou Zimo glanced at him, his eyebrows knitting together. If he kept running into situations like this, he would only be stuck in a passive position, unable to take control. Only Lin Wanwan could give him enough confidence and command respect from others. Therefore, he had to handle these relationships well. I definitely won't compromise easily. Miss Chen also felt it wasn't right to say anything more about us, fearing we might say something to embarrass her further. It would only make things more awkward for her. So she turned to advise Zhou Zimo in a gentle voice. Mr. Zhou, they're just impulsive youngsters. Don't take it personally. Especially as a new teacher, there's no need to argue with students. He's worthy of being a teacher? My smile was full of hidden meaning. Is it because of connections, or did you come in through the back door? I'm warning you. Please watch your words. Zhou Zimo was getting serious this time. His tone became very solemn. Just as Ms. Chen said, I am a teacher at this university after all. I expect at least a minimum level of respect from you. I shrugged indifferently, the calm smile still lingering on my lips. I was just asking out of curiosity. Who said you actually were that kind of person? No need to get so tense. How could he not be tense? If he acted like he didn't care, how could he make others believe he actually had real talent? Lu Tubai rested his chin on his hand, watching him. Miss Chen, don't you think I'm right? You students are really beyond comprehension. Being so disrespectful to your teachers, I honestly don't understand how students with such bad attitudes ever manage to get into medical university. It's truly a disappointment to the university. Lu Chubai turned to look at me and let out a meow. He was playfully mimicking a cat. I instantly understood what he meant. The two of us started giggling together. Wasn't this blatant favoritism? Joe Zemo indeed has a certain charm. Wherever he goes, he gains people's favor and even their wholehearted protection. But thinking about it, it's not that surprising. His looks aren't bad at all, after all. A person with a past to hide will always try to cover it up in front of someone who knows the truth. If it were just me, it wouldn't be so bad. But with a blunt guy like Lu Shubai here too, no matter how much he explains, it's all meaningless now. I originally wanted to clear up the misunderstandings between us so that we could maintain a good relationship in the future. If you're not interested in talking civilly, then I have nothing left to say. I've expressed everything I needed to. I hope you can be a bit more mature in the future. Joe Zemo stood up, speaking coldly. Mr. Joe, we've troubled you far too much. Seeing the endless worry on Ms. Chen's face, he really felt it was quite unnecessary, so he just spoke plainly. Ms. Chen, this glamorous-looking teacher in front of you actually has a past that is far from simple. The suit he's wearing is worth a considerable amount, far beyond what an ordinary person could imagine. The watch on his wrist is even rarer. Let me tell you the brand name. You can look it up yourself when you get home. So, do you still think we're just making trouble? We're only stating the truth. I chimed in with a composed smile. Ms. Chen's expression immediately changed. We've made it as clear as day. If she still insisted on defending him in her heart, it wouldn't be out of innocence, but because she had been completely fooled by appearances, she really needed to wake up. Ms. Chen had only just met him after all, and only had a good initial impression of him. She hadn't really looked into him deeply at all. So she just shot Joe Zemo a quick glance, said absolutely nothing, and turned to walk away. Joe Zemo's expression was a bit strained. He stood there in silence for a moment. Mr. Joe, I know you want to talk to me about yesterday. You want to use this opportunity to explain the situation. Didn't you bother to check who was here before coming over? He's an expert at dealing with those who refuse to back down, you know. I broke into a bright smile and teased him. Of course, I won't be backing down easily now either. It's just that he himself hasn't quite accepted it yet. I have absolutely no reason to hide. You say he specializes in dealing with the defiant? Aren't you exaggerating a bit? Joe Zemo said, suppressing his emotions. I don't necessarily have to prove anything. I'll be working at H University from now on. It's inevitable that we'll bump into each other on campus occasionally. I just felt the need to come and say hello. What subject do you actually teach? I'm honestly starting to get curious. Let me ask you a question. Did you specialize in medicine while you were abroad? His face was full of doubt. He stared at him, waiting for an answer. Joe Zemo's expression shifted slightly. Then I adjusted my composure, my tone becoming very calm. I have a pharmacist's license. That's enough to qualify as a teacher in the pharmacy department. He didn't give Lu Shubai a direct answer. Lu Shubai was truly impressed by his gall. He was clearly in the wrong and lacked confidence, yet he could still act so unperturbed. Don't you see that your excuses make you look like a total clown right now? I looked down and glanced at my watch. If I were you, I would have tried to save some face for myself long ago instead of waiting until lunch was over. We're leaving now. With that, I stood up and nodded to Lu Chubai, signaling him to leave with me. The two walked side by side, striding away right in front of Joe Zemo. Joe Zemo stood frozen in place. His eyes burned with hatred as he stared at our backs. He was so angry he was practically grinding his teeth. Before, I was very timid in front of him. I didn't dare to offend him even a little bit. A lot can happen in 5 years. It can truly change a person. He wasn't surprised to see me become like this, but for now, he still couldn't quite accept it. The young master who used to live just to please him now suddenly dared to show such an attitude. Especially when faced with my mocking gaze, he absolutely could not maintain his composure. He didn't want me to realize that I could hold my head high and live freely without fearing anything at all, just like Lu Shubai. Joe Zemo closed his eyes tight, then he quickly left the cafeteria. Lu Shubai and I had vented our anger. Our moods became incredibly refreshed. The afternoon classes ended. Once again, I turned down Lu Shubai's invitation and went straight to the hospital instead. Lin Wanwan used to be a total workaholic. Now she's bedridden, being stuck in bed all day now. One can imagine the absolute misery she's in. I was in a pretty good mood. I walked into the hospital room with a smile on my face. It was a sharp contrast to Lin Wanwan's cold, expressionless face. It created a very clear difference. Who are you putting on that miserable face for? Just don't show it to me. Otherwise, you'll leave right this second. That's what I was thinking to myself. Lin Wanwan was about to give me an attitude, but she took a deep breath and tried to ask in a gentle tone. Is school over? I nodded without any expression. Isn't it obvious? If it weren't over, why would I be here? It seems your head injury was more serious than I thought. Lin Wanwan fell silent for a few seconds. She felt like she'd been in bed so long she was losing her mind. She was a bit frustrated. She wanted to fly into a rage, but she couldn't take it out on me. because if I got angry and left, she'd have to deal with those annoying nurses again, so she had no choice but to endure it. "What's for dinner tonight?" I asked, then suddenly remembered something. I immediately continued. "Right, I forgot. You can only have porridge now." Lin Wanwan's expression turned even worse. Drinking nothing but water and broth for days. No human could possibly stand that. Lin Wanwan found the taste in her mouth incredibly bland. "Will your mother bring it?" I set my backpack aside and sat down in the chair next to her. I leisurely crossed my legs. "It'll wait for your mother to bring the food. Once you're done, it'll be heading home." "This is what you call taking care of me? Just sitting there watching me eat and then vanishing?" Lin Wanwan questioned me coldly. "And what else?" I raised an eyebrow. "How else do you want me to take care of you? Take care of me by staying close. You've got too much time on your hands, don't you?" Lin Wanwan laughed in sheer anger. "Mu Chen, you just wait and see." I looked up at the ceiling. "She'll definitely settle the score with me once she can move anyway. My debts are already piled high. Why worry about one more? I have to annoy her while she can't move to make it worth it. If I can make her go crazy, then I've already won." "Mu Chen, do you really think you can get under my skin?" This woman's question was exactly what I was thinking. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I looked at her with a wary gaze. Could she actually know what I'm thinking? That's absolutely impossible. It must have just been a coincidence. But this woman is truly terrifying. Anyone without a scheme would have their thoughts completely stripped bare in front of her. I don't think that's possible. I crossed my arms over my chest, quietly observing the woman in front of me. "My skills aren't quite advanced enough yet. Your accident happened a bit too early. Give me 2 more years, and maybe you'll be ready." Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. "I didn't realize before that you were such a fast talker, but before, I just hadn't seen things clearly yet. I was no different from a total fool. Now that I've seen the light, don't I seem much sharper?" I gave a small smirk. I inherited this sharp tongue of mine directly from Chu Huilan. It'll be hard for anyone to win against my words. No matter if it's Zhou Zimo or Lin Wanwan, neither of them is a match for me. After that, neither of them said another word. The hospital room fell into a dead silence. The silence wasn't broken until Wen Shuzhen appeared. "My daughter, I know you're tired of plain porridge. I added some chicken to the porridge today. Try to eat a bit more, okay?" Quite unlike how she usually starts trouble the moment she sees me, Wen Shuzhen acted as if I weren't even there today. It wasn't until she poured the porridge into a bowl and brought it over that she shot me a cold glare. There are people who talk a big game, promising all sorts of things they'll do, but when it's actually time for action, they can't get a single thing done. The moment she finished speaking, she let out a few mocking laughs. I smiled right back at her, though my smile was a bit innocent. "Who exactly are you trying to use that sarcastic tone on? As long as I pretend not to understand, then your words aren't even aimed at me. I'll just stay silent and not bother replying. Let's see if that makes you feel uncomfortable inside." Lin Wanwan, lying in bed, shot me a glance. A meaningful smile flickered in her eyes. Seeing me just smiling innocently without saying a word, Wen Shuzhen complained irritably, "What rotten luck. You're right. Your daughter having an accident." "Talk about bad luck. Could you stop mentioning the word accident?" Wen Shuzhen shouted in anger. Her precious daughter was suffering. Her heart was absolutely broken, so she absolutely did not want to hear those 2 words ever again. "All right then," I mimicked, zipping my lips shut. That gesture only served to annoy people even more. Wen Shuzhen took a few deep breaths, trying to suppress the rage within her. She grabbed my hand and shoved the bowl into it. "You better take proper care of my daughter. You're the one who said it. That you take care of her until she's discharged. You aren't allowed to go home tonight either." I looked down at the bowl in my hand, a mischievous glint appearing in my eyes. "But I still have classes to attend." "Classes?" Wen Shuzhen's expression immediately changed. "Didn't you already drop out? Wasn't that because you forced me to get a divorce? What else would I do after the divorce if I didn't go back to school?" Fortunately, my academic performance was so outstanding that my advisor didn't want to lose a talent like me, so he didn't submit my withdrawal application to the higher-ups. That's how I was able to continue my studies. Otherwise, my entire life would have been ruined by someone. Lin Wanwan absolutely hated others meddling in her business, especially elders interfering in her romantic and marital affairs. I said that just to take a jab at Wen Shuzhen. While I was at it, I also praised myself a bit and used a sarcastic tone to launch a fierce counterattack. And it worked. Lin Wanwan's face immediately darkened. The look she gave Wen Shuzhen became incredibly grim. Feeling guilty, Wen Shuzhen quickly looked away. Then she stiffened her neck and argued back. "It wasn't exactly me who forced you two to divorce. He's the one who brought it up first." The moment she said that, she glared at me with a face full of fury. "You brat! Why are you making things up like that?" I shrugged nonchalantly. I gave a calm smile and said, "Maybe I just remembered it wrong." How could I have remembered it wrong? I was obviously saying that on purpose. Regardless of the actual situation, this was a way for Wen Shuzhen to save face. Even though Wen Shuzhen was still annoyed, her expression had indeed softened considerably. Stay here tonight and take care of Wan Wan. She can't move yet. I'm not comfortable leaving her in anyone else's care. Wen Shuzhen pointed to the bowl in my hand. I have some things I need to take care of. Make sure you feed Wan Wan every bit of this porridge. Doesn't that sound nice? Not comfortable leaving her with anyone else, huh? If you're not comfortable, why don't you take care of her yourself? To put it plainly, she just wanted to find a way to torment me, deliberately making sure I don't have a single day of peace. Leaving her with me should be the most worrying thing of all. Who knows, if I'm in a bad mood one day, I might just take it out on your daughter for old time's sake. Hearing this, Lin Wanwan couldn't even force a smile anymore. She was actually in real danger right now. This definitely wasn't something to joke about. I kept a straight face, holding the spoon. I turned to look at Lin Wanwan. Don't worry, mother. I'll be sure to take excellent care of her. I emphasized the word excellent with great force. Lin Wanwan's eyes suddenly darkened. Her face was clearly giving me a stern warning. I quickly looked away. I pretended not to notice anything. Seeing that I wasn't protesting anymore, Wen Shuzhen didn't say another word. She turned, grabbed her handbag, and left the room. As she left, she deliberately instructed Shujiaki at the door. If that guy dares to leave, let me know immediately. Well, that's it. Even if I don't want to stay today, I have to. If I dared to just walk out right now, it would be like trampling all over Wen Shuzhen's dignity. It would be a miracle if she didn't lose her mind then. I waited until Wen Shuzhen had completely disappeared. Then, I began to patiently feed Lin Wanwan her porridge, spoonful by spoonful. During that time, no one said a word. The hospital room was incredibly quiet. I noticed she kept her head bowed low. Suddenly, she looked up behind me. Filled with doubt, I turned my head back. The woman standing behind had a tall figure. She was standing very close to me. It felt like I was facing a wall. It gave me quite a startle. I frowned and looked upward. I encountered a face that looked like she didn't care about the world. I was very familiar with this woman. She was Lin Wanwan's younger cousin, the daughter of Wen Shuzhen's younger brother. Her name was Mu Yulu. Previously, Mu Yulu was just like Lin Wanwan. They both hated me extremely. The reason was simply that she thought I wasn't worthy. Not worthy of the older sister she idolized. Every time she saw me, she couldn't help but mock and ridicule me. If it were just mockery and ridicule, it would have been manageable. I could have completely chosen to ignore it. It didn't cause me any actual harm. But Mu Yulu had a wicked heart. She frequently stabbed me in the back. So, I hated her intensely. How could I forget about this kind of person? I suffered quite a lot of losses at her hands in the past. When I have time, I'll have to teach her a lesson. During that time, no one said a word. Her gaze toward Mu Yulu was a bit displeased. This younger cousin has been annoying since she was a child. Not only narrow-minded, but also holds grudges. Whenever she sees someone she doesn't like, even if they haven't offended her, she still wants to play dirty tricks to provoke them. Truly, a person with a dark heart. If I had experienced those things, I would have certainly been bullied by Mu Yulu quite a bit. Behave yourself for me. Lin Wanwan issued a cold warning. That was the first thing she said upon seeing Mu Yulu. I heard it and found it quite confusing, but Mu Yulu understood her meaning. She raised her eyebrows in total surprise, finding it a bit hard to believe. Doesn't sister hate him intensely? Why is she suddenly protecting him? I didn't want to get directly involved with Mu Yulu. Placing the bowl on the nightstand, standing up and stepping aside, Lin Wanwan looked dissatisfied, speaking in an icy voice. You haven't finished the porridge yet. Eat less in the evening. It's better for your health. I gave a slight, faint smile. Before Lin Wanwan could say anything, Mu Yulu beside her gave a cold snort. I see that you're afraid of me, so you don't dare sit here anymore, do you? You're right, but also wrong. Haven't you noticed that every time I see you at school, I always take a detour? I'm afraid your temper is too great. My life is already fragile. If I were hit by your temper, then my little life would be gone to the ghosts. I spoke while giving her a slight bow. My attitude seemed very ingratiating, but the words from my mouth sounded like they had no sincerity at all. Mu Yulu's face darkened. Normally, when she bullied me, I didn't even dare to fight back with a single word. Now being countered for the first time, that made her feel extremely angry. Mu Chen, don't think that because you married my sister, that you can suddenly rise to the top and treat everyone as if they're nothing. In my sister's eyes, you are absolutely nothing. You really are nothing. Mu Yulu's way of speaking has always been this harsh. These harsh words, I have heard too many times. I've long since become completely immune. My expression changed slightly, still keeping a grinning face. You're overthinking it. I've always been very self-aware. There's absolutely no need to bother you, to give me a special reminder. My words sounded pleasant at first, but they made one feel very uncomfortable, wanting to get angry, but getting angry would look too petty. Mu Yulu was completely disgusted. The best way to deal with this kind of person is to use their own methods to strike back. Too bad Mu Yulu didn't understand this principle. I think you've been living too comfortably. Mu Yulu strode toward me. The expression on her face was very fierce. If I don't teach you a proper lesson today, then I'll write my name backward. My expression was completely calm. I didn't even feel a bit of fear. I even stood still without moving an inch. What a foolish girl. If she causes trouble and it makes the news, not only her family, but even the Line family would be swept into the storm. leading to a drop in the company's stock. There's no telling how much would be lost then. Hurry up and make your move. Stop dawdling. Lin Wanwan's face immediately darkened. She shouted sternly, Mu Yulu, do you treat me as if I don't exist? Mu Yulu immediately stopped in her tracks. She turned her head and complained with a bit of a grievance. Sister, his words are so hard to listen to. Who exactly is the one being unpleasant here? Lin Wanwan found it both amusing and a headache. She looked at Mu Yulu with a stern gaze. Even so, you are not allowed to lay a hand on anyone. I didn't intend to hit him. Even if I, Mu Yulu, have a bad temper, I still wouldn't just strike out randomly. Oh, so you do have principles. I clicked my tongue with a hint of regret. I continued to press her with a provocative face. You're not planning to hit me? Then why did you rush over here so aggressively? Is it because you wanted to give me a massage? Mu Yulu's eyes turned bloodshot. She almost went crazy with rage. No one had ever made her this angry before. While there's a first time for everything, she didn't want that person to be Mu Chen. Why did the person who once bowed so lowly now not only lift his head high, but also deal her such a heavy blow? The more Mu Yulu thought about it, the more upset she felt. I'm right here. No need to call my name. Why are you calling so loudly? I reached up to pick at my ear, making her even more furious. Mu Chen, I don't know what's gotten into you, but I am not like my sister. You'd better watch out, Mu Yulu warned through gritted teeth. Are you threatening me? I raised an eyebrow. Don't be like that. I'm truly scared. An annoying person like her. I shouldn't have said that, right? I'm truly sorry. I just had a slip of the tongue. You are a magnanimous person. Please don't take it to heart. You must be about to go crazy with rage, right? If you're so tough, go ahead and hit me. She had lived this long and never met anyone like this, actually asking to be hit. If Mu Chen's brain isn't having issues right now, then his psychology must be experiencing a glitch. Would any normal person think like that? Mu Yulu was truly about to die of anger. Her fists clenched and released several times. Her whole face clearly showed how much she wanted to punch him. But no matter what, she knew she shouldn't strike out recklessly, especially not in front of Lin Wanwan. So the anger suppressed in her chest, the fire of frustration in her heart, had absolutely no way to be released. The level of discomfort was imaginable. I saw her only staring at me fiercely, with no intention of taking action. I knew that no matter how I provoked her, it was useless. Immediately, I lost all interest. I turned around and walked toward the water dispenser. It seems he'll have to find another way later. I must teach her a lesson she'll never forget, so she won't dare to mess with me anymore. Ideally, she should take a detour as soon as she sees me. Lin Wanwan heard my inner thoughts. Her expression became even more somber. Mu Yulu, from now on, don't provoke him. Sister? Mu Yulu stared at her with wide eyes. You are actually still protecting him? I don't care. Today he insulted me like that. I must teach him a lesson. I'm afraid you're the one who will suffer. Lin Wanwan gave a soft sigh. She didn't say anything more. Perhaps it really was like that. This younger cousin really should receive a lesson. At this moment, her body occasionally throbbed with pain. She didn't have the strength to think about these trivial matters. She closed her eyes and spoke softly. You should go back. I want to rest. Sister, I'm going right now. But before I go, I must ask a few questions. Mu Yulu withdrew the anger from her face. She sat down on the chair with a squinty smile. Lin Wanwan opened one eye to look at her. Ask what? Has Zhou Zimo come back? I was standing by the water dispenser drinking. My movement suddenly stiffened for a moment. I raised my eyes and looked straight over there. My ears also perked up to listen. If there's nothing else, then go home quickly. Lin Wanwan's expression was very displeased. Instead of believing her sister had a change of heart for Mu Chen, Mu Yulu believed she was just being sulky, so she lowered her head and advised miserably. Sister, Zhou Zimo has a proud temperament. Plus, back then, Grandpa forced you to get married. He has resentment in his heart. So it's normal for him to be upset with you. Now that he has finally agreed to return to the country, you shouldn't be sulky as well. What if he goes abroad again for several years? You won't be able to regret it in time then. That's right. If he goes abroad for another few years, then my child with your sister could probably call him uncle. That comment of mine was truly profound, successfully making both of their faces turn pale. They looked extremely unsightly. How can there be someone who speaks so sarcastically in this world? It's a miracle that Mu Chen hasn't been beaten up yet. Why is everyone looking at me? I blinked with an innocent look. Did I say something wrong? You actually want to have a child with my sister? Your appearance is really nothing special, but you certainly have beautiful dreams. Mu Yulu was full of sarcasm. This is not a dream of mine. Your sister and I are a legally married couple. Just think about it every day. Sharing the same room, sleeping in the same bed at night, then sooner or later, we'll have a child, unless your sister has some health issues. Just as I finished speaking, I turned to look at Lin Wanwan. An implicit smile appeared on my face. Lin Wanwan felt deeply insulted. A flush of red appeared on her face. This wasn't because of embarrassment. It was entirely due to being provoked by me. Did you forget one possibility? Lin Wanwan's beautiful face was full of frost. I raised an eyebrow. What possibility? Is it not wanting to sleep with me? I understand those thoughts of yours all too well. This special ability to hear inner thoughts. How can it be made to disappear? She feared that before it could vanish. This time in the hospital would shorten her life by 10 years. Everyone, get out. Lin Wanwan closed her eyes wearily. I want to rest. Sister, you and Josimo. Did you not hear what I said? Lin Wanwan abruptly opened her eyes. Her gaze was terrifyingly cold. My romantic affairs are not for you to interfere with. Worry about yourself first. Those who understand Lin Wanwan all know. At this moment, she doesn't want to hear another word. Although Mu Yulu was unwilling in her heart. At this time, she wisely chose to leave, once she had gone far away. I pretended as if nothing had happened just now. I calmly walked into the bathroom. By the time I came back out, there was still water on my face. It was obvious I had just finished washing my face. I am still quite young now. My skin is still firm and smooth, combined with a fair complexion, an angular face under the light, looking just like a freshly peeled egg, making one unable to resist wanting to give it a pinch, to see if the sensation would be truly wonderful. Lin Wanwan stared at me intently. Her gaze was deep. It was a young man full of vitality like this, who once used his entire life to love her deeply, with all his heart. Yet she discarded him like a worn-out shoe. She couldn't imagine before what kind of treatment I had to endure from her, only to hear such painful inner thoughts late at night. Lin Wanwan's mood was extremely complex, but I didn't think much about it. Right now, I just want to have a good night's sleep so I can go to school tomorrow with a refreshed spirit, until the moment I lay on the bed and climbed under the covers. During the whole process, I didn't even bother to glance at Lin Wanwan once, treating her completely like thin air. A hint of displeasure flashed in Lin Wanwan's eyes. She gave a slight cough, trying to attract my attention. I decided to give her a little bit of face. I turned my head to look at her. What's wrong? Is your throat uncomfortable? Lin Wanwan coughed a few more times. Pour some water for me to drink. I just lay down. I really don't want to crawl back up at all, but in this situation I have no choice but to get up. Full of reluctance, I stepped off the bed. After pouring a glass of water, I returned to feed it to her. My movements in giving her water were very rough. It could no longer be called feeding her water. It was forcing her to drink. Cough, cough, cough. Yu Mu Chen, finally, through my unceasing efforts. Lin Wanwan's defense completely failed. She choked to the point of coughing violently. Sorry, I'm just so sleepy. So I was a bit absent-minded. This apology had no sincerity at all. My whole face clearly wrote that I did it on purpose. Who told you to intentionally torment me? Let's see if you'll dare to do it again in the future. I'll just let you die of thirst. My inner thoughts could be said to be extremely terrible. Fire blazed in Lin Wanwan's eyes. She was just about to speak up to lecture me, when she suddenly saw something. She was suddenly stunned in place. After a few seconds, she laughed out of pure anger. Mu Chen, what are you doing with my face towel? I glanced at the light blue towel hanging on the door handle. I answered casually, wiping my feet. What else? That is for wiping the face. The caregiver has been using it to wipe her face these past few days. She couldn't be more familiar with it. Huh? I put on an exaggerated look of surprise. I didn't know that. I've been using it to wipe my feet these past few days too. Don't tell me you. I didn't finish the sentence. I covered my mouth with my hand, looking at her with eyes full of both disgust and pity. Lin Wanwan didn't say a word, only using her cold eyes to look at me for I don't know how long. The corners of her mouth slowly curled upward, emitting some cryptic laughter. I suspect whether she has gone crazy with rage. If she truly goes insane and tries to crawl up to deal with me, that wouldn't be good at all. Perhaps I should restrain myself a bit. I was just joking. Please don't take it to heart. Lin Wanwan didn't believe a word of my nonsense at all. With a gloomy face, she called out loudly, Shujaki, come in here. My face suddenly stiffened. An ominous premonition arose in my heart. This woman definitely has no good intentions. Shujiaki had been standing outside all along. Hearing the call, she pushed the door open and entered. Her eyes glanced across my face. A faint glimmer of a smile passed through her eyes. Yes, Miss Lin. Shujiaki walked over to stand beside the hospital bed. She bowed slightly. What are your instructions, miss? Starting from today, keep an eye on that man standing behind me. Do not let him leave the hospital even for a single step. As soon as I heard that, I immediately flared up. I questioned her sternly. On what grounds are you restricting my personal freedom? Based solely on the fact that I am your legal wife. Lin Wanwan gave a cold snort. Even if I weren't. If I didn't want you to leave the hospital, there would be nothing you could do to me. I was so angry I was speechless. Oppressing people with power is nothing to be proud of. That's not playing fair, is it? This was the first time she saw me at a loss for words. Her mood immediately improved significantly. Once you learn how to behave, then I will let you go. Otherwise, just wait until I'm discharged and we'll go home together. I narrowed my eyes at Lin Wanwan. Why was I so blind to like her back then? Was it only because of her attractive appearance? I didn't see it that way before rebirth. Looking back now, it really is true. Because after removing the rose-colored filters, I discovered, aside from her beautiful appearance, she has no good character at all. After Lin Wanwan heard my inner thoughts, her gaze couldn't help but darken. She understood that I loathe her very much right now. Using this method only makes me hate her more. But I was always like a hedgehog, tightly protecting my fragile heart. Anyone who touches it gets pricked immediately. I'm full of aggression. She had already tried the gentle approach, but I refused to speak to her properly. At this point, she could only resort to this last resort. That is to keep me by her side first, not letting me run around aimlessly, using the strategy of boiling a frog in warm water, taking it slowly. Sooner or later, she'll make me calm down and communicate. Fine. You're good. What else can I possibly do? I could only sit back down on the bed, starting to completely give up. In that case, I won't go to school anymore. We'll focus on being here to take care of you. I looked at Lin Wanwan. I tilted my head, smiled, and continued to add, I guarantee you'll take care of you very thoroughly. By the time you're discharged, it'll be like you never had an accident. These were absolutely contrary words. It would be strange if Lin Wanwan didn't catch that, but her expression didn't change at all. She nodded calmly in response. Good. I hope you're as good as your word. At this moment, I wasn't thinking of anything in my heart. Lin Wanwan also couldn't predict my thoughts, so she didn't say anything more. I lay back down on the bed, lying on my side, staring intently at the wall, quietly gritting my teeth. Wicked woman, you dare to imprison me? Well then, just you wait and see. From now until discharge, don't expect a single peaceful day. In my previous life, you imprisoned me and ruined my life. This time, even if I die, I won't let you control me anymore. Lin Wanwan, hearing my inner thoughts, frowned. Imprisoned once, costing a life. Where exactly was he imprisoned? Lin Wanwan continued to listen with her curiosity, but she couldn't gather any more valuable information. She tilted her head to look at the other bed, seeing that I had turned around at some point, now lying face to face with her. My eyes were closed and I had started to drift off to sleep. She was so hateful that she gritted her teeth hard. She kept thinking about what I had gone through before, thinking until her head ached while I was doing just fine, stretched out and sleeping soundly, truly carefree beyond words. Lin Wanwan nursed her anger for a long while, before finally closing her eyes to sleep. A night without dreams. When I woke up in the morning, Lin Wanwan was still deep in sleep. I glanced at the phone on the nightstand. I grabbed it and opened it immediately. Bring my singing back to your home. Leave your smile for tomorrow. The singing echoed throughout the hospital room. Lin Wanwan, while sleeping, furrowed her brows tightly. Very soon after, she snapped her eyes open. She looked at me with a very fierce expression. What are you trying to do? Just listening to music? I smiled brightly. I have a habit of listening to music as soon as I wake up. So sorry, I must have disturbed you, haven't I? You knew it was disturbing and yet you still played it? Lin Wanwan hated that she couldn't move. Otherwise, she surely would have jumped up and strangled me. I casually shrugged my shoulders. Normally, it's just me when I wake up, so I momentarily forgot about your presence. Lin Wanwan took a deep breath. A living human being was lying right across from me, yet I could still utter words like that. That's right, I did it on purpose. Turn it off for me right now. Lin Wanwan gave a cold order. You're awake anyway, so why should I turn it off? Listen to some music with me for a while. Listening to music can make one's mood much brighter. A relaxed mind helps the body recover much faster. I am doing this entirely for your own good. If Lin Wanwan couldn't hear my inner thoughts, she might have actually believed these deceptive words. This man won't let me leave the hospital. He's clearly retaliating. In his heart, he must be cursing me to death. I have plenty of time to make you obedient. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. Let's see who can hold out longer. My gaze suddenly became sharp and piercing. I didn't want to say another word. Don't you have any other tricks besides threats? Lin Wanwan slightly curled her lips. First of all, don't worry about what other tricks I have, but this one is very effective. As long as it keeps your mouth shut, that's enough. Shujiaki brings meals at exactly 7 o'clock every day, right on time. Shujiaki knocked on the hospital room door. Lin Wanwan looked toward the door. Come in. As soon as she finished speaking, the door was gently pushed open. Shujiaki placed the thermal lunchbox on the bedside table. Then she bowed slightly and spoke to Lin Wanwan. Miss Lin, there are some documents that need your review. Lin Wanwan nodded nonchalantly. I fixed my eyes on Shujiaki and asked out of curiosity. I see you keeping watch outside every single day. Don't you ever need to rest? I'm not on duty here all the time. My colleagues take shifts with me. After opening the folder, Shujiaki turned her head and answered slowly. Then it's quite a coincidence. Every time I come, I run into you here. The smile on my face was very sweet. In the sunlight, I looked quite handsome and charming. Lin Wanwan glanced at me, feeling a bit of unease in her heart, but she didn't say anything more. Shujiaki held the documents. Lin Wanwan finished reading a page and nodded. She immediately turned to the next page. Soon the entire folder had been reviewed. Sign it for me. Lin Wanwan's voice remained as calm as ever. Yes, Mom. Shujiaki closed the folder and was about to turn and leave. I raised my head to look at her. Have you had breakfast yet? Yes, I have. Shujiaki paused for a moment, then politely added, Thank you for your concern. I smiled, and didn't say anything else. Shujiaki, what are you still standing here for? Lin Wanyuan looked at the two of us with displeasure. Shujiaki didn't dare to linger any longer. She nodded to me and stepped out of the hospital room. Why so fierce? With a boss like you, I really feel sorry for Shujiaki. Lin Wanyuan burst out laughing. It was a laugh born from being driven mad with anger by me. But from my perspective, that sudden laughter of hers looked quite terrifying. I showed clear disgust and turned my face away. Lin Wanyuan was fuming with rage. She coldly declared, Mu Chen, from now on, you must dedicate yourself to taking good care of me. If I'm not satisfied, I definitely won't leave the hospital. There's no fun in doing that. My expression was extremely unpleasant. Joe Zemo is already back in the country. Why don't you quickly ask him to come take care of you? Why the hell do you keep clinging to me? Lin Wanyuan sneered. Because I like it that way. A sarcastic look appeared on my face. I think it's more like, you can't bear to let him work hard, Lin Wanyuan. Can you stop being so pretentious? Is only that Joe Zemo a human being? And I'm not, I suppose. Lin Wanyuan knew these words would surely drive him mad, but she didn't want me to despise her even more. So, she shook her head slightly. I feel that using you is more convenient. What the hell does more convenient mean? The expression on my face was indescribable. Lin Wanyuan, did the doctor say there's something wrong with your head? If they said you're fine, then I think they definitely misdiagnosed you. Rest assured, my mind is still very sharp. Lin Wanyuan curled her lips into a smile. Enough to teach you a lesson. Lin Wanyuan has long and narrow eyes. When not smiling, she gives off a very cold vibe and is extremely unapproachable. But when she smiles, she looks truly enchanting, deeply mesmerizing. Back then, it was this very smile that made me fall in love at first sight. Every time I met Lin Wanyuan, I always hoped she would smile at me. Regrettably, she was someone who rarely smiled, and when she did smile, it was only for Joe Zemo. But before me, she always wore a face as cold as ice. That's why now, I utterly loathe her smile. It was that very smile that pushed me into misery, leading me to fall into a bottomless pit with no escape. My mood suddenly turned sour. I avoided her gaze and said coldly, Whatever you want. I'm going to wash up. Right after speaking, I turned and strode quickly into the bathroom. Closing the door, I stood before the sink, turned on the faucet, set it to cold water, splashed a handful of water directly onto my face. The past wounds were far too deep, even though I have moved on now. Those scars are very real. They can never truly disappear. It takes a lifetime to heal. It can't continue like this. I must keep a sufficient distance. I can't let her affect me, not even a little bit. I must endure until she is discharged. From now on, our paths will diverge. We'll each mind our own business. Absolutely no interference with each other. After making up my mind, I finished washing up and stepped out. Walked over to the bedside table. I coldly opened the thermal lunchbox, prepared to feed Lin Wanyuan. Everything I had just thought in the bathroom was heard clearly by Lin Wanyuan. She looked at me with an incredibly complex gaze. She wanted to say something, but faced with my extreme rejection, she didn't know what would be right to say. After considering it for a while, she chose to remain silent. I strictly adhered to my earlier decision, silently feeding Lin Wanyuan her meal. Throughout the process, I didn't utter a single word. The two of us fell into a strangely quiet atmosphere. It seemed neither of us intended to speak first. After finishing feeding her, I opened the other lunchbox and started eating. Finished eating. I looked at Lin Wanyuan and spoke calmly. It's not good to keep missing school like this. I trust you'll help me settle everything? Lin Wanyuan nodded. She said she would have Shujiaki go and have a word. These matters were just trifles to her. One message, and it would be done. This is the advantage of having wealth and power. It can solve 99% of all troubles. The remaining 1% is only because one isn't rich or powerful enough yet. Thanks. I stood up from the chair. I'm going to find the nurse to get the medicine. The nurse will bring it here herself in a bit. I acted as if I didn't hear her, and just turned to walk out. I just wanted to minimize being in the same space with her. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself from mocking her. Minimizing involvement with Lin Wanyuan will be my life's motto for a while. Outside the ward, a man in a suit was standing there. I know him. He is the secretary who has stayed close to Lin Wanyuan for years. His name is Shu Su. Seeing me, Shu Su didn't even have a trace of a smile on his face. Just gave me a perfunctory nod. Absolutely no intention of greeting me properly. He hates me. The reason is both similar to and different from Muyulus. Similar in that both think I'm not good enough for her, but different because he thinks he's the one who is the right match. I truly don't understand it, even though the Mu family has declined. At least I used to be a young master. My looks aren't bad either, and my education is even higher. In what way am I not worthy of Lin Wanyuan? I don't know why so many people think that way. Am I really that inferior? Is it just that I don't realize it myself? Even if I'm lacking, I must be better than this guy in front of me. On what basis can they say I'm not worthy? He's worthy, I suppose. The more I think about it, the more annoyed I get. I intended to just brush past him, but I changed my mind and stopped right in front of him, with a knowing smile spreading across my lips. That smile made Shushu feel uneasy, and he stepped back, a step, then asked with a frown, "Do you need something? Aren't you going to use honorifics?" Shushu let out a sarcastic laugh. The look he gave me was filled with extreme contempt, even though he didn't say a word. I understood his meaning perfectly. "You think you're worthy?" I reached out and grabbed the aid card on his chest. "Shutai, my name is Shushu." Shushu brushed my hand away forcefully. "I can't believe someone admitted to H University is illiterate. I am truly concerned for your future patients. I hope you'll be among them," I replied with a chuckle. Shuhua's gaze turned cold. He waved his hand irritably, as if shooing away a fly. "If there's nothing else, please leave. Don't disturb my work." "You call this working?" My jaw dropped in feigned shock. "So you're the janitor?" I rolled my eyes as I looked around, with a questioning face. "Where are your cleaning tools, then?" "Mu Chen," Shushu barked my name in anger. "If you're sick, go see a psychiatrist. I don't have time to stand here arguing with you. Do you think everyone is as idle as you are? Do you think everyone has such a good temper?" My expression suddenly hardened. My aura immediately intensified. "You are merely a secretary by my wife's side. In what capacity do you dare to be so arrogant? Or are you my wife's lover? Is that where you get this boldness from?" "Mr. Mu, please watch your words. Director Lin and I are completely innocent. I will not allow you to slander us." Shu Hua's face flushed deep red with rage. "Is it simply because you're too bold?" I let out a soft, cold laugh, leaning close to his ear. "I commend your courage, but unfortunately, I don't like it one bit. Please recognize your place. Be a little more respectful when you see me in the future. Otherwise, we'll make sure you're kicked out of the company, so that you'll never have the chance to be near Director Lin again." Shu Hua's complexion changed instantly. I stepped back a few paces, returning to my initial grinning face. "I'm not just threatening you." Shushu took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. "I am Director Lin's employee. What right do you have to decide whether I stay or go? Try me if you don't believe it. Although I lack the authority, I certainly have the ability." Having said that, I walked away without looking back. I might endure Lin Wanyuan and Zhou Zimo, but there's no need for a petty guy like Shushu. If he dares to make me unhappy, then I will surely make him taste suffering. Stepping out, I actually had no intention of finding the nurse. I went downstairs to buy a can of coffee. Then I sat down on a bench facing the main entrance, drinking while observing the situation outside. I wonder if Lin Wanyuan's people are guarding the exit. I half stood up, then sat back down. I am 10 to 1 certain they are there. Because if Lin Wanyuan gave the order, then Shu Jiaqi will surely carry it out strictly. But if I stay locked in the hospital like this forever, I truly feel unwilling in my heart. I downed the rest of the coffee in one go, crushed the can, and headed toward the main gate. Even if there are guards outside, I still have to go and see for myself. Only by trying can I completely give up on the idea, so I won't keep feeling anxious and uneasy. "Sir, please return inside." It was exactly as I had predicted. Before I could even set one foot out of the main entrance, a man appeared and blocked my path. I silently pulled my foot back and gave him a strained smile. "You're truly dedicated to your job. Keep up the good work." "You flatter me, sir. You really think I'm praising you?" Frustration built up in my chest like a heavy lump. I couldn't swallow it, and I couldn't vent it. The feeling was truly maddeningly uncomfortable. I stood rooted to the spot for a long while before I could move again. As I passed by a trash can, I threw the coffee can into it with force, then went back upstairs and into Lin Wanyuan's room. A nurse was changing her medicine. I glanced over her body. My eyebrows knitted slightly. Wounds like these will definitely leave scars when they heal. I wonder if there's any way to restore it. Wait, what the hell am I thinking? Whether she has scars or not has nothing to do with me. There really is something wrong with my head. Maybe I just feel that. That face truly deserves to be called a peerless beauty, like a perfect work of art. Leaving a blemish would indeed be a bit of a pity. Thinking so, my expression softened slightly. After the coffee, I felt a bit thirsty. I went to the water dispenser and poured a glass. The nurse tilted her head to look at me. I accidentally caught her eye, and then I let out a mischievous grin. I couldn't help my sarcastic tongue again. "Is my wife and name beautiful?" The nurse was stunned by my question. It took a few seconds before she gave a vague nod. "She's yours, don't mention it. You're such a joker." The nurse felt extremely embarrassed. I suddenly realized I had gone a bit too far, so I hurriedly shut my mouth and didn't say another word. Set the glass down. I flopped down onto the sofa. Lin Wanyuan glared at the nurse. "Hurry up a bit." Her voice sounded extremely impatient. The nurse immediately sped up. She was clearly 3 times faster than before. After finishing the procedure, she scurried out of the room as if escaping. Look at that, scaring the poor girl to that extent. I was the only one back then who had the guts to not be terrified by this frightening woman. Otherwise, who would ever dare to like her? Living with her, you'd be scared to death every day. Veins throbbed on Lin Wanyuan's forehead. I don't know if Zhou Zimo truly likes her, or just sees her as a tool to change his fate. If it's the latter, then I can only say his life is beyond tragic. but he brought that on himself. Mu Chen, her cold shout made me jump. I sprang up from the sofa like a coiled spring, staring at her in total confusion. Why did you suddenly scream my name like that? Lin Wanyuan couldn't say she had heard my inner thoughts, but getting angry at me for no apparent reason is just unreasonable provocation in my eyes. Truly weird beyond belief, like some lunatic with an unpredictable temper. Grievance made my face turn red. What exactly is your problem? I already found her far too unreasonable. Lin Wanyuan unwillingly had to swallow her anger. I looked at her with eyes full of distaste. Truly sick in the head. I don't want to bother with this woman anymore. Turned around and lay down again. The following days, I tried to endure as much as I could. Absolutely didn't say a single redundant word. Lin Wanyuan seemed to understand my thoughts, so she didn't try to start any more conversations until Lin Wanyuan could move and walk again. Only then did I start to feel a bit uneasy. My whole body bristled with defensive thorns again. Whenever I had a chance, I'd deliberately provoke her. But in fact, this was exactly what she hoped for. At least I was willing to open my mouth to speak to her. As long as there's still communication between us, even if it's unfriendly, it's still a good sign. It proves there's still a chance to break the deadlock, unlike that previous Cold War, which would have meant it was over for a lifetime. On the very day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the doctor announced she could use a cane to walk. Wen Shujin was overjoyed after hearing the news. She arrived at the hospital early in the morning because she was in such high spirits. She didn't mock me as she had before. Still, her expression wasn't exactly cheerful. I didn't care either. I handed her a peeled slice of apple, then spoke in a calm voice. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. One way or another, you have to let me go home to celebrate? Fine. Lin Wanyuan had intended to let me go anyway, so she agreed very decisively. I was about to go crazy in this place. Seeing her nod, I immediately turned and walked away. My strides were swift and long, as if someone were chasing after me. By the time I had left the hospital room, Wen Shuzhan retracted her gaze. She seriously asked Lin Wanyuan, "Daughter, I don't mean to interfere in your love life. I just want to know what you're actually thinking." Lin Wanyuan slightly raised her eyebrows. "What do you mean, thinking what? Are you no longer planning to divorce Mu Chen?" "I have no such intention for the time being." Wen Shuzhan wasn't at all surprised by this answer. She wasn't stupid. During this entire time, how could she not have noticed that her daughter was becoming interested in Mu Chen? The only thing was, she couldn't understand it. Her daughter clearly hated him before. Why the sudden total reversal in attitude? Besides, wasn't Zhou Zimo the one she liked? If you don't want a divorce, then fine. When? Shuzhen hesitated for a moment, then continued, "But I truly cannot stand that guy. I don't like that Zhou Zimo fellow either. If possible, it's best you find someone from a matching social background, someone who can support you in your career." Lin Wanyuan knew immediately she would bring this up again. A shadow of gloom crossed her face. "I am not the kind of person who, without a man's help, would become useless in my career. I didn't mean it that way. I just—" The rest of Wen Shuzhen's words remained unsaid. They vanished into a sigh of utter helplessness. "Forget it. Look after yourself, then." Lin Wanyuan bit her lip tightly, didn't say anything more. Mother and daughter normally had nothing to talk about anyway. After a few minutes of silent confrontation, Wen Shuzhen took out her phone to chat. As for me, after leaving the hospital, I headed straight home. Mu Xiaobei is in her final year of high school this year. The university entrance exam is looming. Her studies are under immense pressure to save travel time. She decided to stay at the school dormitory. Today is Mid-Autumn Festival. The high school is closed. She will definitely be home. My sister and I have always been very close. I deeply cherish this sensible younger sister of mine, perhaps because we were both shunned by Chu Huilan, shared the same plight. Naturally, we became a bit closer to each other. How long has it been since I last saw her? I truly missed her with all my heart. As soon as I entered, I called out her name. "Brother." Mu Xiaobei poked her head out from the second floor. I gazed at her silently. For a moment, I felt as if I were in a dream, before I was sent to the nursing home. She was about to graduate from university then. She had become a truly grown-up young woman. Seeing her youthful self again now gives me an unbelievable feeling. "When did you get back?" I quickly regained my composure, smiled and waved at my sister upstairs. "Hurry down here and let me see you." Mu Xiaobei immediately came running down, ran right up to me. She threw her arms wide and hugged me tightly, then buried her face in my neck coquettishly. "Brother, I missed you so much. I missed you a lot too." I gently stroked her head, then asked her kindly, "School must be exhausting, right?" Mu Xiaobei smiled and shook her head. "No, it's not tiring at all. Even if you were tired, you'd never say it. I'm the one who knows you best. Don't overwork yourself either. When you need rest, you must rest. Health is the most important thing." "Yes, I know." Mu Lihing stepped out from the bathroom, seeing the two siblings hugging each other so affectionately. A comforting smile spread across his face. However, as soon as Chu Huilan stepped out of the room and saw this heartwarming scene downstairs, not only did she not smile, but on the contrary, she furrowed her brows deeply. Xiao Bei, now that you're home, stop clinging to your brother so much. You aren't even this close with your own mother. Anyone who didn't know better would think he's your father. Her words were indeed a bit harsh to the ears. Mu Liheng was displeased in his heart, so he looked up and shouted at her. Chu Huilan, it's a major holiday? Why must you speak so harshly? If it's harsh, then don't listen. Chu Huilan gave him a sharp glare. Stop screaming in my face. If you dare get angry with me again, then we don't need to celebrate this holiday at all, huh? Mu Xiaobei let go of me, turning back to look at her with a look of dissatisfaction. Mom, can you please not be like this? The young girl inherited her beauty from Chu Huilan. She was incredibly beautiful. Even though she was just wearing an ordinary school uniform, she still exuded an incredibly stylish aura. It was as if a female lead had just stepped out of a manhwa. It was your father who shouted at me first. Facing her daughter's pretty face, Chu Huilan could rarely bring herself to say anything harsh, so she could only turn and blame Mu Liheng instead. Clearly, it was you who spoke harshly first, Mom. Are others not allowed to talk back? Mu Xiaobei retorted coldly. Chu Huilan's eyes immediately widened. Mu Xiaobei, you dare to lecture your mother? You're planning to rebel, aren't you? Mu Xiaobei sulked and refused to say a word. If it were before, I would have definitely thought Mom was intentionally causing trouble, but now I know she does it because she feels left out. She wants her daughter's attention, but she doesn't know how to express it. Coupled with her stubborn nature and refusal to back down, that's why she behaves so provocatively. Right now, I must proactively step in to mediate. Mom, I know you're just worried it'll get tired. With Xiaobei clinging to me like this, how can I get any proper rest? Dad and Xiaobei just don't fully understand your feelings yet. It's a holiday, let's not bicker with each other, Mom. The way I mediated this was truly perfect. Chu Huilan stared at me for a long time. Then, she let out a cold snort. I wouldn't dream of bickering with those people. It's good that you're not angry anymore, Mom. I plan to personally head to the kitchen to make a few dishes. Mom, come to the kitchen and give me a hand. I rolled up my sleeves while looking at Mu Liheng and speaking. Oh, I've recently learned a few new dishes. I've practiced them a few times, and I think the flavor is actually quite good. The whole family must give them a try today. You actually went to learn how to cook? Mu Liheng burst out laughing upon hearing that. All right, then I'll just sit here and wait. Let's see how my son's cooking skills are. I guarantee you'll be satisfied, Dad. In the past, to please Lin Wanwan's family, I had put a lot of heart into cooking. Although I wouldn't dare say it's on par with a 5-star chef, it could be considered quite excellent. So Mu Liheng definitely won't be disappointed. This little rascal, now you dare to order your mother around. Chu Huilan walked downstairs while lightly poking my forehead with her finger. Even though she sounded like she was complaining, she still followed me into the kitchen. Only Dad and my younger sister remained in the living room. The father and daughter sat on the sofa chatting. When mentioning Lin Wanwan's car accident, Mu Xiaobei's face flashed with a cold look. Yes, Mom told me about that. Her smile vanished. He's not a caregiver. Humph. You're letting my brother take care of her all by himself? Isn't this clearly bullying? That woman never respected my brother to begin with, so she's just taking this chance to torment him. Mu Liheng picked up the cigarette pack on the tea table. Every time this marriage is mentioned, he feels distressed. What? Are we just going to stand by and watch him be mistreated like this? Mu Xiaobei raised her voice significantly, her emotions becoming agitated. Lower your voice a bit. Mu Liheng's brows furrowed deeply. My heart aches for your brother too. But you see how much he loves Lin Wanwan. If we go to them to demand justice, and happen to make Lin Wanwan unhappy, then the one who suffers in the end will still be your brother. Mu Xiaobei clenched her fists and said through gritted teeth, we should have been determined to stop him from the very beginning. We should never have let him marry that woman. If I had forbidden him from marrying back then, he would have dared to go on a hunger strike for me. Otherwise, do you think I would have agreed so easily? Mu Liheng took a deep drag of his cigarette. It's good to let him taste some hardship. When he can't take it anymore, he'll naturally want a divorce. Mu Xiaobei's expression remained very grim. I hope things really turn out that way. Being in the kitchen, I was completely unaware, even less aware that my family was so worried about me. I finished washing a basket of green vegetables, then handed them to Chu Huilan for her to chop. Just looking at my expression, you could tell my mood was very good. I was so happy I almost started humming to myself. Chu Huilan turned to glance at me. What are you so happy about? Of course I'm happy to be home, I replied with a beaming smile. Just because of that? That alone is more than enough to make me happy. I lowered my eyes and whispered an exclamation. There's no place like home, and nothing beats being with family. Those are truly heartfelt words. I thought she wouldn't let you come home today, it seems. She still has a bit of humanity left. Chu Huilan stopped chopping vegetables altogether, her face showing clear doubt and confusion. What exactly is Lin Wanwan planning? Hasn't Joe Zemo returned to the country? Why doesn't she let him stay by her side every day instead of forcing you to watch over her in the hospital? How would I know, Mom? I find it extremely confusing myself. Before, even looking at me disgusted her. I don't know which of her nerves got fried in that accident. No matter which nerve of hers is fried, once you've determined to cut ties and are set on getting a divorce no matter what, then you must absolutely not let yourself be charmed again. Don't go rushing off to please her like you did before. Mom, I understand. Unless there's something wrong with my head or I have a severe masochistic streak, only then could I possibly fall for her again. Seeing that I hadn't wavered at all so far, Chu Huilan nodded in satisfaction. It's best that you think that way. There are plenty of other good women out there besides her. Mom, you didn't talk like this before. You've changed quite fast, haven't you? I lightly nudged her shoulder, unable to resist teasing her. Before, I saw that you loved her too deeply. I was just afraid you'd regret it after the divorce. By then, it would be too late. But now that I see you've truly moved on, then getting a divorce as soon as possible is for the best. Perhaps because I kept coaxing her, she was now willing to speak her heartfelt thoughts. Chu Huilan and I chatted while we worked. Our movements were very swift. I planned to make 3 of my favorite dishes, and leave the rest to the housekeeper. After all the ingredients were washed and chopped, I began stir-frying skillfully. Chu Huilan had nothing left to help with at this point, so she just stood by watching me busy myself. I cooked while chatting with her, a bright smile never leaving my lips. Why are you so incredibly happy? Chu Huilan asked with a gentle smile. Being able to celebrate this reunion holiday with family, and even cooking for everyone personally, of course I'm very happy. Chu Huilan lightly pursed her lips. She lowered her eyes, sinking into silence. Actually, she never had a clear concept of the word family. In her childhood, her life was incredibly tragic. Her father was a gambling addict with an extremely violent temper. Her mother couldn't take it and abandoned her. Creditors came to the door every day demanding money aggressively. The house was frequently trashed and in chaos. Her father hid from debts and was gone for days and nights. When he did return, he only knew how to vent his anger on his daughter. To survive, she had to endure all kinds of bitterness in life. Even if her ribs were broken, she wouldn't let out a single groan. When someone has to live in such a harsh environment, either they go mad or they become extremely hardened and feel numb. At the age of 14, she fled from that place called home, completely severing the chains of the past. She never knew what a normal family looked like. In addition to later wanting to protect herself to make a living, she had to don a thick layer of armor and equip herself with the sharpest weapons. Therefore, after getting married, whether it was toward her husband or her children, she always displayed an extremely cold attitude. How can someone who has never been properly loved know how to give love to others? While getting the vinegar, I stole a glance at her. I saw her leaning against the wall, staring blankly at a corner. Who knows what she was deep in thought about? I gave a well-intentioned smile, but I didn't say a word to disturb her thoughts. I don't know how long passed before Chu Huilan snapped out of her memories. She rolled up her sleeves and walked toward the refrigerator. Then let me make 2 dishes as well. My eyes suddenly lit up upon hearing that. I immediately turned back to look at her with excitement. Mom, you definitely have to show off your skills then. It's been a long time since I tasted your cooking. Did I ever cook for you before? Chu Huilan's face showed clear bewilderment. Since becoming the wife of a wealthy man and living as a noble lady, it seemed she had never had to set foot in the kitchen again. The smile on my face suddenly froze. I quickly lowered my eyes and spoke softly. Of course you did. But that was many years ago. Perhaps you don't remember it clearly anymore. Chu Huilan gave a light nod. Thinking that she must have really forgotten, she didn't harbor any further suspicion. I quickly turned my face away, silently letting out a sigh of relief. At this point of my rebirth, it's true that I hadn't actually eaten anything she cooked. Years ago, when I suffered extreme injustice, I ran back to my mother's house to cry and complain. Back then, she didn't say a word and immediately went to the kitchen to cook for me. At that time, she even asked if I wanted a divorce. I didn't hesitate for a second and immediately shook my head. I was truly too foolish back then. Regrettably, I loved blindly and lost all reason at that time. I was completely devoid of any sanity. What are you dazing about? Because I was too absorbed in my thoughts for too long. The broth in the pot was about to dry up. Chu Huilan hurried to pat my arm. I was startled and immediately snapped back to alertness, hastily picking up the kettle to add more water to the pot. I was just overthinking, so I got too focused on my thoughts. Are you thinking about the divorce? No, I'm not. The corner of my mouth curled into a faint smile. The divorce between her and me is only a matter of time. It's nothing worth my hesitation or concern. It's just that I suddenly found my past self so ridiculous. Everyone has done some foolish things when they were young. Don't just sit there overthinking anymore. From now on, focus on planning your life well. I know, Mom. I reached out to put my arm around her shoulder, and with a beaming smile, I made a promise. From now on, I'll listen to whatever you say. Faced with my sudden intimate gesture, Chu Huilan seemed very unaccustomed to it. It seemed she was feeling a bit awkward and flustered, so she hastily withdrew her arm. Then she said in a forced and embarrassed manner, "Stop playing these tricks on your mother. It sounds so cheesy. It's killing me. Do you really not like me clinging to you like this?" I once again put my arm around her shoulder, and with a chuckle, I asked her again, "Not at all." Chu Huilan kept saying she didn't like it, but this time she didn't push my hand away anymore. I smiled in complete satisfaction and didn't say anything else. As a result, each of us personally prepared 3 dishes, along with 2 salads made by the housekeeper. A total of 8 delicacies were neatly laid out on the dining table. I went to the living room to call everyone for dinner. As soon as Mu Liheng entered and saw the table full of delicious food, he couldn't help but ask in utter amazement, "My good son, did you make all of this yourself? You made all these dishes on your own? If so, we might not have had dinner until late at night." I then pointed to the plates of food on the table. These 3 dishes were made by me personally. Then I pointed to 3 other dishes on the opposite side, and these 3 were personally cooked by Mom. The remaining dishes were prepared by Aunt Lin. "What did you just say? Your mother personally cooked in the kitchen?" Mu Liheng's eyes bulged as if they were about to fall out. "I didn't mishear you, did I?" He had been married for all those years, but it seemed he had never tasted his wife's cooking. Now he had finally lived to see this day, so alongside the shock was a sense of boundless emotion. "Yes, Dad, you didn't mishear me. It's true that Mom cooked it herself," I replied with a radiant smile. "This is truly a once-in-a-lifetime wonder. I'm really having my eyes open today." Mu Liheng excitedly plopped down into his chair. He happily slapped his thigh loudly. "This is truly rare and hard to find." Chu Huilan was both embarrassed and annoyed by his actions. She spoke up in a stern voice to scold him. "Mr. Mu Liheng, tell me if you're going to eat or not. Why do you keep saying so many pointless things?" All right. You'll be quiet then. You'll focus on eating seriously." Mu Liheng impatiently picked up his chopsticks. He just wanted to taste his wife's cooking immediately. Waiting until everyone was settled in their seats, he hurriedly picked up a piece of food and quickly put it in his mouth to savor. In her youth, Chu Huilan had struggled working many jobs outside, so she had early on honed an excellent skill for cooking. Although she hadn't touched a stove in years and was a bit rusty, the flavors of the dishes she cooked were truly amazing. "It's so delicious," Mu Liheng spared no praise, raising his thumb in admiration. "Truly worthy of being my wife. This skill is truly top tier, absolutely fantastic." When he praises someone, he is always very direct and outspoken like that. Chu Huilan was naturally shy about her husband's compliments, so her cheeks slightly flushed with a gentle rosy hue. But because her 2 children were right there, she felt extremely bashful and quite embarrassed. She pretended to be shy and angry, snapping back, "I told you to shut your mouth and just eat. Don't you understand human language?" Mu Liheng instantly and obediently shut his mouth. Seeing this happy and cozy scene, Mu Xiaobei and I stole a meaningful glance at each other. Both our faces bloomed with the widest, brightest smiles. Our parents being so affectionate and in love. As children, it of course makes us feel very fulfilled. "Hurry up and taste the dish your brother personally cooked," I said while placing some food into my sister's bowl. Mu Xiaobei stared intently at the food in her bowl. A look of doubt and curiosity suddenly appeared on her face. "Is this lily bulb, brother?" "That's right. This dish is called stewed pumpkin with lily bulbs," I explained while ladling a full spoonful of soup for myself. As the hot, fragrant, and tender soup touched my tongue, I nodded slightly in great satisfaction. It seems my cooking skills haven't diminished one bit. After Mu Xiaobei tasted that dish, her eyes suddenly lit up in surprise. "Brother, this dish is truly top-notch." The words had just left her mouth, when she continuously shoveled several more large spoonfuls into her mouth. Seeing her looking so excited and loving that dish, both my father and mother curiously followed suit and tasted it. After they had finished tasting, they both relentlessly praised and complimented the dish. "Mu Chen, you truly have a great natural talent for cooking. Whoever marries you in the future will be blessed for a lifetime." Mu Liheng gently picked up the wine glass right next to his hand. He sipped the wine while secretly observing the expression on my face. I knew he was clearly using these words to test my attitude, to see if his son is someone who can't live without Lin Wanwan. How could I not see through his underlying intention? So I used a half-joking, half-serious tone to reply. "Dad, you've worked so hard raising me for all these years. I must wait until you enjoy all the riches and honors first, before I think about benefiting other women." This was my way of affirming my stance that I will definitely get a divorce. After Mu Liheng heard and understood my determined attitude, he smiled even more contentedly and happily. His smile was so bright it seemed to stretch all the way to his ears. "That's right, the son I've struggled to raise for so long. How can I just let someone else benefit so easily? He must stay to show his filial piety to me for many more years." I just smiled gently and gave a slight nod, and I didn't offer any further comments. "Brother?" Mu Xiaobei called my name softly. I moved closer and asked with a kind smile. "What is it?" "Oh, it's nothing." Mu Xiaobei just stared at my profile with a silly smile. I just feel extremely happy in my heart. It seems she also understood all the implications of the previous conversation, so deep down, she was feeling very happy and glad for her brother. in the eyes of many people out there. They all think I'm completely unworthy of the Lin family. However, in the eyes of my dearest family members, I have always been a priceless treasure that cannot be traded for anything. Before I was reborn, I had never once realized that simple truth. It's also fortunate that the heavens took pity on me and granted me a chance to do this life over. This time, I will definitely cherish and protect my loved ones with all my heart. The whole family was gathering together, warmly enjoying the reunion meal. Everyone was feeling incredibly relaxed and infinitely comfortable, right as our family was about to stand up and leave the table. Aunt Lin, the housekeeper, walked in looking clearly confused and awkward. "Master, mistress, it seems we have guests visiting us." Chu Huilan couldn't help but frown and asked, "Who exactly has come?" Aunt Lin hesitated and stammered for a long time, not daring to say the name. It's Mu Jianhua's family. Mu Jianhua is Mu Liheng's biological older brother. Years ago, when Grandpa decided to hand over the entire family business to my father, Mu Jianhua's family had always harbored endless hatred and resentment. His wife, Zheng Ying, was naturally a very harsh and shrewish woman. Every time she visited, she never forgot to cause trouble, making things difficult for my family. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival Reunion Day. They are definitely coming here on purpose to ruin our peaceful atmosphere. Chu Huilan already understood their nature all too well. She immediately gave a decisive order. "Tell the gatekeeper to stop them immediately. Don't let any of them set foot in here, absolutely. Just tell them our whole family has gone out to celebrate the festival." "That's right, just say exactly that." Mu Liheng really didn't have the heart to welcome them right now either. At least for today, he really didn't want to face those people at all. Aunt Lin hurriedly nodded and obeyed. "Yes, I'll go inform the gatekeeper right away." Just after she left the room, I turned to Chu Huilan and spoke up. "Mom, actually, it's fine to just let them in. We can't just let them run wild and cause suffering for our family forever. Honestly, I'd love for them to experience being bullied a bit too, but unfortunately, I don't have a way. Who told me that I'm carrying too many bad rumors as it is? How can I possibly fight against their family?" Chu Huilan gave a faint, self-mocking smile. "Mom, don't ever lower your own value like that. The ones truly filled with filth are them." I let out a cold, sarcastic laugh. In my previous life, I accidentally discovered many shocking secrets about them. In Mu Jianhua's family, there truly isn't a single person who is pure and clean. The shady and dishonest things they've done behind people's backs are countless. That's why right now, I'm extremely confident in myself. As long as the three of them dare to step through that door, I'll definitely find a way to scold them until they flee in shame. Chu Huilan couldn't help but raise her eyebrows in surprise. "What exactly do your words mean? You'll understand soon enough, Mom." I gave a mysterious and profound smile. Chu Huilan's eyes flashed with a hint of amazement. She didn't want to question me further and make things difficult, because she knew my character. I'm never one to speak without reason. It seems she was also starting to form a plan of her own. Aunt Lin had only just left a moment ago, when she suddenly came rushing back, her face as pale as a sheet. "Master, mistress," I delivered the mistress's message too late. The gatekeeper didn't have enough courage to stop them firmly, so he let them aggressively barge right in here. Chu Huilan appeared very calm now, giving a slight nod. "I know. Brother, sister-in-law, where are you two?" Zheng Ying's shrill, ear-piercing voice suddenly rang out from outside. It was incredibly piercing and headache-inducing to hear. That voice made anyone who heard it feel extremely uncomfortable, even though our whole family had mentally prepared ourselves. Yet actually facing their whole family directly like this, all of us couldn't help but feel incredibly exhausted and extremely frustrated. "Oh my, so the whole family is gathered for a meal together, are you?" Zheng Ying suddenly appeared right at the dining room doorway. She was already over 40 years old now. Her figure was already showing signs of being out of shape. Her bright, excessively gaudy red lipstick was quite an eyesore. Her appearance only made anyone facing her feel repulsed and annoyed. In the entire large dining room, not a single person bothered to respond to her. Yet Zheng Ying seemed to have no idea what embarrassment was. She just casually wore a wide grin and spoke enthusiastically. "Brother Liheng, sister-in-law. After all, we are still family. And today is such a cozy Mid-Autumn Festival reunion day. Yet you didn't even care to invite my family over for a reunion meal? Isn't doing that a bit improper?" "That's right." Mu Jianhua suddenly loomed out from behind his wife. He pointed directly at Mu Liheng while raising his voice in criticism. "Brother Liheng, isn't your behavior intentionally hurting your older brother's feelings? He was actually my father's half-brother. Since childhood, he was famous for being lazy and not studying properly. All day long, he only knew how to indulge in debauchery and heavy drinking. That's why back then, Grandpa decided to entrust the whole ancestral legacy to my father. Because of that, every time he visited, he'd mock the difficulties the company was facing. Whenever my father was insulted like that, he'd just endure it in silence, speechless, resigned to letting him spout his sarcastic and harsh words freely. Uncle, isn't it just a little past noon right now? My family is actually just having a simple family meal together. My parents had originally planned to invite your family over later this evening. I gave an extremely polite smile and spoke up to smooth things over. Oh my, so it's Mu Chen? How come you're at home at this hour? Zheng Ying looked toward me. She began speaking in a sarcastic, mocking tone. You haven't been married to Lin Wan for very long, and she just had such a serious car accident. Instead of staying at the hospital to look after her, you're back here feasting like this. Look at that smile on your face. I guess that love her to death act was all just a facade, wasn't it? She just couldn't stand that I had married into a wealthy family. My marriage to Lin Wan was what made her feel the most envious. Auntie, Wan's injuries are improving day by day. If I don't smile, should I be sitting here crying instead? She was worried her parents would be concerned, so she insisted that I come home for the holiday. Otherwise, how could I ever bear to leave her side? I feigned a bashful, embarrassed expression. No one needs to worry about me. I'm living very happily right now. To deal with someone as envious as her, the more happiness I displayed, the more it would infuriate her. Sure enough, Zheng Ying's expression turned incredibly unsightly. She let out a cold, contemptuous snort. Oh, spare me your nonsense. Everyone knows she doesn't actually like you. We're all family here. Who are you trying to fool? Zheng Ying, you keep saying we're family, so why is every word out of your mouth a jab? Chu Huilan stood up and walked behind me. She placed both hands on my shoulders. Her gaze was fixed directly on her. You're a woman too. Don't you understand a woman's heart? My Mujan is so handsome. How can you be so sure that after marriage you wouldn't gradually develop feelings for him? Zheng Ying's face darkened immediately. She had no words to retort. Well, considering he was raised by you, there's no reason Lin Wan wouldn't like him. The one who said this wasn't Mu Jianshu or his wife. It was their daughter, Mu Yulu. She had perfectly inherited her mother's vile nature. In fact, she was arguably even worse. She truly had no moral compass whatsoever. Mu Yulu, with a banana in her mouth, sauntered into the dining room with a swaying gait. Her flirtatious eyes were locked onto me. Cousin Mujan, it's been so many days. You've grown even more handsome. I gripped the tablecloth tightly. My eyes were bloodshot with rage. I was so angry that my entire body was trembling. I just wanted to throw her out of the house this instant. Mu Yulu, what exactly did you mean by that? Mu Liheng suddenly stood up. With a furious expression, he roared directly at her. Exactly what it sounds like. Mu Yulu giggled. Uncle, a man of the world like you, must surely understand it better than anyone. Everyone in my family's expression changed. Mu Liheng was beyond outraged. He slammed his hand onto the table in fury. He shouted at the top of his lungs, sternly berating her for her total lack of manners. Startled, Mu Yulu took several steps back in fear. Leaning against the wall, she glared at my father maliciously. Mu Liheng, what do you think you're doing? Mu Jianshu couldn't stand seeing his daughter mistreated. He rushed over and gave my father a hard shove. If you have something to say, say it properly. Why are you losing your temper? Did you hear her? Is she the one speaking properly? Huilan is her elder, and yet she dares to spout such insults. Does she have any respect for me at all? She's my daughter. Even if she says the wrong thing, it's not your place to lecture her. No sooner had he spoken than Zheng Ying grabbed a plate and smashed it to pieces. She picked up a shard and pointed it at my father's face. How dare you scold my precious daughter? Do you really think our family is such an easy target? Who exactly is bullying whom here? Mu Liheng was truly at the limit of his patience. He angrily grabbed a shard himself, slammed it onto the floor, and pointed right at Zheng Ying's face. I have shown you far too much respect. If you're so brave, come at me instead. Did you think I was just a pushover you could bully? Usually when they came to cause trouble, my father would get angry, but he had never made such an ugly scene. How could my father possibly endure any more? His fury left Mu Jianhua's family stunned. Their entire family froze for a moment, not knowing how to react. In his youth, my father was a man of great pride. Now that his company was thriving, he was certainly not someone to be trifled with. Although Mu Jianhua's family was foolish, Nyung Trung Lung Kung Hu Ra Du Ne, logically, in this stalemate, someone should have stepped in to mediate. But Chu Huilan had suffered far too many grievances. She wanted nothing more than to tear off their masks of hypocrisy, so she absolutely would not step in to make peace. Mu Xiaobei and I were even more keen on staying back to watch the show. Chu Huilan spoke with a cold face. Zheng Ying, if you dare to cause a scene here today, I will absolutely not let this go. You know very well what I was capable of in the past. Her eyes were deep and icy, sending a shiver down one's spine. Zheng Ying's face was etched with terror. She recoiled with all her might, stammering, Liheng, don't be so impulsive. Mu Jianxu knew that he had to yield at this moment. You know your sister-in-law dotes on her. It was just a moment of heated anxiety. That's understandable, isn't it? Is only your daughter a precious treasure? Is my wife just trash to you? Someone anyone can just trample on whenever they like? Pfft. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. My father used to be so clumsy with his words, but now his tongue had become quite formidable. It truly was something to celebrate. A faint smile flickered across Chu Huilan's face. She looked toward my father. All right, that's enough. Mu Liheng maintained his tense expression, pretending not to hear a thing. He coldly questioned Zheng Ying. Not so brave now, are you? Zheng Ying shook her head frantically in fear. Mu Liheng let out a mockingly sharp laugh. Is this all the courage you have? If my wife were the one to take action, you'd probably be carried out by now. Chu Huilan shot him a warning look. Mu Liheng shrank back slightly, but immediately after he resumed his fierce stance. I'm warning you. Stop coming to my house to cause trouble. I will absolutely not tolerate this ever again. Mu Liheng pointed at Mu Yulu. He barked out a stern command. Get over here and apologize to your aunt right now. My father's stature was tall and sturdy. When he was enraged, anyone who saw him would be terrified. Though Mu Yulu was seething with resentment, she didn't dare to face him head-on right now. With a face full of grievance, she walked up to my stepmother. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Chu Huilan looked up at her. A hint of mockery flashed in her eyes. I hope you are sincere in your apology. I absolutely am. Mu Yulu bowed low. Her face was filled with fake, sycophantic submissiveness. My mind hasn't been very clear lately. Auntie, you are a magnanimous elder. Please don't hold this against me. If your mind isn't clear, you better stay home. Don't go wandering around causing trouble for others. Mu Yulu glared at her viciously. Mu Xiaobei, I'm talking to my aunt. What are you butting in for? So unrefined. She had always despised my sister. Since they were about the same age, they were often compared to each other. Xiaobei had been well-behaved and studious since childhood, while she was rebellious, destructive, and hated studying. Thus, she lost every time she was compared. Being extremely competitive, she was deeply resentful. Naturally, my sister didn't like her much either. Consequently, every meeting was thick with the smell of gunpowder. My dad said if there's something to say it directly. Don't keep it bottled up inside. Mu Xiaobei put down her chopsticks and wiped her mouth. Besides, with so many elders present, even if I shouldn't have interrupted you, it's certainly not your place to lecture me. Mu Yulu's expression became extremely unsightly. She wanted to snap back but didn't know how. She was so choked with frustration she couldn't speak. All right, that's enough. Chu Huilan waved a hand at my sister, signaling her to stop talking. Yulu, you usually play pretty wild out there, causing no small amount of trouble. I know all about those things. It's not strange for young people to be reckless. Nyung tot nyut, lenen beat dim jung. Otherwise, if you cross the wrong person, I won't be able to help you then. These words were laden with hidden meanings. It was hard for someone with Mu Yulu's Iki to fully grasp them. She looked toward Zheng Ying with an uneasy expression. A pale Zheng Ying shook her head, signaling her to be quiet. Then, she pleaded in a hoarse voice. Sister-in-law, she's still just a young, ignorant girl. Please don't hold it against her. Besides, we are all one family. Between family, what is there that can't be forgiven? Indeed. The corner of Chu Huilan's mouth curled into a cold smile. There truly is nothing that family can't forgive. I will certainly remember those words of yours. This statement clearly held a much deeper meaning. Zheng Ying felt extremely uneasy in her heart. She reached behind her back and tugged on her husband's trouser leg. Mu Jianshu also sensed that something was wrong. With a somber face, he walked over to his daughter's side and forced her head down with his hand. You useless, incompetent girl. You never think before you speak. Apologize to your aunt properly right now, Dad. Mu Yulu still hadn't grasped the gravity of the situation, so she screamed out in anger. I already apologized earlier. I told you to apologize again, unwillingly. Mu Yulu gritted her teeth. I'm sorry. I truly realized my mistake. Sister-in-law, she really has learned her lesson. Could you please forgive her? Mu Jianxu pleaded with a look of deep sincerity. Big brother, look at what you're doing. The child already apologized just now. It's not that big of a deal. There's no need to make the situation so serious. Chu Huilan gave a mirthless smile. It was a chilling sight to behold. After intimidating them, she was now feigning generosity. Mu Jianshu was incredibly irritated, but he could only grit his teeth and endure it. This child is disrespectful. How can that be considered a minor matter? I will definitely discipline her properly when we get home. I'll ensure she is nothing but respectful toward you next time. Chu Huilan smiled and nodded. A little more discipline would be good for her. She had said all the right things. Mu Jianhua's entire family felt extremely aggrieved. But currently, they were in a position of weakness. Even if they were furious, they could only swallow their pride. Since everything has been cleared up, Uncle, please, everyone sit down and eat. No need, Mu Jianxu hurriedly waved his hand in refusal. It's getting late already. It's time for us to head back. Didn't you all come here for a reunion dinner? Chu Huilan pointedly asked with a smile. She still remembered clearly what Zheng Ying said when she arrived. Now, she was paying her back with interest. Zheng Ying's expression froze instantly. She gripped her handbag tightly, answering in an extremely forced tone. I was only joking earlier. Our family already ate before coming here. Chu Huilan nodded as if understanding. Oh, so it was a joke. Fine then. Be very careful on your way home. She put a special emphasis on the word careful. It sounded almost like she was laying a curse on them. Mu Jianshu and his wife's expressions were beyond terrible. They didn't want to linger for even another second. They hurriedly took their daughter and left immediately. Waiting until they had exited the main gate, Chu Huilan finally spoke with a cold laugh. Every single one of them is as cowardly as a mouse, and yet they thought they could walk all over me. But they really did act out before. Mu Xiaobei piped up from the side. If it weren't because I didn't want to make things awkward for Dad, I would have dealt with them a long time ago. My sister's words made my stepmother feel slighted. She immediately flew into a huff. Mu Xiaobei, however, enjoyed seeing her get angry. It was pure retaliation, payback for all the years of being treated coldly by her. That's right, your mother is absolutely correct. If it weren't for your father's sake, your mother would have acted ages ago. Mu Liheng rushed to soothe his wife, otherwise he would definitely be the one to suffer the consequences. Hearing this made Chu Huilan feel much better. She let out a soft, cold huff and said, "If it weren't for the sake of this family, I would never have allowed them to disrespect me like that." Yes, quite right. Mu Liheng nodded along repeatedly in agreement. Speaking of which, I'm still fuming with rage. When I married you, what did you promise me? You said you'd never let me suffer even the slightest grievance. Sure, you don't directly upset me. It's all my fault. A man's mouth is full of nothing but lies. That couldn't be more true. Yes, exactly, it really is. No matter what Chu Huilan complained about, my father just nodded along in agreement. My sister and I watched with expressions of utter disgust. To be this henpecked. There really was nothing more to say. Chu Huilan felt more relaxed after venting her anger. She picked up her glass and took a sip of water. Then she declared in a cold tone, "I will not indulge them any longer. Those people are becoming more and more audacious. If we continue to endure it like this, who knows how much worse they will treat us. Then we won't dote on them anymore." Mu Liheng gently patted his wife's back. "Calm down, honey. Don't let your anger ruin your health." Chu Huilan said nothing more. She finished her water and left. My father immediately followed behind her like a shadow. Only my sister and I remained in the dining room. I placed a morsel of food into my sister's bowl and spoke to her in a gentle tone. "You're at the age where you're growing, so you should eat more nutritious food. Oppa, I'm full." Although she said that, she still picked up her chopsticks and ate the food. After she had finished eating and swallowed, she hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Oppa, why was Uncle so scared of Mom earlier?" My movement of picking up food faltered for a second. I withdrew my hand and let out a long sigh. "It's better if you don't know about this. Oppa, I'm an adult now." Mu Xiaobei showed a slightly unhappy face. Children of this age always hate it most when others treat them like kids. I glanced at her and understood that feeling. I gently placed my chopsticks on the rest, folded my hands behind my head, and gazed up at the ceiling. My mind began to drift back to the memories of my previous life. Mom has tasted all the bitterness and sweetness since she was a child. Orphaned of both parents, she has endured countless hardships, grievances that are hard for us to even imagine. No matter the struggle, she built her own career. Have you heard of the Feng Yuan Group? I tilted my head to look at Mu Xiaobei. Mu Xiaobei shook her head with a dazed expression. "It's normal that you wouldn't know. That group moved away more than 10 years ago. Back then, Mom was the one who managed it." I fell into deep thought for a moment and then continued to explain. The real boss behind that group was extremely mysterious. No one knew his true identity. Later, some business disputes occurred. They only went after the person in charge at that time. Can you imagine? A person who could command an entire region alone, yet even now, no one knows who the power behind her was. That's enough to prove how powerful her foundation was. Mom was highly valued by top leadership and entrusted with extremely important responsibilities. Before things fell apart, they helped her retreat smoothly. Moreover, they helped her settle everything and erase all traces. From that, you can see how terrifying her abilities are. Mu Xiaobei stared at me, dumbfounded. Clearly, she was shocked by these words, so much so that she couldn't process it all at once. Actually, I had omitted many important details, and my way of speaking was somewhat guarded. In her youth, Chu Huilan was truly a legendary figure. It was just that her working style was a bit aggressive. I knew I couldn't tell my sister everything, but since she insisted on knowing the truth, I could only choose what was safe to tell her. "So you're saying, when Mom was young, she was a—" Mu Xiaobei struggled to find the right words. I smiled and helped her finish. "A real big sister. In short, she's someone extremely formidable you shouldn't cross. That's why after Mom lost her temper, Auntie felt so terrified. If Mom really wanted to punish her, Mu Yulu could disappear without a trace." Mu Xiaobei's face darkened slightly. She didn't know what else to say for a moment. Although Zheng Ying often spread rumors about my stepmother, because she truly didn't dare to offend her. My sister, of course, was completely unaware of all this. I decided to tell you all this because I don't want you hearing it from others later. Outsiders would inevitably exaggerate and distort the truth. I was afraid it would affect your relationship with Mom. You just need to remember one thing. No matter what Mom has been through in the past, she is never a bad person. At least toward us, she would never be that way. My expression grew more serious as I spoke. In my previous life, before I was reborn, my sister had heard rumors from someone unknown and came home to have a fierce argument with Mom. She said such sharp and hurtful things. It was like she was cruelly rubbing salt into Mom's wounds. Chu Huilan is someone who never wants to show weakness. She didn't even bother to bring up the past to explain herself. Ultimately, the bond between them was completely shattered, so after being reborn, I will never let that tragedy happen again. Oppa, I will definitely remember what you said. Mu Xiaobei had always been very obedient to me. She looked at me with a submissive expression. I reached out and gently stroked her hair. Good girl. Oppa, are you still planning to go to the hospital to care for her? You're truly hopeless when it comes to love. Mu Xiaobei had tried to advise me several times to no avail, so she had finally chosen to give up entirely. However, now, I gave. A completely different answer that made her think she misheard. I know that being with her will never bring happiness. I've finally understood everything. Sooner or later, we will go through the divorce. Don't worry yourself over me anymore, okay? I looked at her with helplessness and affection. Oppa, are you really serious about this? The young girl's eyes suddenly lit up brilliantly, like the brightest, most twinkling stars, such beauty that it would take one's breath away. I smiled and gave a slight nod of confirmation. Then that's absolutely wonderful. It's great that you've finally come to your senses. Mu Xiaobei let out a sigh of relief with a smile. If you still hadn't woken up, I wouldn't have been able to stop myself from teaching her a lesson. You mischievous girl, how can you say such things? I raised my hand and gave her a light tap on the back of her head. Mu Xiaobei rubbed the spot where she was hit and giggled foolishly. I was just joking. I pursed my lips tightly. My expression suddenly became very complex, joking my foot. I know perfectly well that you were being serious. In my previous life, before I was reborn, I once stopped by the house to pick up some things. While passing my sister's room, I noticed her door wasn't fully closed. I saw her sitting at her desk, and she was secretively scribbling something. Driven by curiosity, I couldn't help myself and pushed the door open to walk straight in. Panicked, she swept everything into a drawer. When she turned around and saw it was me, a look of sheer terror appeared on her face. I stepped forward and pulled the drawer open to see. It turned out to be a letter of severance. She was planning to confront Lin Wanwan directly. Have you lost your mind? Oppa, please listen to my explanation. I just wanted to tell her to stay away from you. Enough, my business is none of your concern. I'm definitely going to tell Mom about this. I'm confiscating this letter. Then, she cried while trying to explain many things. I don't remember all of it anymore. Basically, it was just about her wanting the best for me. Ever since that time, the two of us had rarely contacted each other. Back then, Lin Wanwan was the most important person to me. My sister's plot to harm her was enough to make me resent her in my heart, and from then on, I intentionally kept my distance. Oppa, why did you suddenly go silent? Mu Xiaobei interrupted my reminiscence. I looked at my little sister standing before me and let out a bitter smile as I said, You really are so foolish. Everyone praises me for being smart and clever. Why is it only you who calls me foolish? Mu Xiaobi had a look of sheer frustration on her face. Because I've already seen right through your true nature. I stood up with a smile. All right, let's get out of here. So the auntie can finish cleaning and get some rest early. Go home early to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. Huh? The two of us walked out of the dining hall, seeing that our parents weren't in the living room. I didn't even bother looking for them, seeing the beautiful sunlight outside. The two of us made tea and went to sit in the courtyard. I leaned back comfortably in the chair, squinting my eyes while basking in the sun. It's so easy to get sleepy after eating and drinking your fill, just as I was about to doze off for a bit. The phone in my pocket started vibrating. I clicked my tongue in annoyance. I had a feeling it was the hospital calling. I didn't want to answer it at all. I turned over, intending to ignore it, but the caller was incredibly persistent. If I didn't answer, they would just keep calling. The vibrating sound was making me lose my temper. I had no choice but to take out the phone with a dark expression. Sure enough, it was Shu Jiaqi calling. I didn't even have to think to know it was on Lin Wanwan's orders. My face was incredibly gloomy. I answered the phone with a cold voice. What kind of orders does your boss have now? President Lin said you should return to the hospital immediately. She needs someone by her side to take care of her. Is the caregiver dead or something? I bolted up from the lounge chair. Rage was clearly written all over my face. Put me on speakerphone. It's on, sir. Lin Wanwan, you've really gone too far. Why did you have Xu Jiaqi relay the message? Did you turn mute just because I left? Fine, Lin Wanwan. Listen to me loud and clear. I took a deep breath. Your mother already hired a private caregiver. They're in the next room sleeping soundly and doing nothing. People who don't know would think you're keeping him as a toy boy. You're the one in an accident, yet you're letting him enjoy such a luxury. I know. Of course I know you all too well. I'm not an idiot. The anger in my heart surged straight to my brain. Spending money to hire a caregiver, just to let them live in comfort, while you don't give me a single cent. Treating me like a slave to be exploited every single day. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you even see me as a human being? You are a human, so of course I see you as one. Lin Wanwan's voice was very low. She sounded like she just woke up. Sure enough. The next second, she let out a yawn. I was about to explode with rage over here. Hearing that yawn made me completely snap. Lin Wanwan, listen closely. You want me to keep serving you? Absolutely never, right after saying that. I decisively hung up the phone. Mu Xiaobei, standing nearby, had heard everything. She spoke up with an angry, questioning tone. Brother, you've been taking care of her these past few days. Haven't you been the only one doing it? I tossed my phone onto the chair. With hands on my hips, I said resentfully, they just don't want to leave me in peace. I could have put up with that, but hiring a caregiver just to let them sleep in the next room. Who exactly are they trying to humiliate? Aren't they trying to drive me to death with anger? Chu Huilan's meaningful voice echoed from behind. I turned around in surprise to look at her. I pouted aggrievedly. The Lin family members are just too wicked. Every single one of them is rotten to the core. Chu Huilan smiled without saying a word. She walked up to me and held up her phone. It was a transaction history showing a fresh payment. Do you know what this is about? I stared intently at the numbers on the screen. My eyes widened in shock. This? Could it be that Lin Wanwan sent this? That's right. Chu Huilan put her phone away. At the same time, her smile faded. Now go back to the hospital immediately. Mom, are you really selling me out for just this much money? I felt like I was about to explode. This much money? Money? Chu Huilan let out a cold laugh. Even if I did sell you, you wouldn't even be worth 30 million. Uncle Chen, take him back to the hospital now. After saying that, Chu Huilan turned around and went into the house. My face was full of dejection. Since things have come to this, even if I don't want to go back, I have no choice. Whoever pays the bill is the boss, I guess. Back at the hospital ward, I was still suppressing a lump of anger. I started intentionally ignoring Lin Wanwan again. Lin Wanwan was also extremely angry in her heart. The money has been paid, yet this is the kind of service I get. The two of us fell into a state of Cold War once again, until the doctor finished the checkup and said she would soon be able to move freely again. I couldn't sit still anymore. Sooner or later, she will make a full recovery. By the time she can run and jump, she will definitely take a cruel revenge on me. Watching the bandages on her body gradually decrease, I was so worried that I lost my appetite. I couldn't sleep peacefully at all either. There were countless times I thought about taking advantage of her sleep, to give her a few good whacks. Lin Wanwan finally couldn't take it anymore. Lying next to someone who always wants to harm you, having to be on guard every day is more than anyone can bear. Finally, the day came. The doctor said she could start physical therapy. She looked at me as I stood sighing by the window. As long as you help me with my recovery properly, wait until I'm discharged smoothly. I will absolutely never mention what happened before again. Although she didn't say it outright, it was enough for me to understand her meaning, but I still didn't feel at ease in my heart. I ran to the bedside, staring at her with sharp eyes. Are you sure you won't seek revenge after being discharged? Lin Wanwan gritted her teeth. I am sure. The high and mighty CEO of the Lin Group, bullied while lying on a hospital bed, yet still having to endure without blowing her top. One can only imagine how aggrieved she felt. Whether she was actually aggrieved or not, I didn't really know. I only knew that I was very happy right now, doing something bad without paying the price. This feeling is just too wonderful. All the worries in my heart instantly vanished like smoke. My whole body suddenly felt light. You must be thirsty, right? I'm in a very good mood, so I'm willing to give her a smile. I'll go pour you a glass of warm water. Lin Wanwan's gaze wavered for a moment. She sullenly made a request. Add a little honey for me. Give her an inch and she'll take a mile. My eyelid twitched. The smile on my face faded a bit. Where am I supposed to find honey for you? There's a supermarket downstairs in the hospital. I'm not going. I don't feel like moving. My patience for her is extremely low. She realized that once again, so she clicked her tongue, looking a bit displeased. What are you clicking your tongue for? I became even more annoyed. I'm not your private caregiver, and I'm certainly not your nanny. It's not that whatever you want me to do. I am obligated to go and do it. Give you a little sunshine and you think it's summer. Demanding honey for just a glass of water. Back when you were staying up late working overtime, why didn't I see you paying any attention to your health then? I was really foolish back then. She didn't even care about her own body, yet I kept trying to advise her with all my heart, only to be despised as a busybody, told to get as far away as possible. Lin Wanwan lowered her eyes, remaining silent without a word. Could she really have been that unreasonable? No wonder she started doubting herself. Even if her personality is cold, it doesn't mean she lacks common sense. When faced with someone else's goodwill, she usually wouldn't refuse it, and certainly never showed such a cold attitude. I saw her staying completely silent. I had no idea what she was thinking. I rolled my eyes dramatically, then turned and walked to the water dispenser, poured a glass of warm water and came back. I handed the glass directly to Lin Wanwan. Hold it and drink it yourself. The injury on her left hand wasn't serious. It was almost healed after resting for all these days, except for the fact that eating is truly inconvenient, and requires me to spoon-feed her. Small things like drinking water or grabbing objects, she was perfectly capable of doing by herself. Lin Wanwan reached out and took the glass. She tilted her head slightly and took 2 small sips, then placed the glass on the nightstand. I had casually placed my phone there earlier. The screen was still on, as I'd forgotten to lock it. Lin Wanwan couldn't help but see it. The 3 words Shujaki at the top of the chat screen made her eyebrow twitch. These two actually dared to say they weren't close. What a total lie. She took 2 long, deep breaths, lay down and tried to ask me calmly. You and Shujaki knew each other before, didn't you? She had asked this question more times than I could count. I was truly sick of hearing it. Why do you keep obsessing over this? Is there something wrong with your brain? Lin Wanwan also felt like something was wrong with her. Every time she saw me and Shujaki talking happily, she felt incredibly irritated deep down. So what if we know each other? I really can't understand it. Putting aside whether it's any of your business or not, it doesn't affect you at all, right? Why do you insist on caring so much? Lin Wanwan pursed her thin lips tightly. She also wanted to know what the answer was. Seeing her acting like a mute again, I really didn't bother paying her any more attention. I took my phone to the sofa to watch a movie. Only then did I realize the screen was still on. Now I understood why she suddenly brought up the old story. I was so angry I laughed. I looked at her and questioned her coldly, secretly spying on someone else's private phone. I truly looked down on you. I wasn't secretly looking. Lin Wanwan's face darkened completely. I pointed my finger right at her nose. You still dare to talk back? It's because your screen didn't turn off, and it was placed right in front of my face. I didn't even want to look, but it just forced itself into my sight. How can you blame me for this? Spying on someone's phone yet acting so high and mighty. This is a first for me. I wonder if she can take back her promise of no revenge. This woman really needs a good lesson. I walked out of the ward feeling extremely annoyed. Lin Wanwan immediately bolted upright in the hospital bed, forgetting that her injuries hadn't fully healed yet. The movement agitated her wounds, making her frown in pain. She clutched her chest and began to cough violently. Shujaki, outside the door, heard the coughing and hurriedly pushed the door open. Miss Lin, where is Mu Chen? Lin Wanwan's voice was ice cold. He went. Shujaki's face turned pale. She was hesitating, looking like she wanted to say something but didn't. Lin Wanwan was in an extremely bad mood. She looked at her with total impatience. Just spit it out. He saw that I looked haggard, so he went to buy some lip balm for me. Lin Wanwan felt like she couldn't breathe. I asked him to go downstairs for honey and he refused. Yet he's so quick to go buy things for Shujaki. And most importantly, he went of his own accord. This man is really going to drive me to death with anger. Shujaki had been by her side for many years. Even if she appeared calm on the surface, Shujaki knew she was absolutely furious right now. Shujaki intended to sneak away, but she had barely taken a small step. Before Lin Wanwan threw her a murderous glare, she gritted her teeth and gave a cold command. Get over here today. She was determined to get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, she'd feel like she was about to be cuckolded. 20 minutes later. I returned to find Shujaki's face looking pale and sickly. I quickened my pace toward her, staring at her with full concern. Why do you look so unwell? Are you tired from standing, or is something else wrong? It's nothing. I just feel a bit hot. Shujaki kept her head bowed down. How could she not feel hot? She was almost burned to death by Lin Wanwan's flames of rage. Hot? I scratched my head in confusion. I'm actually feeling a bit cold. Are you really sick? Maybe you should go see a doctor. Faced with my genuine concern, Shujaki's heart trembled with fear. She wiped the cold sweat from her forehead and replied awkwardly, Thank you for your concern. I'll go get checked out. President Lin needs someone to care for her. You should go inside now. I stared intently at her, without saying a word for a moment. My intuition told me very clearly that Shujaki's state was very unusual, and the person who caused her to be like this was most likely Lin Wanwan. I turned and pushed open the ward door, saw her leaning against the headboard, looking at her phone, with a faint, subtle smile on her lips. I walked over and probed. Did Shujaki come in here just now? Lin Wanwan glanced at me nonchalantly. I'm busy handling work. Why would I call her in to disturb me? She's clearly lying. She is a seasoned business veteran. Lying is as normal to her as eating a meal. She had mastered the skill of keeping a straight face long ago, so I couldn't spot any cracks in her story at all. It's just that I still felt suspicious. I stared at her for a long time, but indeed there were no traces to be found, so I couldn't help but issue a warning. It's best if you lived a more open and honest life. Sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. Lin Wanwan acted completely unfazed. I didn't continue the interrogation. I took my bag of snacks and sat on the sofa, turned on a newly released action movie, lying back comfortably on the sofa, munching on snacks while watching the film, even shouting in amazement at the exciting parts. Lin Wanwan turned to cast a glance at me. Just by that look, one could feel how refreshed I was at that moment. Lin Wanwan found it quite amusing. This man, no matter when it is, always knows how to make himself happy. To put it bluntly, he's just a heartless, simple soul. It was also quite a coincidence. Just as she was about to look away, I suddenly turned my head back. "Why are you looking at me with that disgusting smile?" I questioned her with a frown. "How did you know I was looking at you? She is a tycoon of the business world, after all." Faced with an awkward situation, her heart didn't race and her face didn't flush. She acted completely naturally. "I saw you looking at me with my own eyes." I turned my head to look around, then spoke up mockingly. "These wall paintings are truly beautiful, but I don't think they're as handsome as I am. So, you were definitely looking at me." "Heh," she let out a scornful laugh without hesitation. "Excessive confidence is just arrogant narcissism. Are you usually like this at school too?" I raised an eyebrow smugly. "Is there a problem with raising an eyebrow? It's good that you don't have a problem. Otherwise, I'm afraid you get beaten up while walking down the street. Rest assured, I haven't been beaten up by anyone yet. This just proves that you're way too troublesome." Lin Wanwan let out a soft chuckle, then stopped talking. This attitude was as if I were nothing but a child, and she was a tolerant adult. Faced with my childish remarks, she could only smile helplessly and let it go, not wanting to argue with me anymore. My good mood was ruined again. I didn't want to look at her for even another second. I put my phone down and turned my back to lie down. "Are you actually angry this time?" Lin Wanwan raised her eyebrows slightly, decided to stay silent and see what happens. I don't know how much time had passed, just as she was wondering if I had fallen asleep. She heard my inner thoughts. I really want to go back to school so badly. Having to face this moody woman every day, this utterly annoying person is truly a torture. Lin Wanwan's face instantly turned pitch black. Every day she had to listen to these complaints in her head, yet she still had to pretend she didn't know anything. It really is quite miserable. At that moment there was a sudden knock on the door. I immediately perked up my ears to listen. "Come in." Lin Wanwan's voice was sweet and smooth, full of gentleness like cool water. Even without seeing her face, just hearing her voice was a delight. The person outside pushed the door open and entered. It was the male nurse who usually came to change her medicine. This nurse looked quite young, probably a recent college graduate. He looked fair-skinned and scholarly. His features were also quite handsome. Compared to average people, he was definitely a good-looking guy. As soon as he walked in and saw Lin Wanwan, his face reflexively flushed red for a moment. Then he slightly bowed his head, walked to the bedside and put down the tube of medicine. "Miss Lin, for the bruised areas, please apply this medicine. Apply it a few times and the bruises will fade away." "All right." Lin Wanwan usually treats everyone very coldly. This male nurse had never seen her smile. He was very curious about what she would look like when she smiled. It would surely be even more enchanting. He lightly bit his lip, gathered his courage and looked up at her, staring at Miss Lin's face. "You can start your physical therapy this afternoon. This means that before long, she will be able to walk normally again. This is truly the best news possible," just as the nurse hoped. A faint smile appeared on her face. How beautiful she looks when she smiles. How charming and endearing she appears. How easily she could make someone fall for her. I knew that better than anyone else. So when I turned my head and saw the nurse's expression, my eyes flickered for a moment. Then I gave a cold laugh and spoke mockingly to Lin Wanwan. "You should hurry up and get discharged. That pile of stinky socks you've been hoarding for over 20 days. They're about to get moldy and reek to high heaven. I don't mean to criticize you. You look decent enough on the outside, but why are you so filthy, living with someone like you? I've truly had enough." Lin Wanwan stared at me with icy eyes. Seeing her about to say something, I quickly interrupted and continued. "What are you glaring at me for? Isn't everything I said the truth? Hey there, young man. You must remember this well. Don't just look at appearances when searching for a partner. Beauty won't put food on the table, and even if it could, it might not even taste good. Take my nominal wife here, for example. Marrying her has made me regret it to my very core. She's usually filthy, lives a messy, reckless life. She doesn't even know how to take care of herself. And on top of that, she isn't faithful at all." The male nurse's eyes widened in shock. Is this the kind of private drama he can just listen to for free? Infidelity in a relationship. Who could possibly bear that? You could say she has money and power, if infidelity could be overlooked, as long as she keeps paying the bills. But what if she catches a disease out there, and then comes back and gives it to me? Then tell me, is money more important, or is your life? The way I see it, you must find someone who is fully devoted to you. All that beauty stuff? When she's old, she'll just be a wrinkled old woman anyway. At that point, who's really going to be better looking than anyone else? As for having money or not, as long as you're hardworking and honest, and can support your family, that's enough." The male nurse stared blankly, trying to digest this massive amount of information. "Mu Chen, have you said enough already?" Lin Wanwan's voice was barely suppressing her rage. "I've said enough." I leaned back on the sofa again, then let out a long, exaggerated sigh. They say beautiful women are swindlers. Aren't pretty women just the same? When judging someone, you must never just look at the outside. Loving someone like her will only bring you misery. Saving one person's life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. I couldn't just stand by and watch this young man jump into the fire, but the words have already been said. If he still wants to dive headfirst into it, then there's nothing more I can do. All I can say is, everyone has their own fate. Lin Wanyuan stared at me with bloodshot eyes. Her rage had risen all the way to her throat. It felt like it would erupt the moment she opened her mouth. What do you mean, loving her is just suffering? Maybe before the rebirth, she really did hurt me. But after being reborn, what has she done wrong? Lin Wanyuan felt completely innocent. She felt a deep sense of grievance in her heart. But in my eyes, whether it was before or after rebirth, she was still the exact same person, and she was still the woman I utterly loathed. As such, an unbreakable knot had formed between us. Her wanting to fix our marriage was basically an impossible task. No one had ever said these things to the nurse before, not even his own parents. The level of shock he felt was imaginable. Inside his still naive head, he still dreamed of a perfect woman, who would pick him out of 10,000 people, and they would live happily ever after. I simply wanted to shatter his delusions, so that he could return to reality sooner. The truth is, there aren't that many perfect women, and even if there were, they might not bring happiness. Sir, my surname is Mu, and my given name is Chen, I replied with a gentle smile. Mr. Mu, thank you for telling me all this. The male nurse was naturally quite shy. He didn't know how to respond, so he just gave me a silly grin. I nodded in satisfaction. It was nothing. Continue changing my wife's dressing. Remember to be gentle. If you damage anything, it wouldn't be good if it affected her finding another man later. After hearing my words, the nurse's gaze immediately turned cold. He looked down at her with an unfriendly expression. Please rest assured, Mr. Mu. I am very professional. My movements will definitely be gentle. Lin Wanyuan's face darkened instantly. Her whole body radiated an intimidating aura. She intended to frighten the nurse, to make him stop acting up. Too bad no man likes a heartbreaker when facing a terrible woman. No matter how kind one's nature is, they become aggressive. So even though she looked scared, his movements while changing the dressing became much rougher. I couldn't tell if he was being petty or if it was her pride as a woman. Lin Wanyuan adamantly refused to let out a single groan. If not for her tightly furrowed brows, we would have truly thought she didn't feel pain anymore. Finished, the nurse tossed the old gauze into the bin. Make sure the wound absolutely doesn't get wet. Prepare for physical therapy this afternoon. Lin Wanyuan's face was grim. She said nothing. The nurse gave a soft, cold snort. He turned and strode out of the ward. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. He smiled at me and waved. I politely responded, with a reassuring smile on my face, just with a few lessons from me. His admiration for Lin Wanyuan had turned into disgust. I had pulled him back from the edge of the abyss. I felt a great sense of accomplishment. The nurse went out and closed the door. The sound of the door closing snapped Lin Wanyuan's strained nerves. They broke completely in an instant. Mu Chen, get over here right now. Her voice sounded calm, but I didn't go. Anyone who would go over there now is a fool. The veins on Lin Wanyuan's forehead were throbbing. I'm not angry with you. Come here quickly. I have something to tell you. Can't you say it from where I'm standing? I can't let anyone else hear. Is there even anyone else here? I seriously wondered if she'd been driven stupid by anger, even if she wasn't. If she wasn't stupid, she'd certainly lost her mind from rage. I told you to come here, so come here now. Lin Wanyuan finally couldn't hold back anymore. She growled at me through gritted teeth. I sat up from the sofa, grabbed a banana from the fruit platter, and retorted with a cold laugh. I'm just not coming over. Fine, you're good. Lin Wanyuan glared at me with pure malice. You better just wait and see. I paused while peeling the banana, instinctively shrinking my neck back a bit. Deep down, I was actually still a bit afraid of her. No one is not afraid of Lin Wanyuan. She had been a terrifying presence since childhood. Her thoughts were incredibly deep and unpredictable. Basically, no one could see through what she was thinking, and her personality was extremely eccentric. Anyone who crossed her met a bad end. After entering the business world, with her top-tier business mind, her sharp instinct for investments, and her swift, decisive actions, she became even more feared the moment her name was mentioned. I recalled the tactics she used against her enemies. Though I didn't want to admit defeat easily, I couldn't help but back down. Actually, you don't need to take it to heart. I was just teasing him a bit. You call casually slandering me teasing? Lin Wanyuan questioned back with an expressionless face. How did you get slandering from that? I definitely didn't. Don't just go making things up to frame me. I intended to keep playing dumb until the end. Lin Wanyuan gave a slight cold snort. That nurse clearly had feelings for me at first glance. You didn't want him to keep bothering me either. I'm just helping myself solve a problem. If I want to annoy someone, I can make them die of anger. But when I speak sweet words, I'm quite the smooth talker. She's been with me for so many days now. Plus, she can hear my inner thoughts. So she understands me somewhat. I've always been a glib talker. My tongue is incredibly sharp. It's very hard to win an argument against me. So she gave up on arguing with me. She turned away and closed her eyes. Then she spoke as if handing down a verdict. You just wait for it. Don't be like that, let's discuss this slowly. I quickly stood up and moved closer. I'm just the kind of person with a foul mouth. I'm sure you've realized that by now. Why are you still holding a grudge and getting mad? Lin Wanyuan looked at me coldly. It's exactly because I've realized it too much. You humiliate me without any hesitation, and yet I'm not allowed to be angry with you. What kind of bandit logic are you using? Bandit logic? I blinked innocently. Do I really do that? The more she looked at my innocent face, the more the fire of rage burned in her heart. I really do have a lot of nerve. Daring to run up to her face and be so arrogant. Why don't you be the bigger person and overlook it? Just pretend nothing happened, okay? A flattering smile spread across my face. I've lowered myself this much already. If you still pursue it, you're really not generous enough. Based on Lin Wanyuan's personality, plus her wanting to improve our relationship, once I've taken the initiative to back down, she normally wouldn't investigate further, but today, she was truly driven mad with anger. Her gaze suddenly became razor-sharp. She reached out to grab my arm. Sister Wanyuan, I've come to visit you. Just as her hand was about to touch me, a shrill voice rang out from the ward door. Lin Wanyuan's eyebrows slightly furrowed. A flash of dissatisfaction appeared on her face. Conversely, the smile on my face grew even brighter. I turned and nonchalantly flopped down on the hospital bed, watching Joe Zemo as he approached step by step. What a distinguished guest. Young Master Joe hasn't visited Wanyuan for days. Did you only just find some free time today? My ability to annoy people is truly superb. My very first sentence made him crumble. Young Master Mu, Sister Wanyuan doesn't like that way of address. His expression became extremely unsightly. And furthermore, when facing others, you should use a slightly more formal form of address. Oh, is that how it is? I raised an eyebrow in mock surprise. Thanks for the kind reminder, young Master Joe. After all, you're older than me, so your knowledge must be many times greater than mine. Can someone please come and sew this man's mouth shut? Joe Zemo took several deep, sharp breaths. Only then did he manage to barely keep his composure. Keep it together. Young Master Mu just hasn't studied the rules thoroughly. After learning more later, it'll naturally be fine. Those words were absolutely correct. I reached out and patted Lin Wanyuan's leg, then turned my head to look at him. No wonder people say my wife has an eye for people. You really are quite outstanding. Though calling her wife felt nauseating, but hearing it surely made these two feel even more disgusted. Just look at how vivid the expressions on their faces are. Joe Zemo, of course, couldn't stand to hear it. Lin Wanyuan didn't want to hear it because she knew. I didn't have a shred of sincerity. Knowing it was fake and heartless, hearing it only brought embarrassment and disgust. Mu Chen, can you give your mouth a rest for a moment? Lin Wanyuan questioned back through gritted teeth, strictly. What's wrong? Afraid it'll make your dream man feel wronged? You want to forcibly mute me, don't you? I huffed a few times with a look of displeasure. No matter what, I am still your legal husband. Furthermore, on that wedding night, I intentionally left the sentence hanging there. But the shy expression on my face was enough to make them understand what I was about to say. Both of their faces looked as pained as if they were constipated. So even if you like him in your heart, you shouldn't be so cruel and heartless to me, should you? Otherwise, you're really being too much. As I spoke, the rims of my eyes turned red. Who exactly did what to whom, I wonder? The two of them could only remain silent in helplessness. I'm a normal person too. Of course, I also felt this scene was awkward. Seeing that no one was paying any attention to me, I found it boring and smacked my lips a few times. Getting up from the hospital bed, I made an inviting gesture. You two feel free to be intimate. Just act like I'm not even here. With that, I stood to the side like a gatekeeper. Never mind whether they even wanted to be intimate. But even if they did have that intention, they couldn't possibly be intimate while I'm staring like this. Joe Zemo had never met anyone so difficult to handle. Usually, when men tried to approach Lin Wanyuan, he only needed a light touch to make them back off. He knew that this time, he'd met a real opponent to defeat me. He absolutely could not be impatient, but unfortunately, I was too good at provoking others, and too skilled at rubbing salt into others' wounds. So he just stared at me for a long time. Eventually, he couldn't help but speak up. Young Master Mu, since you know we are of one mind, could I ask you to show some mercy and let us be together? Let you two be together? Joe Zemo raised an eyebrow. That is exactly what I mean. You can't come and ask me about this. I reached out and patted the soft hospital bed. Just one word from Sister Wanyuan, and I will let you two be together immediately. Joe Zemo's eyes suddenly lit up. He looked urgently toward Lin Wanyuan, even though she'd been cold lately. And her attitude toward me was very strange. He still believed that she still loved him. How could she love him for so many years? And then just give it up so easily? She would definitely speak up and demand a divorce. He had absolute faith in that. Regrettably, that faith was shattered a moment later. Everything is fine. Why must we mention divorce? Lin Wanyuan asked back with a cryptic smile. I knew very well she didn't want a divorce right now. Joe Zemo definitely wouldn't get his wish. Thus, the smile on my face didn't fade at all. Joe Zemo finally realized this, but before receiving a clear answer, he hadn't grasped the severity yet. Now, he was fully aware. Sister Wanyuan, have you really fallen for him? Joe Zemo asked tremulously. That's not the case at all, she replied very decisively and quickly. Having said that, she turned her face in another direction. It was unclear if she loathed the question, or was trying to hide the panic in her heart. Joe Zemo's tense nerves suddenly relaxed. Then that's good. Hey, what exactly do you mean by that? What do you mean, then that's good? My eyes widened, looking incredibly angry. Let me make this clear to you. Even though I'm a person with moral standards and won't intentionally ruin your relationship, I won't reject her liking me either. When a third party appears in a relationship, everyone should just compete based on their own abilities. Who wants to use their ability to compete with you? Wanyuan and I were childhood sweethearts to begin with. Who's your childhood sweetheart? I let out a cold laugh, interrupting him. Joe Zemo, what I have to say can get much nastier than this. Do you want to listen closely? Joe Zemo's face was as ugly as it could be. He kept silent, not saying a word. I suddenly changed my expression, making it impossible for him to guess my thoughts. Surname Joe, huh? Let me see if there are any major Joe enterprises. I lightly tapped my chin with a finger, pretending to think very seriously. It seems there actually is one such family, but I recall President Joe only has one son. So, may I ask this habitually arrogant young master? Which family's young master are you, exactly? His face could no longer be described as merely unsightly. His 10 fingertips wouldn't stop trembling violently, his gaze fixed on me with a freezing chill. What exactly are you trying to say? You're nothing but a student sponsored by the Lin family, a poor boy coming out of the remote mountains. After I finished saying those words, it felt like all the frustration from a long time had been vented. Joe Zemo's face instantly turned deathly pale. His hands couldn't stop shaking uncontrollably. He forced a cold, strained smile. You are talking absolute nonsense. Sister Wanyuan, please don't believe a word he says. He's just jealous of our beautiful feelings, I retorted without showing any mercy. Am I talking nonsense? Just go check the Lion family's sponsorship records, then want everything become clear? Lin Wanyuan's expression suddenly turned very ugly. She's an incredibly elite businesswoman. How could she not see the guilt in his heart? She took a deep breath and spoke coldly. Joe Zemo, tell me the truth. Is what he said actually true? Joe Zemo was so terrified his legs went weak. His eyes were panicked. He completely lacked the courage to look her in the eye. It's not like that, Sister Wanyuan. My feelings for you are sincere. It's all because he's intentionally driving us apart. He hurriedly tried to grab Lin Wanyuan's hand, but she ruthlessly flung him off. Lin Wanyuan's gaze was bone-chillingly cold. Don't you dare touch me with those filthy hands of yours. Get out! I don't want to see you ever again. Seeing Lin Wanyuan be this heartless. Joe Zemo's mask of deception completely shattered. He screamed out with a hideous face. You rich people always act so superior. Why should I always have to grovel and flatter you? Before he could continue his outburst, the bodyguards waiting outside the door burst in and directly dragged him out of the ward. The ward returned once more to a deathly silence. Lin Wanyuan looked as though she'd had all her strength drained. With an exhausted face, she leaned back against the bed. She turned to look at me, the one leisurely watching the show. A flash of intense regret flickered in her eyes. Did you know his true colors all along? I nonchalantly peeled a tangerine. That's right. I saw through him a long time ago. It's just that before you simply wouldn't believe me. So, was this play worth watching? The rims of Lin Wanyuan's eyes instantly turned red. Muchen, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we please not get a divorce? I will make it up to you properly. I stood up and brushed the dust off my hands, pulled the prepared documents from my bag, and gently placed them on her hospital bed. Everything is already too late. This is the divorce agreement, already signed by me. From now on, our paths diverge. We have nothing more to do with each other. Recover well, I'm leaving. I didn't bother to look back at her even once, firmly turning around and leaving the ward. From behind came the sound of her muffled sobbing, but there was not a single ripple in my heart anymore. Stepping out of this suffocating hospital. The sunlight outside was warm and radiant. A familiar car was parked by the roadside. Mu Xiaobei pushed the car door open and waved to me. Brother, the whole family is here to take you home. Chu Huilan and Mu Liheng were sitting inside. Their faces were filled with kind, gentle smiles. I strode confidently toward them, throwing all the bad memories of the past behind me. A happy life that belongs only to me has just begun.